Unfortunately, my hand is not good. Let's see here. All right, I'm gonna play.
Halo! O, jest. Witajcie oczywiście w Day 2 Portland. Niestety Day 1 nie było, no bo byłam na OTP. Nie udało mi się niestety Day 2 zrobić. W ogóle talia mi się zacinała. Ale pierwszy raz nie taki zły był. Mógł być gorszy zdecydowanie. No, okazuje się, że nawet ktoś przegrał wszystkie rundy. Ale ogólnie tak. No tutaj akurat chyba zmieniono taktykę, bo po prostu komentatorzy postanowili sobie chyba dla tego fanu najzwyczajniej w świecie no pograć sobie tak casualowo. No to mamy nawet takie casualowe. To mi wygląda na taki format bez... Przynajmniej się ciekawie ogląda. No. Patrzcie jak komentatorzy sobie grają. Zagramy zagram z Cyphermaniac.
As long as you don't have a way to like draw those cards, it should be okay.
No, to są talie idealne na te single prize'owe, bo są takie formaty. No, to jest oczywiście Portland. Są to ostatnie regionalsy, jakie oczywiście się odbywają na ten moment. Potem mamy oczywiście NACA, oczywiście w Nowym Orleanie, który to otwiera nowy dodatek Destiny Rivals, który no już niedługo ma premierę w sumie, więc lepiej się spieszyć. Jakby na to nie patrzeć. Więc tak. I potem długo nic, tak? Dopiero oczywiście w Anaheim zaczyna się robić ciekawie, tak?
I'll bench Chimchar and then I'll use stick and draw to discard a card from my hand, getting rid of Larry's skill to draw 2 cards.
Ale wydaje takie talie niedzielne można powiedzieć. Rzecz... No dobra, zastanawiam się, bo w sumie chciałabym sobie... No w sumie no, też chyba też powodem było troszkę to, że no po prostu się nie rozgrzałem, tak. No moja akurat jest, wiecie, bo jak się jest się nieco rozgrzanym, no to też idzie lepiej, tak. No a tak widzicie jak to jest, jak nie ma rozgrzewki. Ciekawe czy jest coś o... No to jest, tak, bo ja mam tutaj... Niestety czwartej części nie było, ale patrzyłam na Allegro, ona kosztuje tak z 35 zł, więc czwórkę to kupimy i piątkę też. Mamy całe Devil May Cry. Tak. Swoją drogą to jest najtańsza HD Collection na PS3 jaka jest, bo ona kosztuje, ona mnie zapowiedziała 120 zł, a niektóre z nich potrafią już. Więc jest to jedna z rzadszych przypadłości, kiedy mamy tu 3-cyfrową wartość gry na PS3. Ale tak pomyśleć, tu mamy Devil May Cry. Czasami tęsknię za czasami, kiedy były te papierowe instrukcje, takie z pełnej krwi i kości. To jest rzecz, która czasem brakuje. Okej, może to nie jest jakaś gruba księga, ale w instrukcji nawet jest przedstawiany na przykład bohater, na przykład Dante, czy jest Tris. Ciekawe, czy jest też ten królik, no. Znaczy akurat anime jest inne. Tu mamy oczywiście Devil May Cry 3, Dante's Awakening, Devil May Cry, Virgin, no, Lady. Nie, to nie jest czasem, no bo tak, to szkoda, że nie mam, to jest dwójka, tak, dwójka, Dante Together, jakieś zarysy, trójka, no podobno dwójka jest słaba, ale wiecie, Metal Gear Solid 2 też był słaby, a jednak coś nim było. Ale widać, jak fajnie się ogląda takie bardziej niedzielne, odmiany takie, no to zabawy, tak?
Chip has his grim snarl ready to go.
To be continued! Rokowa tej muzyczki tego. Tak, to było dobre to be continued, więc no nie, no. Tak, no jest Dante. A, jest Lady. Ja nie wiem, czy ona też miała tą hipoforię. Wiecie, to jest ta... Bo ta postać w anime ma tak różne tęczówki, bo to jest genetyczne. Ale jeszcze trzeba kupić czwórkę, ja sprawdzałem czwórkę, ona nie jest dobra. Czyli na przykład robienie z PS trójką na przykład, no bo tam teraz Nintendo zakazuje programowania i piracenia gier, Ale wiecie, no na PS3 ma sens modowanie tej konsoli z tego powodu, że bardzo rzadko są tytuły z wartością 3-cyfrową, raczej są. To jest akurat gra za 120, czyli to jest tak bardzo tania kolekcja HD. No na Allegro ona też jest poniżej 100, akurat też do zgarnięcia. Znaczy ja to kupiłem w lokalnym sklepie z grami, bo otworzyli nowy sklep z grami, no bo GameSpot już się zawideło ostatnie serii. Ale ogólnie jeśli chodzi o ten nowy sklep z grami, który jest na Mikołowskiej, on jest zajebisty. Tam jest dużo rzeczy, powiem szczerze, że no dają też ten Monster Hunter za 300 by. Tylko no właśnie. No i to jest ten Devil May Cry, tak. No zastanawiam się, czy teraz się będziemy zajmować. No, tam jest trylogia ogólnie. W jednym pudełku mam trylogię, więc no ale to są konwersje z PS2 ogólnie. No tak samo jak mamy, no wiecie, to jak ja robię z ciekawości.
It's for this, just the pass. Penny's there. It's over. Fernando Cifuentes has found it.
You've been patient. You've been waiting all this time, but you ready. You've been putting in that grind, so let's go. Champions are hard to find, but you know the goal when you're ready to shine. Have they heard of you? Then they know. You got your sights set on that road. If it's on the battle, then let's go. 'Cause you'll never stop. Show 'em what you got.
Stays asleep. Plus all that onto a Mugen. Is that enough? It is! Jump across Captain defeats Ultra.
Show 'em what you got. Yeah, they already know. You got your sights set on victory road. Show 'em what you got. Yeah, they already know. You got your sights set on victory road.
Gets the look down. Can you look down the wish cash where he has a little bit of health left? Oh! What HP left. I know.
Show 'em what you got. Yeah, they already know. You got your sights set on victory road. Show 'em what you got. Yeah, they already know. You got your sights set on victory road. Put your hands.
Welcome in to day 2 of our Pokemon trading card game competition here in Portland, Oregon. The field has slimmed down quite a bit. 2 Swiss rounds already done today, and just 2 more Swiss rounds remain until we'll see who will be in our top cut, who will be fighting it out to become our Portland regional champion. My name is Chipper G, joined here in the lounge to kick off the show by Kyle, Puka, Sukovic, Emily, Lyric Foreman, and Adam Skarzig Watson. I gotta say, I'm feeling a little left out. I'm the only one here who doesn't have a cool little nickname, you know? I thought your nickname was Chip. Chip, yeah, that works, I guess.
Chip in quotes Chip. Richie, there you go.
Trainer Chip,
Bring back
Richie.
Trainer Chip.
The OG. Only the old G's know. Well, a great day we had yesterday, and a great day we're looking forward to here today. Just a couple hundred players left in the field, and already some of those players have been eliminated from Top Cut with the first 2 Swiss rounds we've had.
Well, honestly, Chip, if it's one deck that hasn't been eliminated from the Top Cut, it's the potential of seeing Toad Scroll EX still going strong inside of this tournament. But of course, Dragapult not too far behind as well, along with its friend Raging Bolt too.
Speaking of that Toad Scroll EX, one of the highlights from yesterday, without a doubt, has to have been getting to feature this unknown archetype coming into this tournament on the broadcast. Kyle, you had the opportunity to cast this game. Talk to us about, you know, what this deck is aiming to do and how Ray Chin has started off so strong in this tournament.
Yeah, it's a pretty straightforward deck. You're just trying to get a bunch of grass energy in play and attack. Toad Scroll EX's attack does more damage for each of your benched Pokemon that has grass energy on it. And so you just use the Teal Mask Ogerpon EX Teal Dance to get energy on a bunch of Pokemon. You can move energy around with the energy switch. You can use Area 0 Underdepths to expand your bench to 8 and really maximize how much damage you can do. It's a really simple deck, but it's kind of fun to watch play out.
Absolutely, and Adam is someone who I know enjoys playing kind of off-meta stuff, a little bit of the rogue decks. I mean, I'm sure you appreciated getting to see Ray Chin show what this deck could do on stream.
Yeah, players always love to take these big risks sometimes for tournaments just to find whatever edge they can to counter the metagame. And we've seen Toad Scroll, you know, teched into decks with Slime Mold Colony, trying to counter Golden Go and just recovery cards in general. But seeing this evolve into a whole new archetype is maybe something we can look forward to in the future.
We'll be keeping our eye on Ray through the rest of the tournament, as well as many of our other players. And speaking of players, I think we're getting ready to get into our next Swiss round very, very soon. Be sure to tune in to Pokemon.com/broadcasts. Check it out. That's where you can see all the information for our upcoming live streams. You're never going to want to miss one of those shows. And be sure to follow us on all of the various social media channels using that hashtag #PlayPokemon so we can stay up to date with what's going on here in the tournament. Let us know who you're rooting for and who you're hoping to see become the regional champion today. It's been a great
Classic
opening.
Collection
It's been a
Devil
great
May
day,
Cry.
and I'm excited to see what else we're going to have
Splinter
through the rest
Cell
of this event.
Trilogy.
Let's get over to the caster desk and get into our next Swiss round.
Kurde, jeszcze dodatkowo
What a
jest
beautiful morning for some
Polska.
Pokemon TCG action. We're already halfway
Jeszcze
through
pudełko
day number
po
2, where we've got 2 more
polsku.
Swiss rounds, and then get into
No
our
tam.
top 8 asymmetrical cut. Kyle,
ale
this is what
to
it comes
dobra.
down to. The last regional, the
Znaczy,
hype could not be more.
Sprinter Cell to były
I mean, these
hardkorowe.
players are they're competing for it all at this point,
Tak,
trying
to
to be
dopiero
the
była
final
nadziana
regional
instrukcja.
champion here in North America.
A
Got a
jeszcze
great
mam
opportunity.
Killzone, no
They
jeszcze
need a
jestem
very
Killzone.
good record to
Jeden
get the
rok
job
mimo
done.
to
There's no more
Co
wiggle
robi?
room here. You need to continue to win to find your way into that top cut.
With less rounds
jeszcze
means
Shadow
an
Fall, on
even more
jest
stellar
drogi.
record. You have to have 9,
No właśnie,
1,
to
and
jest
2
ten problem
looks
z
like,
PS,
potentially
bo nawet
29
zdarzają
match
się nawet
points is
kolekcje właśnie
historically
HD,
for
te
these 8 and 4
remasterowane.
round
No
tournaments,
tutaj
8
chyba
rounds
to
yesterday,
jest stara
4
cena
Swiss rounds total
50 i
today.
obecnie tak,
If you can get
ta
to
gra
those 29
kosztuje.
match points, you're going to be in a solid spot for asymmetrical cut, but it's really going to be those
Chciałbym to
players who know what that
sprawdzić.
top record, X1-1, X0-2. If you can get there and avoid that asymmetrical cut, we've talked about this before on the cast.
A zaraz
that
przejdziemy
jump in terms
oczywiście
of
do
points
kolejnego
and
meczyku,
payout
więc
from top
tutaj
16
będzie
to
nuda.
top 8, it is tremendous, and
Z
it is a
ciekawości
huge gap.
sprawdzę.
Well, we have 2 players ready to do just that. 8-1-1 records moving into
Yeah.
this round with a chance to add
Ile
even more.
kosztuje?
Let's take it to the table, see who we've got.
Okej, już mamy
No
Johna
stranger to
Enga
the Portland star-studded stage,
versus
last year's champion,
Steven
John Eng,
Udong.
playing
Tak,
another
John
Dragon-type
Eng,
Pokemon that has
który
been
jest
at the
wierny
forefront of the
Dragapultowi.
metagame.
Czy ciekawe,
Dragapult
czy jest
EX
wierny
paired
Pultowi z
with that
duchami?
small but powerful Budew Itchy Pollen. We're gonna have to see if
No
Steven
i
is
mamy
what it takes
Stevena
with
Younga,
essentially another
który gra
powerhouse of
Raging
the
Boltem.
format,
No,
Raging
akurat
Bolt
jest to,
EX
no
paired
się
with that
zmienił
teal
trochę
mascot.
ten matchup.
Yeah, we've seen a
No, ogólnie trzeba...
absolute
Z
wild
duchami
increase
gra!
in the
Ja
Raging
widziałem
Bolt
duszki.
numbers
Mi się
recently
wydaje...
after the win
Czy ja
in
dobrze
Milwaukee
myślę, że on
from
jak
Crystal Bella.
wierny duchom, tak jak
Just
Andrew
gonna continue
Hendricks?
at this point. It is such a powerful deck, and having
Oj.
that versatility of the
O,
baby
jaki fajny
Raging Bolt
Garchomp.
has been something
Sama
that's
bym
very
chciał
beneficial
takiego.
in matchups like this.
So we'll see as these players get set up what their opening hands and options look like. You see another Dragon-type Pokemon on the stage, Garchomp, you know, next set in that Destined Rivals, it could come and maybe show some surprise. It's not a Dragon-type card, it is of course fighting, but for now we'll look towards the present as these Pokemon players put their prizes out.
Ooh.
We do see a couple of interesting pieces here. You know, that Area 0 Under Depths, only 2 copies in the list here, so having one of those in the prize cards, this is a big advantage of this Noctowl deck, expanding the bench to give yourself more options to put these support Pokemon into play.
Yeah, the opportunity to have all these different resources, the additional Hoot Hoots so you can evolve into Noctowl, Jewel Seeker for all those resources. Going to be missing out on a little of that potentially there for John. An entire line of Dragapult EX and one of his 2 Duskull is a little unfortunate there for him.
So this will be a very interesting approach. These 2 decks do essentially their thing very differently, but very well. Slow and steady for Dragapult, extreme control, and that speed of Steven using that Raging Bolt deck. We'll see how these players clash, but for now, they'll show what they've got on the table. Round number 11, big match. A win for either of these players puts them in essentially guaranteed contention for this asymmetrical top cut. As Steven gets things started off with an Earthen Vessel, can check the deck and see what pieces are available.
Yeah, very important for Steven to make use of these item cards as early as possible. He knows he's up against a deck that loves to center around that Budew as its engine. You slow down your opponent, you avoid all of those additional item cards being played. And that's really how the ball gets rolling for Steven. He needs to see energies in the discard pile. He needs to see his Pokemon probably need to see a Fan Rotom as well.
Yeah, and an interesting inclusion in this Raging Bolt list. We see it discarded immediately, that Blood Moon Ursaluna. How has that card really found its way into Raging Bolt? It never really saw play in the Radiant Greninja Pokestop version. Is Blood Moon kind of just the new wave with this deck?
It's starting to slowly make its way into play. It's just sometimes you just run out of resources. You use all of your energies to take these big knockouts on Pokemon that have 320 hit points on the other side, like a Dragapult, and then when they have that final play, they use that unfair stamp, they bring you down, you just don't have any resources left. Maybe you just need the help of the Blood Moon to get it done.
Help indeed on Steven's side, not present on this first turn. No Fan Rotom, a huge part of this engine for the deck, using Fan Call on turn 1 to get out all of your support Pokemon, Hoothoots, and even the Ditto, not present on Steven's side, and just an attachment to this Raging Bolt and passing things over. Like you mentioned, Kyle, not capitalizing off of item cards, and additionally, not being able to get basics is going to be so much more difficult when you can't use a card like Buddy Buddy Poffin, which John presently has in that hand, or even a Nestor Ultra Ball.
Yeah, and I think there's a little more to this hand as well. It looked like he had another Buddy Buddy Poffin to go in this hand. Potentially a supporter like an Iono, but that's not the one you want. We'll see if he has some other options here. But as long as this turn ends with Badoo in the active spot using Itchy Pollen, you feel pretty good that you'll slow down your opponent and buy yourself a few more turns to get set up.
It is that Iono as the supporter in hand. You know, your opponent isn't sitting on any of those key Pokemon. They would have clearly hit the bench, things like Teal Mask Ogerpon, the Hoothoot, but at minimum, a pair of Buddy Buddy Poffin means John can just fill this bench up with a ton of these basic Pokemon, mainly those Dreepy, and once your Cloak gets into play, the gears really start turning.
Yeah, there's so much potential. Recon Directive, the best ability that this deck really loves to feature. It's why you don't see many these players focused on rare candy builds. They just want to see these Stage 1 Pokemon draw as many cards as possible, and it feels a little bit like Refinement Curly of the days.
So second Buddy Buddy Poffin will grab the Badoo. Itchy Pollen, cannot stress enough how impactful this card is at slowing the game down, putting players onto an even playing field, which John would love to have be slow, steady, and give him those time to get your Cloaks into play. But there is still a piece missing here. No way to move this Monkey Dory at the current moment. Is going to have to rely off of Iono to find 6 cards from the top of the deck, both players shuffling their hands, putting them onto the bottom. And ideally, even something like a rescue board could be a great piece, and lots of solid pieces found in this hand. Energy and a switch, even if John chooses to.
Yeah, first card in the window is the switch. It's so beneficial to have that card. It's only, what, 7 energies that are featured in this list, so often you're going to miss out on that. But with the Earthen Vessel, has the energy, could attach this to a Pokemon, and then also use his switch, start to build up a threat, and maybe have an answer to this Raging Bolt in the coming turns.
And that is the key here for John, is do you commit to using the switch, or do you value getting energy attachments down? And I feel like, you know, anytime you're playing against a Raging Bolt deck specifically, you've always got to fear that baby Raging Bolt for just being able to start picking off your Cloak, even after a slower start like this.
Yeah, there's a small window that he does have now, just seeing that there wasn't too much going on Steven's side of the board, so potentially could just play into promoting that Badoo, using this Pokemon as an unfortunate sacrifice, but it's well worth it. One extra turn of avoiding those item cards could be the complete difference of a setup.
So Earthen Vessel grabbing the pair of Energy, Psychic, and Fire, both needed for that attack cost for Dragapult EX, and we will see Switch be played. Energy committed to the Dreepy on the bench, and this is Dragapult's MO. Itchy Pollen, slow the game down. Fan Rotom found, but there's really nothing else going in this hand, and, you know, after turn 1, Fan Call can't do anything. It's just going to be an immediate play of the Iono. Steven under item block, he's going to have to find one of these 3 Fighting Energy just from the top 6 cards. Otherwise, this Raging Bolt EX is not going to be able to take a knockout on any Pokemon for that matter, and does find it. That's a big find here for Steven.
Yeah, he's got some decisions to make, though. If this hand doesn't get any better, is this a Burst Roar kind of turn? Like, how do you compete with this? He's just going to take the knockout here on the Badoo, try to stay in contention with the prize cards, but all he's finding are these items, and there's potential for more Badoo shenanigans here.
Yeah, and look at this here. John actually finding that rescue board and the Night Stretcher as well, so Itchy Pollen is immediately back online the following turn and can also preserve the energy card, not needing to retreat it, thanks to that rescue board reducing that retreat cost by 1 on that Dreepy.
Oh, well, he did not find the the Dracloak to go along with this, but did run into the unfair stamp. So potential for a little disruption here and a setup. He's going for it, and this is wild. Steven already down on a 2-card hand on the second turn of the game.
Sometimes, you know, you may want to hold this unfair stamp for later, but like you mentioned, no Dracloak in the hand for John, so there essentially was no option. If you're missing Dracloak, this deck is slow and steady. No rare candy in this list, just wants to evolve the traditional, old-fashioned way up into Dragapult EX, and with that being the case, you've got to find these stage 1s, and ideally, a pair of them here, big 5 cards, and no, does not find any Dracloak. It's going to have to just retreat into Badoo, and that means, at a minimum, Steven will be safe for another turn from using Phantom Dive. Big cards here. Nothing really going on.
He got the wrong energy. He's looking at his discard pile and says, oh no, we picked the wrong one. But it's just the luck of the draw. They're missing out, and it is a burst roar turn. He just needs a new hand. And as you mentioned before, with the Area 0 underdepths, he now has none of those to focus on for the rest of the game.
No Area 0 at the moment. Bench will be stuck to just 5. May feel a little bit congested and trapped during the game. John's going to start opening things up with this Jock, grabbing double Dracloak. Now that Recon Directive is online, now that things have sort of come to a standstill on Steven's side, sure, he's drawn 6 cards, but at most, he'll only be at a 2-prize lead, and John's board is just looking so strong. He's got energy on several different Pokemon, can start to funnel through the deck with Recon Directive, and really execute a strategy in these upcoming turns.
This is going so well for John at this point. He's got his setup. It's slower than he anticipated.
Racja, dziękuję za miód. Rzeczywiście tak. Wjechał Jacek i wjechały 2 Dracloaki. Kupię sobie czas. No i kolejny. Co ciekawe, mamy Mankidori. Bo chyba zaczynam z Mankidori. Albo Mankidori akurat w tym matchupie jest niepotrzebny. No i zobaczymy, dobra, sprawdzamy. No tu mamy to Jamming Tower, który wyłączył deskę. No, Counter Capture, okej. Keyboard już załatwił. No i Ichipolem. No jest łyczka. Tylko problem polega na tym, że nie ma. A jak tam wczoraj grałaś? Tak, no i mi nie wyszło, powiem szczerze. Z tego powodu, że no mi się deck odmówił posłuszeństwa. Jeszcze i właśnie mam jeden chyba z tych graczy. Okej, widzę, że Steven Young poddał grę i pierwszą rundę wygrywa John Eng. No właśnie, bo był knockdown, tylko nie było Ogerpona. Chyba już nawet nie trzeba nawet. A, nie doszło i tak dobrze, ale mogło być gorzej, ale fakt, jest to też pierwsze OTP i tyle. Więc może zobaczymy, gdzie on będzie, bo nie dość, że OTP jest gdzie indziej, to jeszcze jest w różnych porach, więc bo w Szczecinie to na przykład było, jak był legalny Shrubble Table, więc no tutaj nie ma tak jakby skonkretyzowanej po prostu daty OTP. I w ogóle jest OTP, tylko że no nie jest tak regularnie jakoś w konkretny dzień. One też są różne dni. No i też różne miejsca i to też zależy. No i też właśnie, no i to jest właśnie ten cały problem troszeczkę. No jeżeli będzie w momencie, kiedy mnie zaś nie będzie, no to raczej można sobie odpuścić. Więc tak. Na pierwszą rundę tutaj John Eng wygrał. Nawet nie musiał Dragapulta rozstawiać. Wystarczy ten hut z 2, no. Ten hut z 2 retreatu jest podły, powiem szczerze. Ale tak, jest to wersja z duchami, dodano Mankidori, Lumowski, Szczecin i pan Mysza to skam. No, Szczecin jest bardzo daleko, to jest akurat cały take. No, tym bardziej, że akurat jeśli chodzi, no w tym roku akurat OTP było u nas, w Gliwicach. I tutaj te nagrody akurat oddają, no i z czego co wiem wygrał pan Dirlica, który grał Dragapultem. To dosyć ciekawym, bo oczywiście jest kaktus. No, w Stanach akurat nie wiem, czy grają z kaktusy. No i co ciekawe, Iron Torf, czyli właśnie Slowpool spotkał się z Torsopultem.
has a pretty fair understanding that he needs a threat in the active spot for Badoo.
A może to był Tort Sop. Okej.
So what does Steven
No.
have to work with here? It looks like there is an Ultra Ball.
Tym
again. So
razem
at
widzę, że
minimum,
Steven
we
zaczął
will be able to see
pierwszy,
Fan Rotom
więc
grab a
okej.
wide assortment of basic
On
Pokemon,
zdecydował, bo
colorless
przegrany
Pokemon
zawsze
out of the deck.
decyduje.
We'll actually start things
No
off
ale
with Earthen
chyba
Vessel,
to,
so just
chociaż
getting
z
rid of this
drugiej
grass energy,
strony, biorąc pod
searching through
uwagę
the deck,
to, że
becoming aware
jest
of what
pewna
pieces are in there,
obawa,
and more
że jak
importantly,
kuźwa nie
also
użyje
grabbing
Wesela i
energy,
jest
which will be
dupa.
great targets off of something like Ultra Ball.
Yeah, we see a unique inclusion in the hand, the one copy of Iono, which is not always
Znaczy, jeśli
featured
chodzi o
in a deck
Szczecin, to
like
jest
this.
cholera
It's known
daleko.
for its aggression. You want to have max copies of your Professor
A dwa
Sadas,
chyba
a
mnie
fair
chyba...
amount of Crispin to help out in that early game and accelerate those
No, a poza tym
energies.
chyba też
Instead he has
pamiętam,
that
że Brzezik na
Iono.
streamie się trochę tak
Maybe not the card
denerwował
you're looking for here, but
niektórymi
any
decyzjami
draw
sędziów. Na
over the
przykład
next
chyba
few turns would be nice.
sędziowie nie dopuścili na
So
przykład
see what
użycia
Steven decides to
Prankachera,
do
mimo
this
iż
turn. I believe
był
there's actually a pair
on
of Ultra
użyty
Balls
zgodnie.
in the hand. So with Fan Rotom
Więc no,
Ground,
Brzezik
we can grab
też
a
tutaj
whole
raczej nie
variety
był
of basic
zadowolony
Pokemon, and
z
this is one of your faster picks for
zeszłorocznego.
the weekend.
No.
Ditto,
Te
this could be
nagrody,
a
z tego
card,
co
you
widziałem,
know,
to
that
też
finally gets
raczej
that guaranteed
nie
Terra
były tak
Pokemon into
obfite.
play, which we saw was a big piece missing for Steven in that
No
first
tak,
game.
widzę,
Sometimes you
że
just need to
chyba jest ten
transform into a
strach.
guy with a long
Znaczy
neck,
widać, że ręka
17
całkiem
feet.
dobra.
It is an absolute monster, and the Raging Bolt has been unbelievable in so many different matchups, and surely expect to
Widzę,
see
że
that
będzie
Pokemon
Fan
as early
Rotom.
as possible.
No,
Will be the
widzę,
Fan
że
Rotom
Fan Rotom,
using
nie wiem
Fan
czy
Call
Master
to grab
Ballu,
3
czy
of
w
these
Pokeballu?
colorless
Fan
Pokemon,
Rotom.
100 HP
Tylko
or
pamiętaj,
less.
w każdej chwili
Noctowl,
może
pretty
być
obvious choice
jebnięta
for the following
Iono.
turn. Jewel Seeker will be an option available
Chyba
as
będzie
long as
grany
there's a Terra
Ditto,
Pokemon. Ditto can fulfill that role. The second
żeby
Pokemon
właśnie
grabbed, and
zmienić
we'll see one
albo
more
nogę.
Pokemon
On
get
robi
selected.
serię
Could be that
turniejów,
Hoot,
czy
could
nadal
be,
robi
you
w
know, another
Wawie
Noctowl down the line.
kopaprykarz,
Steven
ale
looking like
nagrody
having a
mega
lot
słabe,
better of a
wpisowe
setup in the
ogromne.
second game.
Yeah, we see Ditto with that splup attack. Likely not the choice we'll go with. Transformative start is typically where we're moving,
No
and
akurat,
it is
okej, czyli
pretty
tutaj jest
phenomenal.
kolejny
One of the
Rotom.
better
To
abilities.
wystawiamy Ditto,
Of
żeby
course,
właśnie
you can only
albo
use it
będzie
on the
ten
first
Baby
turn,
Bolt,
and you have to be in the active
albo
spot,
będzie
but
ten
there's
taram,
plenty to go with this hand.
ten
Sure,
Ogerpon.
we'll see the Hoot moving soon.
And so grabbing this Fan Rotom as sort of fodder for this Ultra Ball, just wanted an extra
Chyba,
card to
że...
discard from the
Chyba na
hand
pewno
slash
będzie,
deck.
co,
We'll be
co
grabbing this
Latias?
Latias
Okej.
instead, and really it looks like valuing just having an
Lecimy z
attachment down
Ogerponem?
onto one of these
A nie,
Pokemon,
będzie
and
Baby
instead
Bolt.
is
O
actually
ja,
going to go
Baby
into, like
Bolt.
you said, the long neck boy, Raging Bolt, non-EX coming into play.
No,
Yeah,
to
I
jest
think that just
mora,
goes
jak
to
wejdzie
show how
Shaymin, no
important
to
it
to
is
takie
have
proste
this
nie
energy
będzie.
attached to this Pokemon. You want to threaten dealing 90 damage to the bench on turn 2.
No,
You
tym
need
bardziej,
to
że
knock out
akurat w
Dreepy
tym
as soon
roku
as
do wygrania
possible,
był
and it's
właśnie
more
Johnny
likely
Together
this way.
X
You have a
chęć,
chance
więc...
now to see either Crispin
No
or the
nieciekawa
Sada
ręka,
to help out in
stronę
deal 9.
trochę Enga.
And on John's side does have Arven, but there's really not a lot else going on in the hand. You know, you could grab a combination of cards,
znaczy
something like
też-
Buddy Buddy Poffin
mhm.
and a Rescue Board, but that would only get you one Dreepy in play if you want to use Itchy Pollen, and
Dobra,
now
no w
you
Wawie nie
have to kind of
jestem.
consider which options are
Aha,
best to
tutaj
go
jeden
for.
budewa.
Is
Człowiek też
item
wygra
lock as
zazwyczaj. Dwa.
valuable of a position
Będzie
to
nie najgorsze,
apply
tylko
into
ta
your
ręka.
opponent
To
this
start
turn
jest troszeczkę
compared to their setup?
taki,
That's a
no,
big
nieciekawy
question.
plus.
Getting one Dreepy down, especially when your opponent has that Raging Bolt in the active, it's just so scary.
Yeah, it's a little demoralizing to
Szkoda,
figure
że
out what your
grają tam
opponent could
kaktusika
do,
jak u
knowing
nas
that
w
they
Europie.
already have access to
No
that
kaktusik
knockdown. Now, sure, we
ratuje,
don't see
no.
a Terra Pokemon just yet, but you can assume that your
Aczkolwiek trzeba to
opponent is
powiedzieć, że to
gonna
jest
have a
wersja z
resource for
duchami,
that.
co oznacza, że
It
jest
would be nice to have
potencjalne
an item
candy
lock, but ultimately,
możliwe.
if you lose your lone copy of
Znaczy,
Dreepy at this
widząc
stage,
chyba
you're gonna
tego...
be in for a world of hurt.
So just checking through the deck, we'll see what pieces are prized. We saw a pair of Iono in the prizes, one of those Badoo, but John
Myślę,
does
że to
value
Latias
Itchy
też może
Pollen, does
utrudniać
play two
gaz.
copies
Na
in the
pewno
deck.
weźmie Buddy
So
Buddy
Buddy Buddy
Poffin.
Poffin, and then we'll
Chyba
have to
weźmie
see which
deseczkę, żeby
tool
można
card,
było jakoś
most likely
wycofać z tego
something like the
bażonka.
Rescue Board, does also have that
No i tu
luxurious
trzeba się
piece that could
zastanowić, czy
potentially
opłaca nam
protect
się...
one of these Dreepy against
Czy
something like
Luxury
the
Cape?
Raging Bolt, and is just gonna go and
No,
double check
no
to see
tutaj
where the
John
map
Eng
is at.
czyta, no Bolt
Would bump
robi
it out
takie
out of a pretty
sniping,
solid
ten baby.
range. You do
I
always still
widzę,
have
że
to be
będzie
afraid
chyba
of
Luxury
something like
Cape na
Prime
jednego
Catcher if you're not
z
using an item
Dreepy.
lock as well.
Yeah,
Właśnie
you could
chyba
run into a few different avenues.
muszę chyba
We know
zacząć
that
używać
one
Cape'a,
copy
bo
of Jamming
Bravery
Tower is
Charm,
also
no
in the deck, so
faktycznie
if
ono
Steven
nie
were able to
zawsze
find that,
wystarcza.
you could still knock out a lone copy of Dreepy. So a lot to consider here for John.
Już się
He's
przekonałam.
mulling over plenty of options. It might
Chyba
not
już
be
ten
the
Cape
typical
będzie
strategy you're
standardny,
used to
no
here.
tylko sobie go poszukam.
big decision here for John. Which 2 Pokemon to grab off this Buddy Poppin?
Okej,
And it looks like it's essentially Operation Protect the Dreepy. Gonna have the hero's cape, or
No
rather,
tutaj
excuse
chyba
me,
będzie ciekawie,
luxurious
bo
cape
zapewne
to
możliwe,
buff the
że cape
HP
będzie
up,
nastawiony
try and
na
put it out of range,
Dreepiego,
make
żeby
it
właśnie
as
został aż
difficult as
tak szybko
possible to knock out.
zwanshotowany.
And right off the back of Itchy Pollen, John understands you have to apply at least some
No raczej
disruption.
Baby Ball to
Otherwise,
jest
Raging
ciężko
Bolt will just
naładować,
run
to
away
trzeba
with the game.
przyznać.
In the hand, we did see as the unfair stamp again, so a potential for that turn 2 reset if one of these Pokemon were to fall. You could see the Badoo knocked out early if Steven
Jest
wishes
tak, mamy
to
Dreepiego, mamy
cash in on that
Budewa.
prize card, remove that item lock from play.
Znaczy chyba wiecie, bo
there's
na
always
przykład
that
chyba
chance then that John
przeciwnik
gets to
z
rebuild
Real
from there.
Boltem, no on chciał bardziej... O, dobra,
So
to
energy
jest
attached,
ten
luxurious
cape, tu
cape,
mamy
and does commit
switcha.
the switch early on again.
Itchy
Itchy Pollen, 10 damage. Onto
O
you,
tak,
Steven. No
zaczyna
items
być
at the
dupa.
disposal.
No jest
Best of all
Premcatcher,
time. That would have been great
kurde,
to turn
zostało mi
for,
tylko
but we're gonna
Iono.
have to see
No tak, i
another
też był ten
early
knockdown, tylko
Iono, and
no
John is
niestety
more than
chłop
happy to
został
have the hand
zmuszony.
refreshed, considering which cards he had
No,
left for the
jeszcze
following
to jest taki
turn.
wybór...
And what deck he's playing against. You never expect to see a new hand unless maybe it's
Jezusie!
a but sure enough, sees
No jest
6
energia,
cards going
no i
into this, and that
pas!
is a grass energy. He
Jest
missed the attack.
Reklok.
Attack missed for Steven is just going to have to slowly
No.
try and put this Raging Bolt into a position where Thunderburst Storm
Recon
can deal maybe
Directive.
potentially to
Co
knock
my
out
tu
your
mamy?
Cloak.
Okej,
But now
energia.
with one
No
established,
tylu mocy.
now with Recon Directive online, the options are going to start to open up here for John this turn.
No cóż.
Yeah, John, he's got
Spryców
all his
czasami
eggs
jest
in one
dużo tych
basket. Thankfully, it's
mosków.
dressed nicely in a cape.
No, ale
but
moski
he's
są
got
jakieś
to start
ciężkie do
building up
zdobycia
the rest
akurat,
of this
bo one
board
czasami
here.
w prilisach
Love to
są
see some
często.
additional Dreepy, so he can start to spread that around. And sure, you
Jest
might lose
kolejna
one of those
ręka.
Pokemon if a lightning energy is found on the following turn. But if all the
Znaczy,
damage
na
is
pewno
going
ma
to
już
a
sadę
Dreepy,
na
your
następną
Cloak
turę.
is likely to evolve and start to wreak havoc.
Ale sam fakt,
Bit
że
of an
Cape
awkward choice
troszeczkę
here for John on what's
przeszkadza.
discard with Ultra Ball is considering getting rid of both copies
No
of
tutaj
Boss's
jest
orders
trochę
from
tough,
the
bo
deck.
tutaj
I
chyba
don't
tam z
know
2 bossy
if
były.
there's any better
Może
options.
myślę?
It looks like Counter Catcher
Tak, 2 bossy, o
and
Jezus!
the Rescue Ward is going to
Jakie
have to just get
to?
rid of both of those powerful gusting supporters in
O
the trade-off for finding a
Boże!
Dreepy to make
Tak,
sure
to
that there's at
było-
least another option
to było
for Dirk
straszne
next
to
turn
kur.
to
2
start
bossy
rebuilding and
order.
getting that established.
To potrafi
If there
boleć.
were ever a deck where that's okay, I suppose it's Raging Bolt, but this does
Ale
lead to
widzę,
a
że
lot of
mapeczka może się
scenarios for
sprawdzić.
Steven
Znaczy,
where
nie we
he can
wszystkich
be very
matchupach
creative
oczywiście.
with his energy discards throughout the game. He knows that the active Pokemon will nearly always be the one being
no,
attacked in
chyba
this
to jest
game.
też taka... No Itchy
Just be
Pollen.
another Itchy
No małpa
Pollen
już zaczyna
onto
być już
Steven. This is a big
standardowa.
turn, like you mentioned. Jamming
Oho,
Tower,
jest
potentially
ten duży
something
bolt,
online, but there are
znaczenie
no
2.
options almost
No i
online.
chyba będzie
except
używana
for
sada
something
na
like
pewno.
Sada. Okay, so finds the Raging Bolt, lightning energy from the discard pile, can also just accelerate the grass if he so chooses to. We'll go ahead and get both of those energies, draw 3 cards, and these are big 3 cards. Do we see something like Jamming
O,
Tower?
2 sady
Terra
są.
Pokemon would have
Even the
also
Terra,
gotten there,
yes.
but none of those cards, a pair of Sada and an item that cannot be played. And now the question for Steven is, what do you target down in this spot? You're just going to activate Pheasantipity to draw even more cards, and can you in this spot ever
No
deal
właśnie
in a
tu się
position
pojawia
where
tough,
your
bo
Hoot
tutaj
is
mamy
potentially
Bażanta już
friendly?
wystawionego.
There are so
Czyli
many
wiecie, jak on
options to think
znokautuje
about
tego
now.
You think of the
Dreepiego,
likeliness of
to
finding
wychodzi na
any
to,
help
że...
there if you find the tower itself or just
Aha,
a Terra
dobra,
Pokemon.
no to
You have
czyli...
the
O,
Noctowl, you can
teraz
search out what
wchodzi
you need
ulepszony
instead,
boss's
has to
order
just cash in
dla
on some
Teamu
damage on
Rocketowego.
Pheasantipity, and you're not
Ogólnie
taking
bardziej
knockouts, you're not pushing
przypomina
any
to
aggression,
Guzmę
you're about to
bardziej.
lose nearly every energy on
To jest
board.
Guzma. No chyba będziesz potrzebował tego Ultrabola.
That's a great card, I think, off this first one. Ultra Ball guarantees either something like the Dragapult EX or
Ale
Hawlucha,
chyba raczej
right? If you can
będzie
Hawlucha,
Ultra
use
Ball.
that flying entry,
Akurat
could
to
be
jest
the
nie
piece
Boss's
needed to just
Order,
take
a to
two
jest bardziej
prizes and
Guzma.
more importantly, shut off Jewel
O,
Seeker.
jest
You
Dragapult!
have to think
Jest
that that's
Jacek
the
i
play at this
Dragapult,
point.
kurde.
We
A czy...
see the Dragapult in hand now. Has the Jacques as well, so
Chyba
if the
raczej będzie
supporter
Jacek,
hasn't been
tak?
decided,
Chyba zagrywany?
might see both those cards anyways in a few seconds here. And with the Hawlucha, as you
Jacuś
mentioned,
chyba?
the knockout on the active, the
No,
knockout on the Hoot
chyba,
Hoot,
że
it
Pulta
just
i
almost
Jacka.
closes the door for
Chyba
Steven.
Jacek,
Without
tak?
access to Noctowl, how do you come back in this game?
The big piece missing for John is another energy attachment to make sure Dragapult EX online next turn is a guarantee, even if this active gets knocked out. But maybe that's okay missing the piece if the likelihood of Steven finding an additional
Mamy
4
Ultra
energy
Bola i
cards to
mamy
accelerate
jeszcze
without
Jacka
the help
Placka.
of Noctowl
No, był
just
ten Dragon.
seems a
Można
little
wziąć
bit
brazem
unlikely. Would
Dragapulta
need to
i
get very
wywoływać.
fortunate off these draws.
No,
John's just
oczywiście
gonna
trzeba
check every
sprawdzić.
resource,
Jezus
see what
Maria.
pieces Steven is down and
Nie
calculate
mam
what is the
nawyków
best option to go to
prograczy.
from this.
Żeby nie dlatego spieprzyłam
It's
swoje
nice
te
even when
pierwsze
you're in the
TP.
driver's seat to slow down
Ale
at some
dobra,
points and
Jacek.
considered.
W
You
sumie na
don't
jedno
want to
wychodzi w
overplay
sumie,
your
tak czy
hands,
siak.
but you have to feel
Chyba
comfortable
wejdzie
here. There's
Jacek,
plenty going
Jacuś
your
po...
way. Has access to multiple attackers, and I mean, just
Zawsze
removing
można grać
characters from
kaktusa.
board at this current
Wszyscy
state
wiemy,
of
że w
play is
Europie kochamy
so nice.
kaktusy.
Yeah, and can almost leave
Bo ich
the
nie
damage on
mamy
the
pewnie.
Fezandipity
Albo mamy
useless
w
for
jakichś
this point. I mean,
egzotycznych
how
krajach typu
valuable
Hiszpania
really
czy
is the 90 on that
Katalonia.
Fezandipity if Baby Bolt
A jest,
again
Jacuś,
is going to be
Jacuś.
almost never taking a knockout. It would
Chyba
need what?
raczej tak. Na
4
pewno
energy
weźmiemy
cards accelerated
Dragapulta,
to it.
tak?
There's no cute tricks like energy switch
Tak,
in this deck for
Dragapult i
Steven.
duszek.
That
I
seems pretty
chyba
unlikely
będzie
and almost will count
ultrabolowany
as a
duszek
wasted
i
turn for
Dreklow.
Steven attacking that Fezandipity with how
Więc,
John has been able
no,
to
czyli tak,
respond.
druga
Right
ewolucja
now,
jest tylko
it
po
did
to,
give you the
abyśmy
benefit of
mieli
avoiding some counter catcher plays, avoiding the unfair stamp, but
unfair
missing
stamp.
out
Tu
on
mamy
damage, as you
oczywiście
mentioned, it's pretty
halucze.
difficult to come back from.
No i
You're
wiem o
never
co
going to
chodzi,
find an
czyli
opportunity to bring
knockout
back that
w
Raging
tego
Bolt. And anytime that you would have used a boss's
Szkoda, że nie
orders to
mam-
help out here with just a single
Szkoda, że ma
copy,
wtyczek na
you probably have
przykład
enough
do
energies to knock out a Fezandipity.
rysowania. Tak. Będzie knockout w aktywnego
So
i
Halucha
jeszcze
flying
chyba w
entry, first
Hut-Huta.
choice very
A, i
obvious on
Latiasa,
the
to
Hutu,
ma sens.
and we'll put this
Więc raczej
Latias
będzie
EX into
knockout w
perfect range
Hut-Huta.
for Phantom Dive, which will be the attack of choice. John
A,
Eng striking first, and that is a bad sign if you are a Raging
Kowe.
Bolt player. Something you really never want to see is
Tak,
the
wchodzi
Dragapult EX
Halucha
deck
i robi
initiating
kung fu
the prize
fighting.
trade. That's your trade.
Halucha
That's
też
your
dostaje
trade as Raging
deseczkę.
Bolt.
Czyli tak, nokautujemy
Well,
tego
unfortunately for John,
i
yes, he does
nokautujemy
have that
również
10 damage
Hut-Huta,
on the
który
Latias,
mógłby
but is there ever a turn where you
uratować
can
go z
bring up this
Znaczy,
Pokemon
jak dobrze
down
wiemy.
double
No dobra,
boss's
jest w
orders,
końcu Ogerpon.
doesn't have, are you kidding me?
Szkoda,
Szkoda,
The
że tak
top deck
późno.
is right there. He would have
Ała.
had the Terra Pokemon just next card.
It's so
Szkoda, że
heartbreaking, and
akurat
it's,
w
it's
momencie,
even
kiedy
cruel
John
at this
Eng
point to
zrobił
show that card. It would have been
jesień
better if the
średniowiecia
card
z
wasn't
mojej
even there
sowy.
at the top of the deck, taunting Steven a little bit, showing what could have been. That door has closed. That opportunity has passed. Steven's going to have to work with what he can. He's not out of this game by any means. There's already an energy on the Raging Bolt. Energies
Okay.
can be accelerated with the Teal Mask, but there's going to be a lot here, Kyle. He's got to find a lot of pieces to get this knockout.
Dobra,
And if that
zabierze-
knockout is not found, then the question is,
Dobra,
how does
ja
Steven keep
zagerwałem.
himself in this
No
game?
coś czuję, że
At
jednak,
this point,
no
you see the
Kanadyjczyk
energy
widzę.
attachment, well, the energy from your
Balance.
ability. You have an energy attachment, and now
Okej,
you're
jest
just missing an
walczący.
ancient
Mamy te
Pokemon to get the
Bolta.
full use of the Sawdust. We see that now, and there will be 5 energies on board to take the knockout here. And as you mentioned in the last turn, missing out on that energy was really the one piece that John did not have. So he does not have a threat to combat this new Raging Bolt.
So even without the help of Noctowl,
Jest
Steven's
kolejny
sitting on a super
Ogerpon,
solid
dobra.
hand. Has the 2 energy acceleration off the Professor Sada, the energy acceleration off the Teal Dance, and the manual attachment. Perfect amount of energies for Steven. He's
Czyli
going
on
to
już ma
dump all the
wystająco tyle,
resources
żeby
in play,
znokautować
put
pultę. No
himself
Cake
onto
akurat
0
nie działa.
energy in board for the price of discarding this Raging Bolt, excuse me, discarding Dragapult EX from play via a knockout.
Mówię,
5
powinniśmy grać
energy,
kaktusy.
Bellowing Thunder, KO,
W Stanach
and
nie
now
wpadają na te
John will
pomysły.
potentially have to take this turn off
Okay.
now to reestablish
Mamy
another
stretcher.
Dragapult EX for the following turn and potentially try and disrupt Steven when it comes to what resources he can use.
All right, and for John, this may not be a fully wasted turn. We know about the potential. Whenever a knockout is taken, there's that ace back of the unfair stamp. There's potential to slow down this board. And we know if Steven's
znowu tu
left
trzeba
on a
powoli
weak
zwolnić.
hand,
No
you
niestety
could
przez to, że
potentially
jestem
just
Latias,
miss draws
no to
over and over and over
tylko
again. There
skanter
is no
pozbyć się
knockout,
go.
no hoot hoot.
No, znaczy tak,
There's
counter
only a
catcher nie
restart
działa.
Mew to help out in this
No, to
situation.
może to i
and if you
lepiej,
don't
że
find the
wywalił
perfect
te
cards,
bossy,
you're just gonna
bo
miss
w
over and
sumie
over
nie
again.
ma co
Yeah, it's so hard to
gastować
use
tak
that Mew,
naprawdę.
especially if you're under item
A,
lock.
no,
You can't
jakby
play
był
things like Ultra Ball
kaktusik.
to thin the hand out. The
Wiecie, mem
various
z
item cards like
kaktusów.
Earthen Vessel. Those pieces are missing. And this could be the key John needs to do to get back into this game. Key piece there,
Znaczy nie ma
Kyle,
żadnej
finds
energii,
the
to jest
energy for this
najgorsze.
Dracloak, and the Arven is going to guaranteed get out the Unfair Stamp. We'll see the big question, Kyle. Is Unfair Stamp a lie? Time will tell.
Okej,
Yeah,
no
this
jest i
is
unfair stamp.
always one of the most crucial points of the game. This is your ace spec
No, to
for the
jest
entire game. You know
aspekt, którego
that
się
this
już
needs
gra.
to provide a
już,
lot
no.
of benefits here.
Znaczy niektórzy nawet
For John,
wracają do
it may not
kryształów.
be all about
No
his
chyba
hand.
przeciwnik, z którym ja no też
So John will get
chyba
5
preferuje
cards, Steven
kryształy.
2. That's the nature of the stamp.
Mamy
Unfair
okej,
and
mamy
cruel.
tutaj,
Has not used any of these abilities yet in play. Can still flip the script. Can still
Czyli-
use that recon directive. And keynote, maybe looking for something like another Dreepy to put into play. Does
Dobra,
find
jest
that off
Dreepy.
that flip to
Counter
script.
catchery
Can
nie
still funnel
działają.
through the deck a little bit more thanks to recon directive.
Yeah, talk about 3 great cards there. Dreepy, Fire,
Chyba
and
wystawimy
Counter Catcher
ducha.
all added to the hand. Additional
Ewentualnie
energies
jeszcze-
for future turns to have
Dobra,
that
jest
Counter
research,
Catcher
jest
to maybe
Dreepy,
target
chyba
down a
duszek.
Latias
No, chyba
at some
duszka
point and steal those prize cards. there's
Tak
potential for
sobie
John to have
no, duszek.
a few great turns
Na
coming up here.
później? No małpa, no
Yeah, this
trochę
is
nie
an
ma
interesting
sensu.
spot here for John. Could potentially use this Itchy Pollen onto
No i
slightly better
Itchy
Pokemon.
Pollen!
Something like the Fan Rotom to take 10 to put it into range, but it's just
Nice
going to value that
Arturo.
resource for the following turn.
Turo
You
nie
are
bardzo
down double
przydatne.
bosses orders as well, and both
No
prizes are
mamy
tied
też
right now.
Jamming
So
Tower,
unless
który
Steven
jest
takes a knockout
w
this
sumie na
turn,
ten moment
which I don't think is
niepotrzebny.
very possible.
Why does he keep doing this? He drew into double stadium again?
Without Noctowl, I hate to say it, but this deck is a pile
No,
sometimes.
to
It
jest
really
problem, bo
struggles to
możemy
find
zrobić
pieces.
Turo
It's
na
going
Oh, it's a
rakiecie.
Turo.
put the
Okay.
hand down. The Turo does have some nice use. It does put the Latios out of range, and importantly,
Czyli
allows
palimy
Restart
Turo
to
dla
draw,
samego
what,
Turo.
2 cards here? Those are two pretty
kurwa,
solid
Sada jest
cards, all
pięknie.
things considered. Now, can't play that supporter, but at least it's Sada for the following turn.
All right. Well, he's
Halo, halo.
still moving, but he missed out on an energy card here, and that means that there's no burst roar. There was already
Nie, 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 nie,
support
nie
play.
możesz, nie możesz!
I know it doesn't feel like
O
a
Jezus.
supporter.
Yeah.
It didn't do much.
Listen, Scoop Up Net was only a
Ops.
couple of years ago.
Dobrze, że
Everybody's
sędziowie
still
go
reeling from it,
powstrzymali,
it
bo
seems.
właśnie chciał
He's just gonna have to
użyć
pass the turn
Sadę
back
po
over,
użyciu
and
Turo.
John is cooking
Ała!
up something
Chyba każdy to
devious.
zna.
Dusclops comes into
Użyłeś
play,
Turo,
has the
potem chciałeś jak ją
counter
zagrać, a
in
potem
hand.
przecież
Is
się
there
orientuje,
potential here
ty.
where John
ale
wants to
graliśmy
go a
już.
little bit aggressive?
Nie grałeś Turo?
Use this Dusclops, or is he maybe okay?
Dobra, dobrze, że go
Sitting on this
powstrzymali,
hand for
no bo
another
byłby
turn,
game loose.
Using Itchy Pollen and maybe combining that Dusknoir to finish the job off.
Chociaż
Yeah, it
Sadę
really just depends
łatwo.
on how comfortable John
tutaj
feels
skipnąć,
playing
bo
into a final
z
blood
Ioną
moon
jest
or
gorzej
something.
akurat,
If
bo
that
z
is
Ioną
your
to już jest
closeout to win
ciężko,
this
tak.
game, as we typically see,
Było blisko.
then you
No,
would feel great
Strasznie
attaching
było
this energy
blisko.
to your Dracloak, moving straight into a Dragapult, taking a knockout, going down to 2
No
prize cards
naprawdę było
remaining,
blisko.
and having a no energy attacker for the following turn to try
A
to
czy
close
wiecie,
out.
no Sadę to jeszcze
The big
cofniesz.
question you always have to think about,
Ale
especially against
Iono to
Raging
już
Bolt,
jest
is how
nie do
likely is it that
cofnięcia.
your opponent
Okej.
plays Bravery Charm. And that
Ryzyk
might be
fizyk,
the big
jest
concern for John,
Dragapult.
because that can always play out of that Blood Moon's damage range. It hits for 240, and with that Bravery Charm, it
Czy
could mess
jeszcze
the
chyba
math up.
później...
Yeah, there's a little bit of a benefit here. Your opponent's on a 3
No
card
dobra, jest
hand,
Ursaluna,
jamming
ale chyba
towers in
raczej
play, so
Ursaluna na
the
później
odds of
może
finding
być.
all those resources
No,
could
na
be a
później,
little
dobra.
tricky. But yes, you really have to think of everything at this stage. John
No bo
does
jakoś
have
musiał tego
the
Turo
Dragapult,
spalić, kuźwa,
got everything
żeby
working
no
for
mógł
him.
z tego
Now
Mew
just has to
cokolwiek
decide,
dobrać.
is this the turn to attack and get aggressive?
So Ultra Ball is used, discarding a
Mhm.
couple of item cards, and it's actually going to
Czyli
be another
Duszek może tutaj
Dracloak,
też
so
namieszać
just wants to
Poltowi w
continue
prizach, bo
funneling through the deck with
on
Recon
tutaj sobie
Directive,
patrzy,
put good
kolejny
cards in
Recon
the hand,
Directive.
bad ones to the bottom, and just have as many options as possible to execute the
No
various
tak,
strategies
no
at
mamy
his
kolejnego
disposal and the
Recon
various
Directive do
plans that
zużycia.
could work.
Czy na pewno
John's been
będzie
to math
kolejny
camp a
Draga?
few times. There's 12 cards remaining. He's going to burn as many as he can
Coś
to
czuję, że
try
chyba
to
raczej to
increase
będzie
the
szybki
odds
szpil.
of finding a Blood Moon Ursaluna on that last turn with
Czy Iono zużył,
Serendipity,
bo
Recon
Bolty grają
Directive,
jedno Iono.
and all the cards that
Ewentualnie
he has in
grają
his hand.
Jaja.
Should be able to burn through quite a few of those to find a closeout.
And then the final question here for
Czyli
John
na
is,
pewno
are
będzie
you
pulciok.
using the Dusclops this turn? Is it worth putting into play? And that's maybe the consideration here. Do you ever just
Ile ma
wait?
balów?
I think at minimum, even if you attack or you don't attack, it feels like you have to protect the energies.
If ever there were a turn, your opponent just played Turo. If you don't want to
Okej.
cash in
Czyli
on
tak,
this
knockout,
feels like a
no dobra,
really
nie
optimal
knockout,
turn. A
czyli
smart
tutaj
line
mamy,
from John to slow
czyli
down here
szykujemy
in
się
this
na
spot.
4-price turn.
Just build up all the damage and potentially
będą-
close out next turn.
Okej.
So will be
To będzie
Phantom
fajne
Dive
zagranie.
announced. 200
Znaczy,
damage
chyba,
onto the
że
Raging Bolt does put
zbam
it
się
at
wtedy
30
tej
HP
Ursuły do
remaining.
tej daily
And now
sytuacji.
choice here for
Brałam, to
John.
nie
How
było
do you
bez
want to distribute
Saluny.
the damage?
Chyba
Smart
jednak
choice here.
ta-
Sure, we're going to see
o.
5 put onto that Mew, and now this
To będzie
additional
mocne,
damage
to-
counter.
to
Most
będą
likely
chyba
one of either of these Pokemon.
Tura na
This is
5
still a
prizów.
pretty important choice on where you
Ciekawe.
want to put this last 10.
Yeah,
Chyba
the
zapowiada
single
się
point to either
10
Latias or
Faberpona,
Terra, just
okej.
anything down to 200 feels good
Nie,
here.
coś musi... Dobra, teraz możesz już użyć Sady.
It seems that the doors are starting to shut here.
Czyli
for
Sadę
Steven.
mam, to jest
Cards to
pewne.
start,
A
draws an additional
Crispina,
card.
okej.
It's a Crispin that's not necessarily
Tylko
what
teraz
he
wybór,
needs.
Sada czy
And while he could
Crispin?
potentially, accelerate enough
Ale tak,
to
no...
put things into
użyj
range,
już
you
tej Sady.
always gotta be afraid
Którą
of
chciałeś już
that
użyć
Dusclops sitting on the bench.
Tak, w
You put
końcu
yourself
już
with two
nasz
prizes,
przeciwnik
close
może
to
użyć
blast onto
Sady.
one of these various Pokemon could spell disaster paired with a
No tak,
scary
bo o ile Sada
frightening
jest łatwa
bear.
do
We need
cofnięcia,
Earthen
to
Vessel
tak
or something
Iono
at
to
this
też
stage.
jest
Just a grass
impossible.
energy.
Tak
This
samo
needs to
Roxanne
fall into
kończy się
Earthen Vessel, I would
kończyła
feel like to
Game
have
Boost,
any
jak się użyło
chance.
Rock Centers.
There's just not enough
Dobra, mamy
resources here.
Slitterwinga.
This is the least amount of
Ale
cards
widzę,
I've
że
seen draw
Steven
from a
Wong
Raging Ball
poddał
in
i
so
John
long.
Eng wygrywa
And he gets his
2-0.
cards up.
Big pop-off there from John. He's feeling it. Is this the time? Last year, he won this tournament, and he said he's feeling very confident maybe he's going to go back to back.
Dominating performance from John, closing things out, advancing to 9 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw, essentially locking up a spot here in top cut. Steven just unable to find pieces. There were no Jewel Seeker announced that entire set. It's just kind of how the cookie crumbles, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, Steven's a great player, and I'm sure we could have seen so much from him, but unfortunately, he just did not see the cards at the right time. Always 1 card away on the top of the deck. Unfair Stamp was so brutal. Let's take a look at how we got here.
It was a lot of struggle on Steven's side. It was not nocturnal here. We were in the middle of the bright day. These owls were not coming out to find any pieces, and even just a small thing like the 2 retreat on that Hoot Hoot was just even more tempo towards John's side, dominating game 1, and then game 2, that big miss from Steven, right? If he finds that Teal Mask Ogerpon, that Terra Pokemon, the game flips on its head potentially.
Yeah, and it didn't stop Steven. He went on this very aggressive line here, took the knockout as he needed to on the Dragapult, removed every energy from play, but from there, John had the perfect answer. Badoo, Unfair Stamp, made a really great swing, slowed the game down, had a new Dragapult, and had game on board.
I would expect nothing less from John Eng. An excellent player. He is looking to make himself a 2-time regional champion back-to-back. That would be an absolute statement here in Portland.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many great players to consider when going into a tournament like this, but there's just something special about the kid. He's been on a great run. He's been watching all of his friends and his teammates do well at so many different events, and it feels like it's just his time. And he's picked a great deck for it, and the confidence it's just oozing at this point.
Yeah, when you take a deck like Dragapult EX and you put an excellent pilot behind it, you just see how powerful this is. It has the aggression of Phantom Dive. It has the disruptive power of Unfair Stamp. Speaking of Unfair Stamp, that card put in work that set.
Yeah, I mean, that is exactly why you play the card. So many considerations for different ace specs throughout the course of all the different Dragapult decks that we've seen, but this one seems to be the one that's going to stick. It is brutal when it works.
Yeah, you saw, the sparkling crystal of contention sometimes. It makes that attacking option a little bit easier for Dragapult. But with Badoo, that is such a brutal combo. Not only do you put your opponent to a 2-card hand as early as, second, third turn of the game, but you prevent them from using those item cards to try and keep their tempo. And once you see that second Dragapult get established, once there's another energy on the bench, it's just, your options really do shut down, because either they're going to be using Phantom Dive on you to take a ton of prizes and put pressure, or they're going to be locking you out of options and just tunneling through their deck, and you have nothing you can do to stop them.
Yeah, and I mean, that's not the end of it either. We see the Monkey Dory is a new tech inclusion that's been added, and with that luminous energy to provide the dark effect. It's been pretty beneficial in a few different matchups. I could see, especially in a mirror, when you're playing down some additional damage counters, just pushing that back over to the other side could be very helpful. And that Blood Moon Ursaluna, I mean, just the threat of it alone is exactly what you need in a deck like this, where it's so easy to target where the energies fall. So if you have an answer to those situations, how do you lose?
Well, someone who didn't lose was John Eng. In fact, he's moving on to hopefully another top 8 or more.
Chip Ritchie here in the lounge with Kyle Puka Sukovic, and it's a very exciting time right now in the Pokemon TCG. We've got a brand new expansion on the horizon, Destined Rivals, and there's a lot of really exciting cards in there. There's the new Ethan's cards coming out. There's the Marnie's Grimmsnarl that I know players have been waiting for a long time, excited to finally get. But I think the flagship card, the thing that everyone is talking about, is definitely the Team Rockets cards included in the set. Why are Team Rockets cards so special and so beloved by the Pokemon fan base?
I think it's just something unique, right? When they first came out a long time ago in the first Team Rocket expansion and introduced Dark Pokemon, it was just a twist on the regular Pokemon you had seen before, and it was just something to get your mind going a little bit. It's like, oh, these are a little different. How can I use these in different ways? And they showed up, a couple different times throughout the years. I think people remember the EX Team Rocket Returns expansion as well that introduced a lot of really strong Dark and Rockets Pokemon, and I think that just stuck with people over the years, and people are just happy to see, oh, Team Rocket's back.
Yeah, and it's 20 years later. 2005 was the release of Team Rocket Returns, and now we are finally seeing Team Rocket's Pokemon come back in Destined Rivals coming out next week. We're going to talk about a few of the cards throughout the course of the weekend. Let's start off by looking at probably one of the most popular cards from each of their respective expansions. Team Rocket Returns, Rockets Mewtwo EX, and then the new Destined Rivals, Team Rockets Mewtwo EX.
Yeah, so this has always been a really fascinating card to look at. The original Rockets Mewtwo card was the first card that had 3 attacks. So when you saw it for the first time, you're like, whoa, no way, a Pokemon that has a 3rd attack. It was just something you'd never seen before. And then the Rockets Mewtwo EX that came out later was kind of a throwback to that, had pretty similar attacks. Unfortunately, I think both of those cards were not very useful in competitive play for the most part, but you're going to see a lot of cards in this new expansion are throwbacks to what the cards used to be like, but there's also ones that are going to be completely different and updated for the current game, and I think the Team Rockets Mewtwo EX is a great example of that. It is much different than the original one.
Yeah, the older Rockets Mewtwo EXs and regular Rockets Mewtwo, those cards never really saw very much play, were never super good, but I think a lot of people are excited about Team Rockets Mewtwo EX, wouldn't you say?
I think so, yeah. I mean, it's a huge basic Pokemon, it's got a ton of HP, it can do a bunch of damage. It just looks like the kind of card that's like, I want to try this out and see if I can make it work. Plus, it's Mewtwo, it's Team Rocket. It's
pretty popular Pokemon.
It's Giovanni on the Team Rocket's Mewtwo EX. Yeah, it's just a cool thing you want to try out.
And there's also the energy cards that players would use to power these Pokemon up. Back in Team Rocket Returns, we had our energy, and coming out now in Destined Rivals, there is going to be the Team Rockets energy. Talk to us about what those two cards did and how similar they are.
Yeah, so pretty similar. Both of them provide 2 energy. Any kind of special energy card that provides like a double energy, I think traditionally has been pretty powerful. The R energy was like a temporary 1-turn boost, right? You had to discard it at the end of the turn, but it also gave you a little damage boost, so 10 extra damage. This new one, it does not go away at the end of the turn, and it provides 2 different types, both Psychic and Darkness. So I would say overall, a much more powerful energy compared to the original R energy. Both very important for the strategies that they were used for. And yeah, this new one gives you some flexibility. Obviously works well with the Team Rockets Mewtwo EX, because it can provide Psychic type energy, but can work with some other Team Rockets Pokemon as well.
We're going to be taking a look at a lot of these cards throughout the course of this weekend, both the old cards and then their new counterparts coming out very soon in Destined Rivals. So stay tuned, you're not going to want to miss it. Let's get back to the Pokemon action for now.
Hey trainers, Jeremy Jallin here, and when I'm not on the booth, I'm out here doing other stuff, this time at the Fan Experience. This is where, whether you're playing or spectating, you can come spend some time coloring, maybe rent out some Pokemon board games. If you're interested in origami, we teach a class every hour, whether you want to make Pikachu, Blastoise, Slowpoke, or Vulpix. It's a lot of fun. It doesn't take too long, and after it, you're a Pokemon origami master. We have a bunch of coloring pages, a lot of different types of Pokemon, and then even some Pokemon bookmarks that you can color and take home to your favorite book. It is a lot of fun and a great way to buy some time here at the Pokemon Regionals.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Portland Regional Championships. I am Kyle Pukasukovic here between rounds as we head into the dramatic, intense final Swiss round at this tournament. We've had a lot of great matches this weekend so far, and right now at the top of our standings, we have Christian Fontenot, Caleb Rogerson, and Michael Davidson all sitting at 29 match points. You have to think they are safe heading into this last round to make it into that top cut. Our player Dominic Viola started 9-0 and unfortunately lost the last two and is now down to 9-2. So at 27 match points, we'll need to win that last one potentially to make it into the top cut. Player we followed closely yesterday, Ray Chen, with that Toadscruel EX, did have a tie in the last round and now sits at 26 match points. So we'll also need to win the last round to make it in. And we have Piper Lapine at 27 and John Eng, 28 match points, just saw. And we have Michael, Taylor, and Callie all at 28 points as well, in great position. But this is crunch time. This is the one you need to get those last match points, get over the finish line. Casters, how we feeling headed into this last round?
Thank you so much for that update as well, Kyle. This is a moment, the make or break moment. There's so much on the line for these players, and the fact that so many oddball and promising decks are still on the cusp of making top cut really shows how hard you have to push these decks and the metagame to take it all the way.
Honestly, guys, the storylines are writing themselves, right? John Eng on a perfect path to becoming a two-time Portland Regional champion here, as he won the last Portland Regionals that we were at. And like Adam was kind of alluding to, every deck can do it this format, apparently. You just got to know how to play it extremely well.
Absolutely. Are there any players who you think, maybe this is their event? I know you mentioned John, but are there any decks that are players like in your heart you're just rooting for?
I think right now I'm rooting for Liam Halliburton. I know that he's pretty high in the standings with a list that I have really liked for this metagame, for this tournament. And it's just a matter of whether or not he can, prove me right, because I think that any deck can go all the way as long as you aren't a coward.
Well, honestly, guys, I have been shifting my focus away from Dominic Viola and kind of turning to Christian Fontenot, flying over here, who has been actually staying here in North America from Denmark, playing his Raging Bolt list, but no Turo needed, but he's playing a Petra Run EX to escape any Saw blocks, any Maractus Corner as well, so you would promote the festivity and then free retreat with Latias here. It's definitely a very tricky list, and I'm interested to see how far innovation would take him.
Yeah, well, sounds like you two got this handled, so please take it away.
Thank you so much, Kyle. And welcome officially to the desk, everyone. Adam Watson here with Emily Foreman, and we are going to be walking you through this last Swiss round and see who is going to make top cut. We are right now working on figuring out what is the best and most entertaining match to show you folks at home, but I'm sure we've got a bunch of other notable matches because this, as we said, is the make or break moment. A lot of win and ins to try to get to this top cut.
And here's the thing, everybody at home, I mean, this is the last regional of the season here for North America, unless you want to take the flight over to Bologna next week and compete in the special championships over there. That's it for North America until North American International Championship happening in 3 weeks in New Orleans. And honestly, it's getting really intense. If you're sitting at that 600 championship points, you might not even make it. And that was enough to make it to Worlds last year. Honestly, Adam, I have my predictions at 720. I think 720 is like the safest place you could be, but that is a long 9 months of playing Pokemon.
And it's a grind that a lot of players are very happy to do. They love the game and they love to compete. Even if they win a tournament, they're already thinking about the next tournament and the next format. And the players are going to do everything in their power to play at as many events as possible, have as many shots of that, goal of getting their Worlds Direct invite as possible. And I know backstage, Emily, you actually were doing a little bit of sleuthing because we did have a special championship going on this weekend as well. You want to fill us in on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Durban Special Championship happening in South Africa, actually. And what's really funny to know about the whole top 8 is that it's dominated by our 2 favorite decks of the format, and that is going to be 4 Gardevoir decks and 4 Dragapult decks. Although one of those Dragapult decks was actually a Dragapult Charizard, which seems to be starting to pick up a little bit more and more popularity as the format kind of keeps going on. Big shout outs to Jared Camilla, who not only made the top 8 and top cut there, but also fed me a lot of this information as well.
Yeah,
I know for me,
for that.
I was searching like far and wide. I was like, does anyone have the deck list for this? I want to talk about it because there's still events happening once again all over the world, right? We have Bologna next week. We had the Netherlands the week before. Pokemon is everywhere. Honestly, anywhere you want to play, you can.
And of course, that tournament was won by Dragapult, right?
Yes.
Just the classic build piloted by Christian Dinofrio.
Yes, correct.
So shout out to Dragapult as well and to Christian for winning that special championship. Very exciting to see, and I'm glad that you're still able to find any event where you are to try to get to the World Championship.
Exciting to see, right? Right when we feel like we have the format figured out, where Gardevoir and Dragapult and a Raging Bolt here and there are just winning everything, we still have Toedscruel EX in contention to make it into the asymmetrical top cut. And it always goes back to something that I say a lot to a lot of players that I talk to. You are always going to have a better time playing a bad familiar matchup than switching to, that top tier deck last second, one that you may not have too many games on, and then just playing an unfamiliar bad matchup. And honestly, I'm looking for Ray too. I mean, I hope she makes it all the way.
And we can compare what Ray is potentially up against. We can remind ourselves of the meta from day 1 and how that's kind of shifted into day 2. We looked at this graphic yesterday, Emily, right? Yes. Noting that Dragapult is still at the top of the pile. We know that it's been just a neck-and-neck race between Dragapult EX and Gardevoir, but Raging Bolt having a lot of representation for this tournament, certainly, and we saw how those matchups can play out back and forth on stream so far.
Yeah, like we talked about yesterday, nothing way too surprising here except for the showing of the Terra box or the Ogre Punch Noctowl box. But honestly, Adam, we're in day 2, so I want to see these day 2 decks here because the conversion rate for me is always so interesting here. But for something just starting out, just looking at it, right? Golden Go, which wasn't even on the day 1 meta share, actually coming up now into the day 2 meta. Anything else that you see that you like?
I like that Eevee box is still converting. This is a deck that, Terra box, the Wellspring Ogre pawn, we saw it a couple of times on stream yesterday, has been a cleaner version, a bit more of a popular version, but this one still has its strength, and we have a lot of those left in day 2. But of course, Raging Bolt dropping down ever so slightly, and I think that this has been the trend in multiple tournaments. As the field gets narrower and narrower and the matchups shift to the top decks, it always seems to come down to Dragapult versus Gardevoir. But with Golden Go, Toedscruel out in the mix, maybe even Miraidon finding some cheeky wins with Iron Hands, it's still anybody's game.
Honestly, I was really off with my Joltik pick. I really thought about it, right? And I said, you know what? It's a slower format. What punishes a slower format? A turbo deck. But, I mean, do we consider Raging Bolt a turbo deck anymore? Not as much, right? Maybe last format with, Sproutability left and right. But still,
daleko.
if you find that proper path with that
Ale tak, Dragapultów jak zwykle jest dużo. No 18 deków one stanowią, czyli takie 22,5%. Potem mamy Gardevoiry, które stanowią 20. Nie ma się co dziwić. Garda ma bardzo zajebisty matchup na kulta, dzięki oczywiście Lily z Klafery. No i mamy Raging Bolty, które jak zwykle spadają z rowerków. Chociaż i tak ostatnio idzie im dużo lepiej niż ostatnio. No i mamy 10% Eevee boxów i po 5 Bulldanków i Joltik boxów.
honestly,
tam
like
słychać?
we've been
A,
talking
dobrze.
about, it feels like just for this tournament in particular, if you got like the pride and the moxie to do it, you can certainly pilot your favorite
Co sądzisz
Texas
o
format all the way through. I know
inwestycjach
you've been looking for
na Wall
Enzorg
Street?
and
No nie
Superbox to
wypowiem
go
się,
all the
bo
way
się nie
through too,
znam.
and it was one of your casters picks, and it looks like it's sitting pretty
Już
high up
pamiętam
there
tą
right now.
śmieszną sytuację z tym GameStopem.
Who knows how many other of the top players tested against
Chyba ciężko
NDEC,
tego nie
because
zapomnieć.
there was the general wisdom from what I heard coming into this tournament was, oh, you know, if you build a deck that beats Dragapult, you lose to Gardevoir. If you build a deck that beats Gardevoir, you lose to Dragapult. If you play a deck that tries to beat both, you're a little weak into the rest of the field. So it's a matter of kind of picking your poison, unfortunately, figuring out what percentages you are comfortable accepting. And when we look at all of the caster picks in total, all of these cards are very important representations of what Portland Regionals has to offer.
Here's the
Trzymam
thing, I
poczu.
just don't think Kyle can be wrong no matter which way
O,
you look at it.
cześć,
Right?
Ela.
I mean, we've seen Ditto with that transformative start ability find plenty of mileage
Akordy to
on
był
the screen
super,
and on the tables as
faktycznie.
well. And
No
honestly,
to mamy
a lot of
gardę,
people
no
are
ten
arguing
Baby
that
Bolt,
Monkey
no
Dory is just one of
rzeczywiście
the
jako
best
taka
cards in
strength.
format right now with that Adrena Brain ability.
Temu
You
masz
can
ogólnie
really go
na
ahead
Discordzie
and
w
kind of
nazwie
work your
Blitz
math
Mechanic
around
i
and
nie
get a
będąc
lot of
Blitz
these
Mechanic.
sneaky
Znaczy to jest
prizes
bardzo stara nazwa
thrown
w
along the
sumie.
way, but I think Ethan and I are
Znaczy
on
no
the same
nazwa na
ideal here. I
Discordzie
did
też
pick the
została
big
zmieniona
Raging
już
Bolt
jakiś
EX,
czas
I
temu.
picked the general archetype, but it's that
No bo to
single
jest
prize
zapewne
Raging Bolt
możliwe, że jest to
from, I believe
ślad
it's
po
Temporal
starej
Forces
nazwie, ale
with this Thunderburst Storm, and without
no ogólnie
bench
teraz jest
barrier, we can
zmieniona
really
nazwa
just
na
go on ahead,
Discordzie, bo
pick a Pokemon across on the bench and say, no, I don't like that one. I don't like that one. And it's a really key important card. And honestly, I'm excited to see where Raging Bull goes.
Yeah, you've been talking up this card for actually a really long time,
A long
Emily,
time,
and
yeah.
how important
Znaczy
it
to
is for
jest-
Raging Bolt to sort of exist in the Gardevoir matchup. Having those single prizes.
Znaczy już teraz tej nazwy nie ma, akurat sprawdziłam, więc
is a puzzle that needs to be solved by
mogą
every
być to
other deck in the
faktycznie te
metagame.
pozostałości
And who knows,
jeszcze
as the field narrows,
po starej
I wouldn't be
nazwie, bo
surprised to
teraz
see
jest już
one
kompletnie
good old
nowa.
Joltik in the top 8. We'll have to see.
Yeah, maybe so, but you know what? Let's take a look at what we are going to be seeing soon as we head
No i zobaczymy,
into the
co
last
tam
round.
wystawią
Round
sobie.
12, we've already done.
Tak, ale
It
ten
feels
graf
like
jest
these
mało,
go
bo
by in like an
80
absolute
przeszło.
second, right? Like we have, you know, this round 3, and here we are all the way up,
Mieliśmy
going
czeską.
into Swiss round 12. A lot of amazing players
Okej, co tam
still
jest?
on this
Michael
ranking.
Davidson
It's so
widzę
hard to
prowadzi
tell who's going to win it
9-2
all. Look at
i
Henry
za
Chow
nim
just
jest,
waiting
no,
at
z podobnym
12.
wynikiem jest
Michael Davidson,
Caleb
who we
Rogerson oraz
featured on
Christian
stream yesterday.
Fontenot.
Christian Fontenot, also a regional champion as
Widzę,
well.
że też
Caleb
Kelly White ma
Rogerson
dobry,
too. So
wspomniany
honestly,
John
I'm
Eng,
so
który
excited to
ostatnio
see
widzieliśmy
where
go przed
exactly
chwilą
we
na
are going to
streamie.
go. Adam, any player on here that
No i
you're rooting
Piper
for in
Lepin
particular?
też widzę,
I'm-
Henry
I'm not
Chow,
just
czyżby
worried
idzie
about
po
each
czwartą
specific
wygraną,
player, but just the situation that all of these
więc
players
będzie
are in.
ciekawie w
They've played their
sumie.
heart out, they've done so well.
Corner Miller,
Put a massive record up on these tournaments,
tak,
right?
Christian Lambella też chyba widzę.
8-1-2 is the worst record we're seeing on the graphic here, and they still have so much work to do. You're not even comfortable IDing
Yeah.
for some of these players, and you still have to win one more match, even after putting up such a stellar record.
Absolutely. I'm so
Stop.
excited to see who's going to take it all because you
Yeah.
can look at this list right here. You have Piper here, who's also a regional champion. Christian
yeah,
Lambella,
yeah,
also a
yeah,
regional
yeah.
champion. Henry Chow, who has, you know, lost zoned multiple
Nie
worlds
mówcie,
invites
że
at this
Henry
point.
Chow idzie
they
po
could
kolejną
go
wygraną.
anybody on this
Ale
page. I
jazda.
cannot wait to see who is going to actually take it all.
And everybody in the audience at home, you will have to sit tight to make sure that you're here for that moment when we crown the Portland Regional Champion. This is the last NA Regional to get that
Mamy
direct
już
invite to Worlds,
stawkę.
and the rest of the competitors.
Henry the Goat,
trying
no,
to find
widziałem
other
właśnie
ways
twój
to
film
keep
odnośnie
going to
recenzji jednego
NAIC,
osobu na
get to
gramofonie
the
i powiem,
leaderboard, and you heard it
straszna
first here,
amatorska
folks.
recenzja, a
Might be
sprzęt, na
720
którym była płyta
points as
That's
the
just
cutoff.
my, that is
odtwarzania
my
nie
just
jest
bold prediction.
audiofilskiej
Yeah,
klasy
exactly.
high. Tak, to nie
You
jest.
know, I mean, I don't do math
I
well,
pewnie
but
kabel też
that's
był
just like
typowo
a,
chiński,
you know,
a nie
yeah,
z czystej nici.
720 feels kind
To
of
fakt,
right
to
for me. I
fakt,
know that
raczej.
people out there, I have to say,
Znaczy
the
wiadomo,
Portland
że na tym
community is
sprzęcie
so
ta płyta
talented.
brzmi
So many
oczywiście
people that
o
are,
niebo
really
lepiej.
kind of going in as data scientists,
Że
trying to
to nie
figure
była
out,
tak do
you know,
końca
the best way
recenzja,
for
tylko
you
bardziej
to
prezentacja
hit
tego
worlds. I
winylu,
mean, really, it's a
faktycznie.
numbers game at the end of the day.
Right.
And we, just like you
No,
said,
zobaczmy, jest
you know, we're
faktycznie
going to see
stary.
dreams made and crushed here. It's even
Też
crazier.
nie
And
wiem, że to
guys,
jakiś super
Very true.
audiofilski sprzęt.
And after looking at the top Swiss rankings, we can can narrow this down now to the notable matches
Ale no, jak
of
widać,
round
daje radę.
12. All these players are going to be going up against one another. And the match that we have selected for you folks at home is Deanna Duddy versus
Będziemy
Henry
musieli
Chow.
znaleźć
This one is going to be
do tego.
exciting. So Adam, here's some stats for you.
Ja
This
jakąś
might be
broń
regional
wycinałam,
raspberry, but
bo
Henry
tutaj
Chow has won
9A,
both regionals that I've been on the
91A,
task force.
110A.
Little superstition. It's a big part of the Pokemon community.
Myślę, że wszystko jest na A.
Are you his lucky charm then?
No, because he won his third without. I was in attendance, but I wasn't on the desk. So
I think that counts.
yeah, I guess so. I was hanging out in the back as he did, but still Henry Chow, of
110.
course, no surprise at all. He is piloting.
No możliwe, że
Gardevoir.
gdzieś się
Big
zapaćkał.
shock.
I
Jak
wouldn't have
zwykle
it any other
jeden
way.
element.
I think he's
Oho, dobra, chwila, tak propos jeszcze tematu, będzie właśnie Dina Dudy i Henry Chow, jakbyście chcieli, co nie? Przy okazji jeszcze tak, Christian Lambella z Dominikiem Wola, Owen Delgard z Liam Halberton, Kelton Gill z Simon Feng, Ray Chen z Duel Tossem, Aman Ahmed z Antelucci, Conor Miller z Melanie z Makani Trainen i Joseph Molstead z Adamem Reinhardtem. Ale tak, my sobie obejrzymy sobie w akcji jak zwykle Henry'ego Chowa.
Top cuts at multiple regionals across the world
That
as
is
well.
true.
So
Going
big
up
shout
against
out.
Liam Halliburton
Yeah, of
on the
course.
ends toolbox.
You got to just throw that in there, right, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, I'm
This
hoping
is
that my caster pick comes through because if I can see a deck, you know, just looking at the numbers, I'm not the stats guy. It looks like it's got good matchups against the top decks in the field. It's got to full send it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm excited for every match on here is just insane, right? And that's why we're featuring what, 8 just right on this screen alone. So I'm excited to see how exactly it's all going to go down. Ray Chen still in for it. I would love to see a Toad Squirrel in Top Cut. What about you?
Yeah, anything is possible. And we're going to head down to the table right now because we've got our players seated and ready to go.
No dobra, no to mamy oczywiście Jolting Boxa na Gardevoir. Ach tak, Gardevoir jak zwykle jest w rękach Henry'ego Chowa mocno.
That Diana noted to the staff in the back that this is her second regional and potentially making it into Top Cut at her second regional. You know what, you got it. But this matchup on paper, Adam, is not our favorite for Gardevoir here.
Yeah, if you get the early Joltik established, get that charged Iron Hand play.
Bardziej, oho, dobra, jest przerwa na wymianę sliwa.
He's been a proponent of playing more aggressive Gardevoir builds when the time is.
No jak dobrze wiemy, no on wymyślił sobie, że wcisnę Zoraka. Ciekawe, czy dalej on jest, czy trochę się zmieniło od ostatniego zwycięstwa. No dobra. Gdzie tu mamy oczywiście no tak zwanego Jolting Boxa, raczej on jest przedstawiony jako Miraidon, ale no Miraidon już takiej głównej roli już tak nie gra. No i Jolting Box oczywiście ma być odpowiedzią na Ichi Pollen, które jak dobrze wiemy jest wkurwiające. Sama mieszkasz? Nie.
I'm so interested. Only 2 Monkey Dory though. I know a lot of Gardevoir players are bouncing back and forth between 2 Monkey Dory, 3 Monkey Dory.
Oho, za to mamy Mew.
Big factor that we're going to be keeping our eyes on, folks, for this matchup is early aggression, right? The Iron Hands coming through, taking early prizes, multiple prizes off of single prize Pokemon with Ampy very much. But when you are in the pilot seat,
kurde, o Jezus, jaki psaj nagle rządzy, o nie!
sometimes can tunnel vision into assigning your energy to the wrong Pokemon, maybe overextending a bit too much, and maybe walking into an Iono or letting Henry Chow get established. He's a Gardevoir player that not only knows his deck in and out, but has practiced against multiple matchups, and I'm sure that this was on his radar as a possible issue to solve for a tournament of this size.
Absolutely. I think one of the things about Joltik Box, I think that a lot of people don't think about is every good Pokemon that you could find into the meta, right? So playing something like a Lily's Clefairy to try to take down Dragapult EX, playing a Blood Moon Ursaluna as well, the Mew EX too, but the problem is...
O, że piątka jest całkiem dobra, okej, zobaczmy prizy.
just
Nie najgorsze po stronie. Tutaj mamy... Oho, widzę, że Henry Chow też gra arabskie. A czym się właśnie... Uczy się czy pracujesz? Uczę się. Okej, no tutaj dwie psychiczne, jedna elektryczna, Alriven i tam Pokegir. No, znaczy widzę, że Razor, no czy tam Rapskam, no raczej nie jest potrzebna, bo widzę, że gardy zaczynają nieco być bardziej defensywne. Chyba w odpowiedzi na... W sumie... Znaczy jest to chyba taki wstępniak do nowej mety, w której wraca ogólnie. No jest też co ciekawe, HD Collection na PS4, tego nie działa. Ale podejrzewam, że on nie odbiega właściwie od PS3. Tutaj... Ciekawa rzecz, bo akurat jest jeszcze 4 Devil May Cry. Ona jest co ciekawe droższa niż ta na PS3, bo na PS3 jest znacznie tańsza. Konsole teraz się nie opłacają. Aha. Aha, to jest ciekawe, że Dina gra Tatsugiri. Wyszukiwania supporterów. Interesting. Niby tak, ale no z drugiej strony... Właśnie. Są ludzie, którzy raczej wolą siedzieć na kanapie. Na przykład. Okej, no widać, że lista Henry'ego się zmieniła. Okej, a mamy przygotowanego Monkey Dory. No dobra, jest torfowisko. Ale dobra, jest Nestball jako top deck, co jest istotne. Więc chyba będzie ten Miraidon. I Miraidon, bo... Znaczy wiadomo, że najpierw trzeba wyszukać tego Arvena. Niby się nie opłacają, a z drugiej strony... Chociaż tak wiecie, też jeśli chodzi o wysokie... Jakoś to i tak tylko 2% gra. 4K. Chyba będzie Miraidon, tak? No nie wiedziałem, żeby był sprajzowany. Że stop. Gra psychiczna to gra Lily z Clefairy, ale no nie jest to raczej coś, co potrzeba w matchupie. Mają tutaj czas. No jest Miraidon. Pochęca i... Joltik. But here with Gravity Mountain, we're actually going to be able to take those stage 2 Pokemon down, I believe, 30 HP. So that actually helps us soften up something like a Gardevoir EX, where Pikachu can go in and start being able to take these knockouts here. But also has Crispin. Okej, no teraz tu się pojawia cały zgrzyt, bo Trzeba Arvena. Arven wydał deseczkę, żeby wycofać Tatsugiri, chyba że jest on już na łapie, to... Ale dobra, no chodzi tutaj sobie Tatsugiri. Szukamy sobie supportera. No i... Fail. Czy ona ma Arvena w łapie? No chyba widzę, że nie ma, bo chyba będzie trzeba spalić Crispina. Tak, chyba będzie palony Crispin. Ach, ten moment, kiedy tak ci zależy na użyciu Joltika, że... Musimy palić Crispina, który być może by się przydał do innego Pokemona.
I'm always saying it's not safe these days to just play Latias. You need another way out, but it is just
Zresztą
going
też
to be
tak teoretycznie, z drugiej jednak strony gardy już grają te.
Joltik and then the jolting charge here, which is going to allow for us to search the deck for 2 grass energy and 2 lightning energy and throw it anywhere we want to realistically.
And I think that
Czy ona gra Pikachu?
throw
Czy
all of
gra?
it onto Iron Hand EX.
Ja tak się zastanawiam, czy jest potrzebne na pewno 2.
Sets up for Ampy very much. And if Henry
Ja mam tego jednego Pikachu.
by evolving these raw
Znałem życie, mam pewnie
very devastating.
dużo do tego setupu, ale
Take multiple prize cards, not only setting Henry Chow
no ja też jestem trochę zrażona, trochę do elektrycznych deków. Okej, mamy gardę, mamy Team Evo.
We did draw into energy and technical machine
Co,
evolution.
research?
Problem is Diana already has boss
Znaczy,
orders
na
in
pewno.
hand for next turn, and Henry doesn't have another supporter aside from Professor's research here. It's going to be a very interesting choice, right? Because we just
Okej.
it's safe to leave Mew in the active as of right now.
Tutaj
Our
będzie
price
Team
doesn't go all the way
Evolution.
unless we find
Mew.
something like a future
I tutaj
booster
mamy
energy capsule,
Artazol.
which there is one in the deck.
Artazol wyszukuje oczywiście Pokemony, które nie zawierają ruleboxa. No i research.
Guys might not know is that it plays a very high supporter count for Crispin, for Arvin, for Boss. We're really just going as aggressive as possible to find whatever we need. But it is going to be the Professor's research for turn. We do have the secret box in hand, Adam.
Yeah, so after the Professor's research, you can draw a lot of fodder, maybe some psychic energy to discard to the secret box. It's always a little risky to draw cards when you're about to go for TM Evolution.
Okej.
Those evolution Pokemon
Artazol jest używany?
So if you draw them into the hand, you can't get the Evo.
Po
But that's kind
kolejną
of fine,
chyba
right? The Rolls
małpę?
came down last turn. You can manually evolve into Curly and then use TM Evo to
No wiecie, mamy jedną
EX,
małpę do,
meaning that is what
do
Henry
brudnych
Chow's looking for.
biznesów.
This one's going to be interesting because we know Henry is using the technical machine evolution here, where we're going to be able to evolve both Ralts into the Curl.
Ha, pali Artazol i mamy 2 Kirlie. I mamy jeszcze oczywiście górę, która ma być kontrą na pulty i gardy. Aha, dobra. A tak, to jest z Miraidona, dobra. To jest z Miraidona, więc jest spoko. No i tu mamy oczywiście Pika. Pikachu.
Gardevoir EX into the active, slam down Gravity Mountain, that would be a massive 2-prize swing. But
very threatening indeed. We talked yesterday about discipline, right?
Może
Being
będzie
able to
za
play
trap?
patiently, especially in a
Czy
matchup
będzie
where
zagrywany
you're supposed
boss?
to be the aggressor. Is Diana
Znaczy
gonna
na
go
pewno
for,
tutaj
is there
retreat,
gonna go for another
chyba
jolting
boss
charge? But nope, just gonna go right for the aggressive.
z małpą, o.
Iron Hands EX taking down Monkey Dory. This means that the damage potential of Gardevoir EX to respond to this is going to be much lower. And amp you very much for 120 lines up perfectly into Monkey Dory.
Dobra, no.
Definitely don't want to see the double monkey combo, right? Of double Adrenabrain. And I think that is what
Okej,
Diana
mamy
is
oczywiście też...
Wow, and a Bravery Charm.
Yeah, just trying to safeguard this Iron Hands as much as possible, and instead of just saying, you know what, I'll just wait, or I'll just let
Eli
the Iron
tak.
Hands go down, preventing
Tak.
Adrenabrain as well. So it is going to be the
Okej,
next
mamy
one is basic
Stretchera.
energy off the top of the prizes here. So if she
No
were to
okej,
lose
to jest
that,
Erten Wessel z
she
energią.
doesn't have to pull for something like a Pheasantipity too, but back on over to Henry.
O, ale to jest bażant.
Setting up with 2 Psychic Energy out of the deck. Has Curlia's in play. I don't think there was a Gardevoir EX in hand just yet, but needs to find something to strike back against the Iron Hands EX. Gardevoir is only first piece of the puzzle.
Jest też oczywiście, no chyba znany wam dobrze Secret Box, który stał się chyba już w gardzie standardem. No dobra, Evolution, kolejny Wessel z energią.
We do have the secret box in hand, so we can grab an item, a tool, a supporter, and a stadium here. Could it just be trying to even up the prizes with something like a counter catcher onto that lone Miraidon EX?
No i tutaj co ciekawe,
You know, some funky math happens as we learned yesterday.
Czyli na pewno ma Stretchera, aby wziąć gardę i Monkey Dory. Chyba, że Monkey Dory weźmie z... Dobra, jest. Dobra, mamy wszystkie energie w discardzie, więc no to musi być mocne. Czy idziemy po Drifluma?
Bravery Charm is being found from the secret box alongside an earthen vessel.
Research.
And what do we have for stadiums in this?
Ma
Just
sens.
got artisans, right? I
Gotcha.
mean, it's all about that setup, if anything. We know that we
I
want to
Artaso, okej. A jaki inny stadion? Artaso albo Drifluma.
So it is going to be finding the Drifloon here who can absolutely hit those big numbers
Okej.
here. It'll be about what
Ma
this
to
research
sens.
gives us, 'cause
No
as
i
of right now, we don't have a
Steczar
guarantee
pogardę,
of
którą
yet.
wcześniej
Grabbing
zdyskardowaliśmy.
an earthen vessel off of the secret box rather than an ultra ball or something means it's going to be.
There it is.
Tak jest,
I
Igarda.
see Night Stretcher. He had one stashed in the discard pile. Night Stretcher brings Gardevoir EX to the hand, evolves up, and now has access to Psychic Embrace with the Bravery Charm. Drifloon is going to receive tons of energy now, and its Balloon Blast attack does
O
30
tak.
each damage
No to trzeba naładować na nowo Hensa tak naprawdę.
300 damage, plenty
No
to
dobra,
take down the
Evolution
Iron
dla
Hands.
samego
I love
spalenia.
really attaching this TM Evolution because once the turn ends,
I
it's going to be
nokautujemy.
discarded.
And replaying very safely too. I mean, had the research in hand, but did not need it. But here is Drifloon taking a massive.
Znaczy to jest ten Rezol, ale Rezol chyba nie jest potrzebny.
Return here. If we want to just attract some customers at this point, we definitely have the option available to us. But this is what I was worried
No
about,
dobra.
right, Adam? Once the Iron Hands went down, what do we have now? We have a Pikachu that can't attack all the way. We're gonna
Okej,
use that
mamy
Nest Ball
kolejnego
because if we
Tatsugi.
get
No, znowu
drawn,
ponowny jest
we
ten
have plenty of
Tatsugiri.
cards to
Chyba
look at
wystawiamy
this
oczywiście
turn.
Fazan z Kibidi, aby
Unless
dobrać
we're gonna
kolejne
go power up the
potencjalne
Miraidon,
karty.
that's not even the safest choice that we can attack with here. It's gonna be a little bit odd.
Yeah, Miraidon EX can also pull one lightning Pokemon out of the deck with Tandem Unit just to thin a bit more before drawing.
Agarda se radzi z wrednymi buildami jak Joltik Boxy dużo lepiej, bo też wystarczy, że wejdzie Drifloon i nie ma zmiłuj.
What energies are still available because 4 just went to the discard pile. Needs to make sure there's still enough left in the deck to even use that
No jest
supporter.
tak. No to jest ten XP Share.
At least wearing the EXP share as a tool, right? Because then we could have just
Czy
attacked for
będzie
turn and
jakiś
then we got
Crispin?
Boss's orders
Okej,
onto the
jest
Fezzik.
Arven
We
i
could have at least
Crispin
taken
w
down the Gardevoir
wyborze.
EX and brought us down to a 2-prize game, but it's looking a little bit odd here as Diana is eyeing up the Crispin to use. We're going to be able to
Co, i
take
będzie...
basic energy of 2 different types, very key important fact.
Dobra, to trochę będzie
One goes to
ciężko.
hand,
No.
one gets
Akurat
free
Garety już nie
access
grają
to any
bossów.
of our Pokemon. But as we can see with Pikachu as the only, somewhat powered up
No
attacker
jest
right now,
Crispy,
just
tylko
enough
jest
for
problem.
Pikachu, I think.
And with its Topaz
Ale
Bolt, it
na
has the metal
wszystko,
already,
ale...
one grass and one lightning. So Crispin is able to find both of these. And just after evaluating the 2, 3 lightning energy in the discard pile right now, 1 in the hand. I believe there's still 1 more in the deck. Now, it's important because you still have attachment for turn.
Yep.
So as long as there's a grass in there, Crispin can get it out.
This is weird
Ooh.
because I would consider along the lines of trying to find a
Steelbookową wersję
Galvantula
bym sobie
and
kupiła,
trying to
jakbym...
use the Galvantula to at least do something
Jakbym
like
była
a,
szalona.
a single prize knockout.
Czemu się ona różni?
We have it here, but I think Diana
No to
is
kusi.
just going to not even use the Crispin
Chyba
and
też
just
jest to
offer
dość...
jolting charge. We'll see what exactly she's going
Jeez,
for here.
to wygląda
Maybe the
dobrze.
Tandem to snake out
Nie wiem, czy
some
to nie
more
jest sklep,
Pokemon.
który
I
się
can
promuje
only
na
imagine it would be the
TikToku.
second Iron Hands. What do you think?
Znając siebie, będę tak jemnięty. Przegrywem... O! Chcę Castlevania kupić, tylko... No Castlevania mam.
For the Pokemon that you are setting up. This is a very telegraphed play. You don't want to send the Pikachu into the active spot just to take down a Drifloon and discard all of its energy. And there weren't any other attackers in a proper situation to take over for the Iron Hands once it was defeated. So Diana
Czy jest
is going
góra?
to try to go defensive, try to prep for the next stage of the game. And while this is very shaky, it can be a perfect punish.
Instead of Crispin going for the Arven here, I would love to see the EXP share get at least thrown down because if this Joltik doesn't get knocked out, right, we're assuming that the Jolting charge is going to be throwing some energy around the board here too. I would love to at least see the transfer of energy somewhere, but Diana pulling out that future booster energy capsule, which does give Iron Hands a little bump in its damage output, but it also gives it free retreat as well. And I know for me, I loved using this card, especially versus something like a Pidgeot B that you can actually amp for 2 prizes. Fuck
That is a very important decision, certainly. We'll see if the EXP share, just having that extra attachment of energy carrying over into the future is exactly
Znaczy, XP Share'a ona ma przy sobie. Tak w zasadzie, więc tak, no chyba raczej XP Share będzie ataczowany. Tak, no i zobaczymy, ile mamy jeszcze energii. No dobra, są dwie trawiaste.
Could have used Super Rod there too, Adam. I know we had it in hand at least. Yeah, we had Super Rod in hand to fish back some of that energy there, but it is just going to be the attachment for 3. Now, would you split this into 2 Pokemon, or would you
Czy co, nie
put it on
zbędkowało?
just one? I think we have our answer.
Okay, so Pikachu EX is being established, and 1 grass energy. If this was Super Rod, having another lightning energy here to put onto the Iron Hands would be great. So at least
Raczej, no tak, Henry oczywiście wie, że raczej nie zone-shotuje. Artazol idzie po małpę. Małpa, no, małpa.
On EX or something to go down as you prep the rest of these attackers to take the rest of the game.
Well, Henry automatically fishing out his Monkey Dory thanks to Artisan here. You can only imagine
No tak, mamy małpę.
Adrenabrain.
Czy jest o to, czy jest...
Jo!
Wow! Dobra.
Yeah, it's the most obvious one, but sometimes players like to be a little bit more cheeky and do something along the lines of trying to soften up that resolute hard ability on
No dobra, to jest ten Pikacz. Znaczy tak, no Pikacza on na pewno nie zone-shotuje tak łatwo. Poczekaj, że ten... No, wydaje, że on gra te klasyczne bossy. No dobra. No Rezolo w tym etapie nie jest potrzebny. O, czyli nie ma bossów, z czego co ja słyszę z komentujących. Tak, no już brak bossów w gardzie już jest standardem. Chyba będzie Screamtail? Czy Clefairy? O! No dobra, będzie druga garda. Trzeba się zabezpieczyć. Znaczy na pewno nie zone-shotuje tego Pikacza. Chyba wiem, o co to będzie Kaman. No, raczej tak. Tak, no bo tutaj się uaktywniła abilitka właśnie Resolute Heart, który oczywiście... No i chyba to może być taki moment, w którym... No dupa. No bo jak wejdzie małpa, nie ma zmiłuj. Znaczy ma bossa, okej, boss w gardę. Lecimy z górą. Mamy górę, która zmniejsza oczywiście stage 2 Pokemonom o 30. Co też oznacza, że jest idealny one shot. No i jest zabezpieczony XP Share'em, okej. Chyba dlatego też Henry ewoluował, wiedział doskonale po prostu. No i Super Road.
And this just comes down to the fact that Diana was forced into sort of that in-between turn of going for the second jolting charge. You want to go for a Super Rod to get more energy off of that attack, or maybe have an EXP share set up so that way you don't need to take a turn off. In that way, this deck is similar to old Raging Bolt, where it wants to go for a clean two prizes. And taking a turn off.
Czyli tak, chyba na pewno będzie Monkey Dory.
Gardevoir goes down and 2 prizes over to Diana, 2 prize cards remaining, and it's over to Henry Chow. Adrenabrain ready to clean up Pikachu EX, and then just one more swing into a 2 prize Pokemon to end it all.
Okej. Ale no będzie Stretcher po małpę. To będzie ciekawe na małpa i Na pewno będzie jakieś Iono. Tak, stretcher.
Professor's research gonna pitch all that
Okay.
Iono, but it's because Henry Chow knows exactly what he needs and wants to find it here. Draws 7.
Counter Catcher?
There
Oh,
is
Screamtail.
Snippety. Screamtail's also a big option.
Yep, so moving, here we go. This is the math here. Moving 10 to the active to take 2 prize cards here. Honestly, it's very scary to have Diana promote anything, right?
Okej, dobra, będzie chyba atak ze Screamtaila i atakujemy w Tatsugiri. Więc pierwszą rundę wygrywa Henry Chow. No. A ja muszę znaleźć jakiś tak. No ja poszukam tego Luxury Cape'a. No bo jak zwykle gdzieś się pokitrały te rzeczy. To najlepsze jest to, że są rzeczy, które lubią się skitrać.
When you lose your only attacker that's fully set up, right? What do we do after? It's really hard to say. I mean, Diana was really stuck between a rock and a hard place.
A, chyba w tym, no, Gardevoir znowu dostarcza. Jeszcze jak, uwierzcie mi, jeszcze jak. Jak bardzo dostarcza. No, jeszcze ten, wykorzystując jeszcze tą mobilitkę cudownie. Onto the Pikachu, just had everything settled. But Henry Chow is going to mulligan here, so Diana is going to get an extra turn, or a extra card. Excuse me. Imagine extra turn. Oh my god, that'd be crazy.
But I mean, a deck like this, you do want that extra card draw. You know,
Yeah.
It's going to give you the chance of maybe saving your nest ball for Dippy in the mid game. Maybe it's the one extra draw you need to find your supporter.
I like the
Joltik, that EXP share. There's a lot of important pieces that Diana is going to need to guarantee the strongest opening for this Miraidon box. And Henry Chow going for another mulligan, giving Diana another card.
Adam, did you see that hand? It was crazy. There was tons of search there with the opening secret box as well.
Kiedy jak to kupię, to nie mam życia.
Right? And it was already inside the hand as well. That would have guaranteed a ton of setup, especially
Ale nie wiedziałem, że Ubisoft też wydawał trójeczkę. To się zdziwiłem, że trzecia część została wydana przez Ubisoft. Ale to, znając moje zapędy do szalonych rzeczy, no mamy więcej.
How it's going to be resolved, but Diana
Czy to jest remaster, no.
more energy off the mulligan. That one's gotta hurt.
Akurat nie tak. A no, 4 trzeba kupić i do tego 1, która też nie jest jakieś... Nie wiem, czy kupowałeś na PS4, czy... Okej, jest małpeczka.
Just the darkness energy as well to attach to that. He did this turn 1, but there's a matter of saving it because of TM evolution that's in the hand. I love attaching it to the Drifloon here. It's right over to Diana Duddy.
Drawing another energy, and it doesn't matter what Miraidon looks. It doesn't matter what Miraidon looks like in any format, Adam. It's just you're gonna draw the energy no matter what. Whether they're different colors is one thing here, but here comes the opening prize check here from Diana Duddy using this Arven here, and honestly, nothing too tragic. A little bit of ball search,
nie najgorzej, 2 nestbole. Ja już, memem jest już 2 Joltiki w prizach. Chociaż nestbola i tak pewnie się gra więcej niż jednego. Kupunciarze są też szaleni z tym.
So this is all set up beautifully. Now that Iron Hands can get out of the active spot, Nestball can grab Miraidon, Tandem Unit pulls Joltik, and then the Jolting Charge with all of the energy that is in the hand. I think there's still plenty enough left in the deck for the Jolting Charge to target, but Henry Chow's already threatening with the Adrena Brain. Diana might feel more comfortable from this position simply because that darkness energy is attached to the Drifloon, and the chances of having another one are a bit lower.
The thing is, though, I believe Henry does have Artisan in hand, so we can at least guarantee the second Ralt here. Diana doing a very quick energy count, because once again, all of that energy is in the hand. Now, granted, this Joltik box does play one copy of Iona. We definitely want to throw all of that energy back into the deck somehow.
O Boże, ile
It's just a
energii.
little bit clunky, and that's a lot of the times what a lot of these aggro decks can struggle with. Hey, I have all the pieces in my hand, or hey, I've committed to this
Dobra,
one
jest Miraidon.
Pokemon. When it goes down, what do I
No
do
i Miraidon
after?
idzie po
But there's that
Joltika
Miraidon
i
EX using its
coś
tandem
tam
movement
jeszcze.
to find Joltik and Pikachu EX. The same squad as last time. Let's see if we get a different result.
No, Pikachu.
Arvin has already been used to grab the Future Booster Energy Capsule. Hopefully Diana will be able to pick up EXP share, just adjusting the game
Ciekawe, chyba to...
little bit to account for
No, widzę, że ten Joltik nie gra tego Latiasa.
Be aggressive early and keep up your momentum. That is the key to victory with this Joltik box. And after one jolting charge, those energies that were eyed up earlier are pulled from the deck and are going to be assigned. And all four are going onto Iron Hands EX.
Chyba wszystko leci chęcy.
It's just coming down to the fact that, how do we say this? Eggs in a basket, if you will. We're putting all of our eggs in the Iron Hands basket, which feels right? But if we were able to, you know, pick up Crispin off of Pokegear, we could next turn potentially start getting Pikachu lined up as well, or maybe even a second Iron Hands.
Okej, tu mamy researcha.
Henry's turn, finding that professor's research and placing down that Artisan, so
Taki Candy?
or guaranteeing our setup.
Oho, on gra
There's actually
pafinki
a Buddy
normalnie.
Off in here too, so honestly, not a crazy turn because we didn't find technical machine. Oh, we did find technical machine evolution actually. It's
Dobra, i
actually,
chyba jest jeszcze
so
jeden
this is
Ralt,
honestly
tak?
a pretty good turn coming up. Already has counter catcher in hand too.
And you can see Henry Chow is trying to play as quickly as possible. There's 24 minutes left on the clock, and Gardevoir can
A,
get
dobra.
stuck into
Czyli jeszcze jeden Ralcik
so
wchodzi,
many
no bo
there,
to
so
trzeba
many
się
moving
zabezpieczyć,
parts
no i
that
wchodzi ten
eat up a lot of the
Technical
clock.
Machine
Chow
Evolution
is,
po dwie
you know,
Curie.
skilled
Znowu
enough
trzeba się
to
zabezpieczyć
make it
przed
work, but remember, folks, Secret
rączkami.
Box is a
No,
surprise card
aha,
in this
Secret
game.
Box w prizach.
Yeah, it's just not going to be able to get whatever
No,
you want.
chyba też niektóre buildy wracają trochę do Technical Machine Evolution. No, co innego może ewoluować? No właśnie.
We also do need to discard the technical machine evolution off of Drifloon as well. It does go into the discard
Czyli
pile
tak,
after.
no
There's a
tutaj
boss's
jest chyba
orders.
tylko
It's
Crispin.
not gonna be that Crispin, and Adam, I would really love to see a Crispin
I tyle.
turn. We're
Nie
gonna
ma...
get two prizes
A,
no matter
Boss's
what,
Order
right?
i Crispin.
I think I would rather just
Crispin.
save the Crispin, get Pikachu ready to go, and then try and find the Gravity Mountain boss combo on Gardevoir EX next turn.
There is tons of energy in the hand, but it looks like there should be still plenty in the deck. At least one metal, of course, to get off of Crispin to prepare the Pikachu. There, of course, is always the punishing play because the Joltik box all went onto the Iron Hands to power that up.
Yeah.
Maybe trying to split those energies so you remain a bit flexible.
See, they're grabbing the metal here and grabbing the Psychic as well. So we could just manual attach for turn using one of the
Okej,
grass
co
or
tu się
lightning
dzieje? No
energies
dobra,
within the
Pikachu
hand,
dostaje
but
attach.
Psychic is going to go to hand. I'm interested to see if we're going to be able to find anything. The cards are so hard to pick up off the table, folks. I mean, I played on that table once, and I was just, the cards are slipping everywhere. It's so difficult to pick things up. We'll see where the attack turn is going to go. Know that we have Pheasantipity waiting in the wings as well, but it's just, it's so
A nie,
painful to
Chris...
see all
A,
the
to
energy
jedna
in
była
the
z
hand.
Crispina i
Like I
druga z
said,
ręki, tak?
Pre-rotation, post-rotation, all the energy
No
just
i
goes
chyba
in the hand
Amp
no matter what.
w tego
There's a
Drifluma.
retreat of Joltik, Iron Hands EX, and it knock out the Drifloon. And what's nice about knocking out Drifloon is while you'd like to hunt down the Monkey Dory like you did in the last game, this just forces Henry Chow to find that extra resource of having the Night Stretcher to recover.
Okej, jest już
There
Ampie
is a
very
chance that even with Gardevoir EX, the Drifloon might not line up here. And if Henry Chow misses a step against an Iron Hands Ampie very much, getting another rep in the active spot could force this to a game 3.
We have all the tools that we need, Adam. I see the Bravery Charm already in hand. I see the Counter Catcher in hand as well to even things up. All I can probably
okej,
ask for is
Ultra
that we try
Ball.
and maybe use we
Z
got
czarmem?
Night Stretcher to get Drifloon back, because Drifloon's going to be the one that hits those big, massive numbers, but I don't think I see a Night Stretcher in the hand.
Yeah, and Arvin is being used to grab an Ultra
Ultra Ball
Ball,
z
so Henry
Evo?
Chow is
A, on gra
thinking about
3
Gardevoir,
Evolution.
grabbing TM Evolution
Interesting, jeden jest sprajzowany, ale chyba Evolution na tym etapie nie będzie potrzebny.
Just to get two Gardevoir EX in play, just thinning this out of the deck, of course, because the Bravery Charm, as you mentioned, Emily, is already in the hand.
Right. I do just want to say while we're doing these decisions that Puka has updated us here on the desk, and Piper will be making top
jest
cut.
Barzant.
Labella lost and is out. But honestly, I'm excited to see where we're going with that. The Ultra Ball will find Pheasantipity, so we definitely
Jest
want to be seeing
Barzant,
as many
okej.
cards as possible here. Like we said, Pheasantipity, draw 3,
Jest. Okej, są dwa Ultra Bole i jest Wesel. No to chyba widzę, że Wesel
I mean, there's a lot of strong pieces there, but maybe you don't need this Ralts. Maybe you Ultra Ball away the other Ultra Ball. The TM Evo was already grabbed ahead of time.
Znaczy tak, najpierw Wesel.
It's going to be Earth and Vessel first to grab 2 Psychic Energy from the deck, or maybe 1 Dark Energy, depending on what Henry Chow is cooking. You always can, if you get Psychic Embrace, use Adrenabrain to take down the Joltik.
On sobie jeszcze podliczę tę energię.
The one card that I am not seeing, however, is still a
Widzę, że ten build nie gra już Ichiponen.
It feels like everything is just so close.
Czy akurat Henry Chow uznał, że no nie potrzebuje budewa? Czy zawsze można iść na sprawdzonym buildzie? Okej, 2, dobra. Sklepie to dużo nie zajdzie.
That Iron Hands is still going to get 2 prizes here, and now that we have this Pikachu backed up and ready to go, as long as we find Gravity Mountain, that's going to lead to profit here.
Okej,
So
i
we'll see what Henry
Garda.
Chow pieces together. Just another update from Mr. Puka, Dominic Viola, Aban Ahmed, and Ray Chen all won and will be making Top Cut. We will be seeing Toad Scroll EX and Top Cut, Adam.
Co? Turc Cruel? What the fuck? Czy byście to słyszeli? Rogue Deck? Turc Cruel w top 16? What the fuck? Nie no, ciekawiej być już nie może. Oho, 2 gardy. Tutaj trzeba. Przezorny, zawsze ubezpieczony. Attach Ritit? To jest samą gardę? Okej, widzę, że tutaj jest spryt. It's a trap. Okej, widzę, że chyba jest to tylko po to, żeby nie aktywować Feza. Ajajaj. Sprytne. No i Pokegear, jest boss. No chyba boss i Crispin.
I don't believe this deck has a way to search out Gravity Mountain, correct? Just needs to get it naturally.
Boss?
Knockouts were taken.
Idziemy po bossa czy po Crispina? To jest pytanie. No energii mamy już w gród.
Even though the Gardevoir is at 250 HP, the Pikachu can just swing on it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't even need it, but going to grab the boss's orders, thinning the deck here. I don't see us using it here. I think one of the things that Joltik Box
Znaczy tak, tutaj istotna rzecz, tutaj tym razem Małpy Szympansik został oczywiście zabezpieczony uprzednio. Boss po Feza. Chyba Ampress.
Definitely don't have enough to do something like a full moon rondo with Lily's Clefairy, but it looks like Diana
dobra, Pikachu.
Here onto the Pheasantipity EX instead of the Gardevoir EX.
And the reason to take down this Pokemon versus just the Gardevoir is that there's a second Gardevoir in play regardless.
Yep.
And I think you want to limit Henry Chow's ability to find that second Monkey Dory, right? That's going to be very devastating to set up a multi-prize comeback.
Okej, jest jeszcze Ursaluna, chyba przygotowana już pod konkret. Ty, muszę chyba zobaczyć tego Turckurela, bo był w Day One. A, źle jest ten Turckurel. Właśnie, musimy zobaczyć tego Turckurela, bo to będzie jazda. Okej.
maybe even just something along lines of hand disruption.
Yeah, the hand was just Monkey Dory and
To
Counter Catcher.
działa.
Doesn't have anything else to play around with because there's no flip the script. Just goes for another Miracle Force onto Pikachu EX, leaving it with 10 HP thanks to Resolute Heart.
Ooh,
Well, actually, 190 is 190.
Oh boy. And maybe even
Well,
that's the thing, right? You
So
commit.
Galvantula hits play. Tell us about this card.
Yeah, this one's gonna be a little bit weird, right? So
Aha, to ja takie weird.
thanks to our ability Compound Eyes, do 50 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon that has an ability, right?
Okay.
So Gardevoir EX does have the ability here, and then Shocking Web is here, and if any lightning energy is attached, this attack does 80 more. So Adam, help me with the math here. So it's going to be
180, right?
Yep.
No, jest ten Raychen z Podlesinem
About
było.
Galvantula, I thought that this was just a way to
No też kobietka.
Joltik didn't immediately get
Ja wiem, kto
knocked
gra
out by
tu.
Adrenaline, but this has a little bit more utility. Is there any reason to attack with Galvantula in this situation, or are we pivoting back to Iron Hands?
And maybe just a single prizer, right? I mean, single prizer, all
Mhm.
okay, all good here. But I think we're just going to go for a little bit more of this damage with something along the lines of
Dobra,
Hard Press.
press,
Thanks
okej.
to the future booster capsule, I believe that energy or that damage is going to go up to 180
I
compared to
chyba
its
będzie
160
stretcher
base,
po...
because it is a plus 20. We'll see what Henry can do, but Diana's on 2 prize cards left. She could take this game.
And Henry Chow has Night Stretcher for the turn, is making a decision to get back
Okej,
to
no
Rip
zaraz.
Mode, maybe pull a Darkness Energy back to the hand to
Dobra,
trigger a
retreat.
Brain.
No bo chyba widzę, że
Retreat
będziemy
Dark Heart
atakowali
looks
z samą
like
gardą.
is going to be the pickup to punch into this
Małpa?
Iron Hands with a single prizer. But no, it's going to be Monkey Dory. I see. Just go for the Mind Bend, take the knockout.
Okej,
here,
Monkey Dory
save that
robi
Night
confuse.
Stretcher for the perfect time. With 2 cards off the prizes, gives Henry Chow a little bit more options.
Here's the thing, and once again, Adam,
No i w
we're
końcu
back
mogę
on the same
wystawić
start
tego
we had from
bażanta.
last game. There's no
Zalagał
energy
mi
on board
w łapie.
except for this Galvantula.
No tak, właśnie widzę, no
So we
bo
could
to było to
absolutely
przed
switch
chwilą
back to
właśnie
Monkey
z
Dory
tym
and get the knockout
Tort
here,
Cruel
essentially
versus
without that
Podles.
lightning energy.
Podoba mi się to, że
What do we
akurat
do after,
graczka
right? We just assume
Tort
that our
Cruela
Gardevoir EX
akurat
is going to
ma
come
te...
back and start swinging here, but
A,
here
on
comes
jeszcze
flip
jest
the
grany
script.
ten
I would
Baby
love to
Tort
see
Cruel,
Iono,
który
I would
blokuje
love to
nam
see
wyjmowanie
Crispin even, but it's just more
itemów.
energy. There is the Iono. So we could use the Galvantula this turn, shuffle all that energy back into the deck, but the problem is you know that Henry's hand isn't too great either.
The issue here
No dobra.
is just figuring out what to attack with. I mean, Galvantula is ready to go. Latios EX still in the active spot, so you can retreat into that and swing on the Monkey Dory, right? It does have an ability, so Compound Eyes does
Podoba mi
work
się
here.
to przerobienie Ultra Pro na tego Shamina.
Mycelium ability.
No szkoda, że
basically
ten... No nie.
With Iono, I kind of like,
Done
normally
to
you
your
don't
Pokemon
want to
by your
take
opponent's
a
Pokemon if they have
slower
energy
turn of
attached.
just taking
So
one
stuff like
prize
Dragon
Ale podobno ta
but I
pani, Rachel,
set, Henry Chow down to
która grała
four
Tort
cards
z Cruelem,
No, just takes the knockout, wants to keep the rest of the hand, wants to keep these energies.
See what's going to happen here. Henry Chow has to find a way to protect this Gardevoir
Okay.
as much as possible here. I mean, if Henry doesn't take a knockout onto this Galvantula, it's going to be rather hard to power up our Blood Moon Ursaluna with something like a Crispin, because you can't
Stretcher
Crispin
po co?
bosses.
Po Feza? Mhm.
There's that Night Stretcher, and instead of Drifloon, it's actually going to be for Fezandipity, because we absolutely want to see more cards here.
Co, Iono po
Diana
jedną?
seemed to pick up on that Henry Chow's hand, was pretty dead, didn't go for the Iono, also wants to keep, I believe, Boss's Orders is still in her hand.
Znaczy ma Counter Catchera, okej, Wesa z... Tutaj Lili z Klafery, okej. No czasami Lili też może być dobra, akurat nie tylko na buty.
Okay.
Could get Pikachu EX technically out. We were to Adrenabrain the damage off of Gardevoir EX onto the Pikachu onto the bench. That would be one way to get 2 prize cards. But the problem is that this Galvantula is still in the active. Oh wait, hold on, Adam. Do we still have Counter
Dobra.
The counter catcher is still there. It wasn't disrupted with
Znaczy tak,
Iono.
Counter Catcher
After
jest
the
tu
Earth Investment, getting
aktywny.
another Darkness Energy, one Night Stretcher's been used, and Reach Out seems to be cooking up something.
No i zrobię co robi.
Find our second Monkey Dory. Follow me here. If we're able to find our second Monkey Dory, we use one Adrenabrain for the Pikachu EX, and then
Chyba były małe budę
potentially
włosy.
find a way to Adrenabrain more onto something like this Latios EX. That could be 4 prizes right there. So here's that first one. He will be able to
Ten
drop
rozkoton,
Super Box
który
off
się
prizes
dostał
here,
tu
and
z
you can tell
Cerulerzem,
Henry's
no.
starting to move a little bit quicker here, has the counter catcher in hand. I believe we can get there, Adam. It's just all about thinking about how we do this correctly.
Okej.
Night stretcher.
No dobra,
for
no.
something like Scream Tail potentially. There's so many routes. What do you see?
Yeah, the Night Stretcher's definitely picked up. Counting
Podlicza
the
energię
amounts of
widzę,
energy
no
that's
dobra.
remaining in the deck, the Scream Tail
Czyli
is
tak,
being
stretcher.
eyeballed. 2 prizes remaining for Henry Chow because of that Adrenabrain, and now just needs to
Czyli
take
co,
out the
lecimy po
Latios or the
Drifluma?
Vesicivity, 210
Stretcher
HP
po
apiece.
Drifluma.
And no, it's gonna be
Mamy
Drift
Charma.
coming up because Counter
Counter
Catcher is still available.
Catcher.
Vesicivity comes to the active spot, and all of the energy being attached,
Retreat.
retreated from Gardevoir, and Drift
No i
is here
chyba
to claim
wszystkie
its
energie
final
lecą
victim.
i
Balloon
bum! No i
blast
Henry
for a
Chow wygrywa 2-0.
victory for Henry Chow.
That is
Fajny, taki trudny matchup dla Gardy.
regional champion right there, and you saw it just
Taki
on
solidny,
the
no na
table.
papierze to
My
wiecie,
goodness,
I'm
the way
very
that
much, a
Henry
potem
plays so disciplined, right? Just
potem biedny Hens musi cierpieć.
There, I think that when
Tak.
he went for the first Adrenabrain, he knew I need to get like secret box. I need to get gold off of these prize cards to keep the rest of this turn
Chyba
going.
chcę
And he
zobaczyć
came
tego
through and he immediately
Blessing
shifted into
versus
overdrive to close out.
Yeah, absolutely. When you see the
to
line,
bym
right?
chciała
When Secret Box
zobaczyć.
essentially gives you whatever you want, it just feels really good to see. And Henry Chow being able to pull that off of the prizes just does it for him, right? And that is the power of Monkey Dory. I believe Monkey Dory was Kyle's pick as well, proving why it's just, honestly, it's just one of the best cards in
Wiesz, jak chcę tak
Standard. But let's take a
zmieniać.
look at the replay. Henry Chow winning 2-0, but oh man, was it close.
This is one of the hardest matchups, right? The threat of Iron Hands coming in the active spot, and not only does it take these early prize cards, removing the Monkey Dory, removing the Drift from play, it forces Gardevoir to play at an accelerated pace. And Henry Chow is comfortable with doing that, but will the deck offer the proper cards to facilitate? Adrenabrain, the MVP, taking down Joltik, forcing Diana to promote another Pokemon to take a hit from the Drift
A
list.
wiesz, no,
Yeah, and the
żeby
thing is, when you're
to, że
able to
mi
just
jakieś
stop
OTP nie
how
poszło, to
quickly
też
Joltik Box goes, you are okay on paper. Once again, Ampy very much does the work for you, but it is going to be Henry Chow and Gardevoir that proves no matter how bad people think a matchup is on paper, it does not matter. As long as you love your deck the most, you're able to take these wins. Henry Chow will be moving on. Could he be winning another regional, Adam?
At this point, I wouldn't be surprised. I know that if you win too many tournaments, people start rooting against you just because
No tak,
you're
znowu
like the
Henry
underdog.
Chow.
But Henry Chow, he's
leci na
too pure for
całość.
this world, and his love for Gardevoir is also
O,
pure,
w końcu jest
and it's
przejdź
only
na
paying
kanał.
him back for
Z
all the
ciekawe
time
chyba na YouTubie
and
widzę, że
practice
dodano
he's put in,
aktywność.
especially to consider the Joltik box as the anti-Gardevoir deck, and he's showing that with proper piloting and proper play, you can take the
Ności na
multi-prize
kanale.
cards you need to keep that prize trade even and close
Usadzenie
it all
tymczasem,
out.
nie ma.
Absolutely great showing from Henry, but of course a great showing from
Ej,
Diana as
właśnie
well.
ciekawe,
I
bo
believe
mam
that's
nowe
actually the first time we're
systemy
gonna see Joltik
moderarskie.
Box on the stream as well. Like I said, it was my caster pick, but it's still a good pick. I mean, Diana has made it truly very far in this tournament, and when you're able to kind of stop the setup of a lot of these slow building decks, what do? Nothing.
Yeah, and it's Diana. Congratulations to her for making it so far. Just
Ty,
on
nowa
second
siostra.
regional and bringing the Joltik box.
No
You know, a
właśnie
deck
jestem.
that even though it's considered very straightforward, oh haha, I've got my 4 energy on Iron Hands, there I go. But we
No
saw
zobacz, ale Garda
how
jest
much
sprytniejsza,
there
jak
was
widać.
to set up the future turns in the deck and the way to
Garda
select
jest
the proper
piękna
attackers.
deck
And
po prostu.
you know, there's probably some Miraidon players in the audience that are like, okay, maybe this deck is got a little bit more sauce to it than I gave it credit for, or maybe you are seeing these decks being played and you think you can do better. So make sure that you show up, especially with the season closing out, maybe one more last hurrah in NAIC and into the next season to put your hat into the pool.
Miraidon has truly, I think now this variation of Miraidon, and I've been playing Miraidon for a long time, Adam. This is truly the most high roll version of the deck at the end of the day. But as you can see on our lower third, it is going to be Henry Chow advancing to another top cut with Gardevoir. The storylines have been insane. Toadscruel in top cut. John Eng potentially winning Portland again. Henry Chow on his way to lost zoning another invite. So it's exciting, right? I would not want to end the season any other way, Adam.
I am so excited for Henry Chow and to hear a little bit from him. I just got word that he's set up in the line with Chip Ritchie. So let's hear from our potential 4-time regional champion.
Thanks, Adam and Emily. That's right. Standing by here in the lounge with Henry Chow, who has just locked up a spot in yet another
top
Ten
cut
człowiek
this
jest
season.
niemożliwy.
Congratulations on the run once again. You find yourself in yet another top cut, and once again with Gardevoir. How are you feeling?
Ty!
Feeling pretty good. I came to the day at 6-2, which is
Widzę,
sort
że
of a new
Henry Chow
experience for me.
przyszedł
It
do
was
top
a
cutu,
lot of
no.
pressure throughout the day. Had to win 4 in a row, can't even afford a single tie. So it's been really stressful. I feel like I get a little bit of a mental break now that I'm in top cut, but I mean, there's still, I'm probably an asymmetrical cut, so there's probably still 4 more rounds if I want to win the whole thing again.
Znaczy Diana
absolutely. And you're
faktycznie się
putting yourself
starała
now in this
faktycznie,
spot where
tylko
you
że...
could be
No
one of
rzeczywiście
only
Henry,
2 players to ever win.
Znaczy na po pierwsze też faktycznie matchup z Gardą brzmi dla Jolty Boxa dobrze, dopóki... No właśnie. Nie zostanie w pierwszej jakimś Driflumem. Potem jest close. No ja się też trochę Gardy zaczynam uczyć. No ja wiem, że potem trzeba się z nią pożegnać, że przez to, że ja mam dużo staffu, to jednak polubię się z tym deckiem. Znaczy, tak, mam dobre predyspozycje Dragonów, ale Tryczna też mi trochę zbrzydły, pewnie dlatego trochę tylko Jolty Boxa. On mi nie wychodził.
Really was uncomfortable about the Dragapult matchup. The Dragapult matchup was really scaring me. So I want to give a huge shout out to William Azevedo, Pedro Pertusi, Rafael Uiti,
A tak, no też tak jakby Tortscroll jest w topkacie. Tak. Ta osoba, która z milosławem pod Leslinem walczyła.
Just getting the Evos out is by far the most important thing against Badoo, and having multiple copies of Arven and Evo in your deck really helps that. So that was sort of the starting point, and then, you know, once we sort of had the Arvens and the Evos already in there, we like, maybe we can fit a Rapska in here and get that guy out when we're Evoing too, because that deck, that card really stifles a lot of decks in the format right now, particularly Dragapult.
A, Regan Reswell gra Bolty. Calvin Rogerson Taura Boxa?
Pretty drastically over the last couple of tournaments in Zoroark. That deck has seen quite an uptick, and I think traditionally has had a solid matchup into Gardevoir. Do you feel like the Rapska gives you that swing?
Yeah, I mean, one of my best testing partners is Liam Halliburton, who's probably the biggest Zoroark proponent in the game right now. I think the matchup's close. It honestly might still be slightly Zoroark favored, but I will say without the Zoroark, it's really not very good. So
without the Rapska.
Or sorry, without the Rapska, it's not very good. So
Tak,
having the Rapska
Rapska to
definitely
jest
gives you
taki
a chance.
wstępnie tak naprawdę
And really in
do
the Pokemon TCG, especially
nowej
when you get to
mety,
top cut,
no bo
that's
teraz
what you
będzie
need. You need a
shiny,
chance. Give yourself the
będzie
cards
teraz
to
łatwiej.
put yourself in a situation where you could potentially
No
propel
ten
yourself,
Rapska,
propel
no
yourself
to jest
forward
taki
just
wstępny
one
tak
more
naprawdę.
single elimination round. What's been your secret, man? I mean, multiple top cuts now this season. You've
tak,
won
Rapska
3
jest
regional
dość istotne.
championships. You're putting yourself in a position to potentially win
No
that
też
fourth.
wszyscy, nie wiem.
How do you keep finding this
Cisnąć
continued
Rapski.
success, especially with the
Chociaż
single?
teraz będzie shiny.
Well,
Tak.
the secret is the secret box. When you play your ace deck to be the most powerful consistency card in the game, it essentially gives you a perfect turn every game. Like whenever you draw the secret box, obviously it's like turn 1 it's amazing, but you know, even if it's turn 4 or 5, you're going to do exactly what you want with like counter catcher Iono. So I think that no matter how much success I've had with the card, it's still underrated. The card is absolutely incredible, and actually now that I think about it, the game you guys just saw on stream, Secret Box won me the game once again. So the secret is Secret Box.
The secret is in the box. Well, congratulations, Henry. We'll be rooting for you
No,
through this top
tak,
cut.
czyli tak, Henry Chow dostał
Rest
się do
before
top
we get into
cutu.
things, let's get back to the
Ja.
Masters.
A ja muszę wrócić do...
Welcome back to the desk, everyone. That was a fantastic interview from Henry Chow, and he is so
O, ten
confident
Luxray
in his
musi
deck.
jednak
That's
wrócić.
what I love about him. He's just so polished in his gameplay, but he's been telling us the whole time, Secret Box is ridiculous. Was it Henry Chow who was on Hyper Aroma way back in the day when everybody thought that Hyper Aroma was not as good, and he proved us wrong, and then Secret Box came out, and he's just constantly showing everybody the proper way to play Gardevoir.
You just gotta watch him play. It doesn't matter what engine you have in the deck, because I didn't he win with 2 and Zoroarks and a rescue board at one point, right? I mean, it's just Henry Chow and Gardevoir just 2 peas in a pod. But we want to hear from you guys, and we have some tweets that we actually get to look at here just really quickly before our top cut begins. So I'm excited to see what you guys at home are, you know, starting to show us here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pokemon fans, for using that hashtag #PlayPokemon to reach out. This is from Project Artemis. Join us in cheering on our players in Day 2. Callie White, 7-1. Makani Tran, 5-2-1. Gwen Tran. Maria Sumi coming from across the pond at 5-2-1 as well.
Yeah, honestly, shout out to everybody who's been coming to North America from across the
No
world
to
here
może się
too. I
zmienić,
know there was a
ale
heavy
Garda
European
dalej
presence
jest
at this
silniutka.
regional, but big shout outs to Project Artemis as well.
Zgadzimy się,
And their
tak.
leader Eliza. I know their goal is inclusivity, and that that's something you can always get behind.
Yeah, really scrappy new team, but they've been putting up numbers. It's a great training group, and they're right here in Portland. Shout out to all their players that made day 2.
Take a look at the next one here as soon as we get it. Here we go, and that's going to be Danny with these awesome pre-release pulls.
Wow.
I am hunting for that Misty Psyduck here, but of course the Ethan's Ho-Oh EX as well. These are beautiful cards. I cannot tell you guys enough. Go to your pre-releases. They're really fun. It's a low-stakes thing. I know for me, I always tell a lot of people, if you're interested in playing the trading card game and going out there, but you don't want to go to your first local, you can always go to a pre-release, right? It's a 40-card deck, 4 prizes, not too crazy. Get some packs at the end as well, but I love the Art and Destined Rivals. I know we're not just there quite yet, but I'm already cooking up some decks, Adam, for that format.
And that's why you got to go to your pre-releases. That way you can get in a little bit early and see some of these cards before the full set is available. That's what the pre-release is for, and I'm happy for Danny for getting these insane pulls.
Yeah, these pulls are awesome here, too. And here we go. It is going to be teases. Got to see the local legend, Jeremy Jallin, at the coloring corner. If you guys want to meet Jeremy Jallin, he is sitting at the coloring corner right now. And at the top of every hour, this man is teaching you how to do Pokemon origami. So if you want to hang out with Jeremy, he's literally on the floor. So make sure you go say hi. That's the second tweet we've had people meeting Jeremy Jallin. So go over there right now if you're still sitting here waiting for Top Cut to start. Take a picture with Jeremy Jallin and tweet #PlayPokemon. That's going to be a really fun bit.
I want to see a whole album, folks. He's a great guy putting his time into the coloring corner, and it's a great activity. And I'm glad that everybody here is having so much fun whenever they decide to spend some time over there with our boy.
I think it's also important to note, Adam, here too, is that you don't just have to play at a Pokemon regional. I think that's a really big point. Like, you don't have to enter the tournament if you don't want to. There's tons of things for you to do here. Side events. You can watch the stream. You can shop at the vendors. You can color. You can do Pokemon origami. You can play in the side events as well.
They've got Pokemon Puzzle League set up.
Oh, I'll see you there after
old
this
heads
block.
out there.
Oh, come on. It's not that old anyway. There's tons of things for you guys to do at Pokemon Regionals aside from playing the main tournament if that's not your jazz. But let's talk about KJ to Man 11. Day 2 of Portland Regionals. Excited to take in all the battles and see who is on top. And we love Pokemon Go. I know for me, Pokemon Go crowd is always so hype, Adam.
And KJ here with a lot of folks. I love that Umbreon beanie. What is going on, homie? I got to figure out the source. Where did you get that?
The sauce there,
But
too.
yeah, I mean, there's so much nice, like, Pokemon fans, people in cosplays, nice outfits, and Pokemon merch all over the place. This is a celebration of Pokemon, what we all know and love. And I'm glad that he's having a great time here at the regional.
Honestly, like, competition is for everybody, right? That's why we have juniors, seniors, and masters. But of course, Brian here saying thank you to all of the juniors judges here. We love our judges. Make sure you tell your judges thank you. They are putting in tons of work over the weekend to be here and help us run our tournaments. And big shout outs to everybody in this picture. I see some familiar faces here. And just once again, thank your judges. They're always nice people.
Yeah, if you have any worries at all about the tournament, any questions,
Co to fajnego dziś mamy? No, tak. No. Tak, bo dopiero też te niedawno kupiłam tą odpowiednią farmę, która no niestety zaschła.
Emily are going to be looking forward to seeing here in just a few short years. They're going to get into seniors and then into masters division, and that is the beauty of Pokemon. It's just this thing that's been a part of everyone's lives for so many years. The legacy starts here at these big tournaments with our judges nurturing the young talent.
I know for me, my shop junior is here and actually locked up his world's invite from getting a day 2 here at Portland. So big congratulations to Leo here. I believe he was piloting EVBox. And we will be seeing him at Worlds. And now NAIC is a little less stressful. It doesn't matter what division you're in, by the way. There's tough competition all around. I know seniors, for example, is a crazy division where there are tons of strong players. I mean, you got to talk about the first-year Masters that came into this season, right? You have Owen Dalgard, you have Harris Jones, you have Bodie. You have all of these players who are crazy, and they're amazingly great players. So I'm excited to see where they go on their Pokemon journeys.
And when these players, age up into the next division, they sometimes struggle to find their footing. Sometimes they're just off to the races. We know that so many of these seniors have already been in testing groups, have been practicing and being mentored by master players, by veteran players, and they're finding their best game plans and their best selves, right, as Pokemon competitors when they step into these competitions. And it's bigger and better than it's ever been before, folks. We always talk about, you know, oh, 2010, all the great grandfathers here for their favorite formats of the bygone era, but I really want to see these new players pave a way, and then they'll be nostalgically looking back on, oh, do you remember Arceus V-Star, Reggie Drago V-Star?
I love that deck.
I know, put that on my tombstone. V-Star!
Yeah, I know. You were telling me that you played a lot of Dialga V-Star. Can't say I played the same, but still, regardless, there are tons of ways to just play Pokemon. And honestly, I think the official 2010 side event is happening at NAIC, by the way. So I know a lot of people are super stoked for that. I know big shout outs to my locals who actually have 2010 built, and they play every week after we're done playing standard. So honestly, I'm excited to see how exactly this is all going to turn out, Adam.
True. Because the events have gotten bigger, the venues have gotten bigger, we have more space for more of these events, and so many dedicated players who love these specific formats, these specific eras of the Pokemon TCG. We're having side events for 2010, expanded, just retro formats in general.
Gym Leader Challenge.
Yeah, GLC, exactly.
Well,
so make sure that you sleeve up your favorite Pokemon type and show everybody what you got. You know, I still got my fighting deck. I got to upgrade it a little bit, I'm not going to lie, but I've got the Hitmon combo in there. You can check the footage, people. I pulled it off, and that's all that matters to me.
Well, I'm excited to see what is going to happen within our top cut. I mean, we have, I said this yesterday in the lounge, a myriad of decks that is going to be in this top cut, including Toad Scroll EX. I mean, Henry Chow could lost zone another invite. John Ang could win this tournament again for a second time. There's way too many people to root for. I know all of us in the back, we're cheering for our favorite player ourselves here. I know Kyle Sablehouse is going to be running around the venue if John Ang wins. So we'll see how this one is going to go, Adam.
But we're going to see who will join Toad Scroll EX in the top cut when we get back from this short break. So don't go anywhere. We're moving on to the next stage of the tournament, the most important stage of the tournament, to crown our Portland Regional Championship. So sit tight. We'll see you soon.
Chip Ritchie back here in the lounge with Kyle Pukasukovic. We're going to continue to look at some of these older Team Rocket cards and Dark cards and how they compare to the upcoming Team Rocket cards coming out soon in Destined Rivals. And I'm excited to talk about this one because it is incredibly similar. The archetype almost we're going to talk about here. Dark Ampharos, Dark Tyranitar, Dark Pupitar as well getting into the mix. All very similar to the upcoming Team Rockets Ampharos, Tyranitar, and Pupitar. Talk to us about the old versions of these cards and in the competitive scene, you know, how strong they were.
Yeah, for people who are old like me, these really resonate with you as these were some of the iconic cards back in like the mid 2000s. We're talking like 2005, 2006, that era of the Pokemon TCG. The deck was called Rock Lock, which was a catchy name, and it was appropriate because you would use the card Ancient Technical Machine Rock to devolve all your opponent's Pokemon, really similar to TM right now. But yeah, this was like it felt like a lock, right? The Dark Tyranitar has a Pokebody that does damage to your opponent's basic Pokemon between turns, so you would devolve your opponent's Pokemon, they would take some damage, and then the Dark Ampharos had a Pokebody that makes them take damage when they evolve. So if they would get like stuck, it's like they take damage when they evolve, they take damage when they don't evolve, and eventually you would just get your opponent in this position. And so I think a lot of people were excited to see the new ones do a really similar thing, but we'll see if they stack up to the current cards in the Pokemon TCG standard format.
Things are a little bit overall, we got a higher power level than we did back in 2005 for sure. Yeah, one of the interesting things I think about this is you look at the Dark Ampharos Pokebody, and then you look at the Team Rockets Ampharos ability. They're the exact same. They have the exact same name.
Yeah. Yeah, the only difference is it does a couple more damage counters this time to try to scale up for today's game. Yeah, the Dark Tyranitar and the Team Rockets Tyranitar technically different. One's sand damage, sand stream. It's basically the same thing. But yeah, it's also interesting to look at the Dark Pupitar versus the Team Rockets Pupitar. Those have all had similar attacks as well, where they kind of have this explosive evolution where you attack, you get to evolve into the Dark Tyranitar, and also do a little bit of damage along the way.
All right, well, we're going to take a look at more of these cards throughout the weekend. Be sure to stay tuned. In yesterday's Battle Box battle, Chip was able to get his Grimmsnarl up and running. How is Kyle going to respond? Let's find out. Switch out your opponent's active Pokemon to the bench. Your opponent chooses the new active Pokemon. If you do, this attack does 160 damage to the new active.
Okay.
So you're going to send up the Growlithe, and you're going to put...
let's just count this damage here and make
Oh,
sure.
okay, yeah, I think that's a knockout.
Goodbye, Growlithe.
Yeah,
And I'll get my first prize card.
Okay. Not looking great over here, if I'm being honest, but it's fine. We got something we can do, I'm sure.
Okay. Are you?
No.
Dobra, topka
Let's send
będzie.
the big teeny.
O, tak jakby tych graczy jest,
Don't know if
no.
I'm gonna have to use that again. All right, let's draw a card. Oh boy.
The turn 7 Grimmsnarl is just overwhelming.
To najpierw trzeba je
Yeah, unfortunately it is. All right. What kind of game plan can we have here? I think we're gonna start off with a Latias.
Okay.
Dobra, to
Got
tak.
a couple attacks here.
Włącz
Neither of them particularly impactful at the moment, but I will play Crispin. Ooh, card I'm sure people are familiar with from the standard format.
I did not see that card when we were drafting, so I have to imagine you drafted it as soon as you saw it.
Yes. All right. No, I think this is the first time I've looked through my deck, so I can find out if there's bad news.
Yeah, what's prize?
Ty, to może być ciekawe.
Let's see.
Yeah, pretty easy shortcut is, you know, if you see something while you're drafting that's really good in standard, played in a lot of top tier decks, it's probably pretty powerful here.
Sure, that definitely makes sense.
Okay.
Znaleźć
I'm gonna go and grab 2 different types.
5,
It's like I'm playing a
potem trzeba ją
Dragon Ball.
pomalować.
Where's your Dragapult?
It must be prized. All right. This one in my hand. This one goes here.
Okay.
No to trzeba poczekać.
Go ahead and attach return, retreat, and let's see. I'm gonna do a next level play here. I'm gonna play a Lucky Helmet
Muszę
on my big
zobaczyć,
teeny.
jakie...
That's on the bench.
Yeah,
Nie
I wonder what
wiary.
you're gonna send up if I use Goad and Grab.
we'll find out. I'm gonna use Lagoon Flight for 60 damage.
60
Your turn,
damage.
Chip.
I'll draw for turn.
Our attacks are equally as powerful.
I'll use Kofu to
No,
put 2
będzie
cards from my hand on the
zrobił
bottom of my
dupkę.
deck in any order, and then if I do, I put I draw 4 cards. So I'll put these on the bottom, and I will draw my 4.
All right.
Shocking.
I will evolve Monferno into Infernape.
Turbohead.
Interesting.
It seems decent, and I guess we will go for the Goad and Grab.
I'm gonna send a big teeny.
Sure.
And it'll take however much damage. Yeah. But I will use the effect of the Lucky Helmet and draw 2 cards.
Okay, and I get my prized card. Okay, can't complain about that.
Well, I think at this point I
Tyle
don't have a whole
ciekawe
lot
się
I can
wygląda.
hope for besides just drawing exactly what I need. Let's hope for that.
Robi taka.
I believe in you.
Let's
Chip definitely has 2 of the stronger, I think, stage 2s in play right now in the Battle Box meta, so...
all right. Just need to hope draw all the right stuff. Go Goldeen. Draw. That's a good start.
Okay.
Got the festival. down.
Okay.
Okay.
So that is kind of one of the main pieces of your entire deck, right?
Yeah, that will allow Goldeen to attack twice.
O,
But that's not the Pokemon I'm hoping to attack.
Oh.
Let's.
o, fuck it.
I'm gonna go with the energy on the Goldeen. At this point, I just need to hope I draw what I need. And I'm gonna play the Carmine.
Okay.
Discard my hand. Unfortunately, discarding the Lana's aid, but I'll draw 5 cards.
Nieźle przykipiłem.
Recovery cards like that are usually pretty good in this type of formats.
Yep. And here,
Well, that's
if I don't draw a Seeking or the Thwacky, which let me get the Seeking.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm gonna win.
Okay.
So let's hope for the best here.
Pivotal moment.
One at a time he does. Oh, okay, he found it. Yeah.
We're good. All right.
60.
So thankfully,
po prawej głowie dosłownie.
Latias let me set up the play from the previous turn.
Okay.
And now the Festival lead ability. So if I have Festival Grounds in play, I can use an attack this Pokemon has twice.
Okay.
So I will go with the Rapid Draw. So 60 and draw 2 cards.
Yep.
And then Rapid Draw again, 60 and draw 2 cards.
60 damage 2 times. That puts me up to 180. That is a knockout on
A,
Grimmsnarl.
naprawiałeś
All
się.
right, we didn't get swept.
Grimmsnarl goes down. Okay.
Comeback Kyle? Possible?
It's definitely possible.
Unfortunately, the drawing cards is not optional.
Well, thankfully, you probably have a recovery card in your.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I don't know what I want to send up here, actually. I think I'm going to just send up, I mean,
Po prawy głów.
3 prizes. I think I
Dobra,
can lose a
już wiem.
prize here. I'll send up the
Źle
Ninetales,
połączone, dobra.
and I will draw for turn.
To teraz...
That was a good card to draw. I will use Hassle. I can only use this card if any of my Pokemon were knocked out during my opponent's last turn. Then I get to look at the top 8 cards of my deck and put 3 of them into my hands. The first time I've seen this card the entire game, and it's the only turn in the entire game I would have been able to play it so far.
Aha.
So look at these.
Dobra.
And I think I'm just gonna take get 3 cards. That's a lot of cards. All right, I'll take just those 3. That's all I need. I really clean.
Dobra.
Okay, I will replace your Festival Grounds with my Jamming Tower.
That's fine.
I'll use Pyro Dance to attach a basic fire energy from my hand to one of my Pokemon. I'll put it on the Infernape. I'll attach for turn to Ninetales. And I'll go for Fire Soul for 50 damage, and then I get to put 30 damage on one of your benched Pokemon. And for the 30 on the bench, I will put 30 onto, I think, just, I don't know how much HP Slurpuff has. I have to imagine Raichu has more HP than Slurpuff, so I'm going to put the 30 on
Kada
the
nie znaleźć.
Pikachu?
Yeah, I'll put it on Pikachu.
Właśnie, bo to się okazuje, że to są do tego... Do tej głowy zupełnie elementy, jak zwykle.
Gonna be tough. Well, I did draw Thwacky.
Okay.
It's got the Boom Boom Groove ability.
80.
So once during your turn, if your active Pokemon has the Festival lead ability, which mine happens to, you can search your deck for any card and put it into your hand.
2 cards in your deck right now?
Yeah. Well, I think this will help me decide if the game needs to continue any further. So we'll go ahead and use Boom Boom Groove.
You do have to take one.
I am aware of that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rzęty już to... No.
Let's see. Well, I don't know how much that helps, but we'll find out in a second.
Okay.
Nope, that's not gonna help me. I do have a way to shuffle my hand into my deck.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that card is Lacy, which then makes you draw 8 cards.
Does make you draw 8.
So it does not help me to
A, jeszcze
prevent
znaleźć
decking
numer
out in this
80.
situation.
A, to jest.
Let's see what we can do, though. Not giving up quite yet.
He's looking for any out he can find.
Alright. So I cannot attack with Seeking. If I do, I immediately lose the game. Even though I will get a prize card if I do that. So that part is tempting. I think I just have to retreat Seeking. And let's go ahead and send up the Latias. Yeah. We'll survive one more turn, I guess, potentially. We'll evolve to Raichu.
Jeszcze można jeszcze zrobić challenge z...
It's got a couple attacks.
Czyli
One
prosty.
really funny one that can just damage my own Pokemon at the moment. Collateral bolts, 50 damage to each Pokemon that already has any damage counters on
Kurde,
it.
trzeba
At the
przyznać,
moment
że
is only mine.
oglądanie jak komentatorzy grają to
Probably
jest
not gonna
takie
go with that one.
casualowe
We'll
dalie.
attach to the Raichu, hit you for 60 damage.
60
Go
damage.
ahead.
I'll draw for turn. think I'm just going to Pyro Dance to attach an energy to the Infernape. Could be in trouble if I... Interesting spot here. I think...
If you have a Professor's Research, maybe that's a card you could play.
Oh, really? You think I should play that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good to draw more cards.
I don't think
in
I
the
should
Pokemon
play that.
TCG.
I'm just going to go with the Fire Soul for 50 damage, and I'll put the extra 30 onto... let's put it onto the Seeking.
Sure. Sounds good. Alright. Draw my card. I got a lot of different options here.
You've got your whole deck.
That is true.
Except for those 3 cards.
Yeah. So all the options end up with me losing at the end of the turn. But let's just figure out what the best way to go out is.
Oh, going out on his own terms, this guy.
Yeah. So let's kick it off with the Lacey.
Okay.
So shuffle my hand into my deck.
Smart. This is a smart play.
Then draw 4 cards.
Yeah.
Okay.
Only guys like Kyle can come up with stuff like this.
So you draw 4 cards, but then if your opponent has 3 or fewer prize cards remaining, you draw 8 cards instead.
Feels like normally a pretty powerful supporter in this format.
Yeah. If you draw it at the right time, it's pretty good. So I'll just go ahead and draw 8 cards. 8. There we go.
That is 8.
Oh, unfortunate. Let's see though. Okay, we'll do something cool though. Let's see if I can let you win in 2 ways.
Okej, no niestety jest ten mały problem.
Raichu. I'm gonna play the Power Glass.
Okay.
Which has no effect because of the jamming tower.
Yes, of course.
And then let's use the Collateral Bolts. So 50 damage to each Pokemon that has any damage counters on it.
Okay.
Let's 50, and then this one's not.
Yeah.
So you get a prize
I do
card.
get a prize. Thank you. I appreciate
No
it.
dobra, jak na razie będzie
Can't
bez
use Power
kamerki.
Glass, so go ahead, Jeff.
I'll draw, and I think I'll just pass.
You got 2 knockouts here you can take.
Couldn't take the 2 knockouts, but I'll take the deck out win. I'm fine with it. I'm not a greedy man.
Good game. Well played, Chip.
Yeah, GG's.
You got me in this battle box, but I'll be back next time.
That was a lot of fun. I appreciate
Dobra,
the game, Kyle, and Kenny. Thanks for helping facilitate things for us. If people saw this and thought it seemed fun and they want to check it out, where could they do that?
Yeah, so we're demoing it here this weekend in Portland, of course, and nothing's set in stone yet, but hopefully in the future, more of these regionals, international championships, things like that. So definitely be on the lookout for that if you come to any of our tournaments.
All right, appreciate your time, Kenny. Let's get back to the Pokemon TCG action.
Dobra, no wróćmy już w końcu.
Welcome back in, Pokemon fans, here to our Portland Regional Championships for the trading card game competition. We are whittling things down to our top cut, just finalizing some of those seedings. We'll get the information to you as soon as we have it, but we know there's just a handful of players remaining in this tournament, fighting for a chance to become the regional champion.
No dobra,
Chip
zobaczymy.
Ritchie here in the lounge with Kyle Pukasukovic. We've got Kyle Sablehouse. We've got Ethan
Come
Hegster.
on.
Heggy. Gentlemen, what a day it has been. How are we feeling?
What a day indeed. Yeah, it's been a great tournament so far. We've seen all sorts of crazy stuff. There's a Toadscruel deck still in the running. I think that's kind of been the story of the tournament. We have a
To jest
player
jakiś
going
żart,
for
że
their 4th
ten, nie
regional
dość, że to jest
championship
rok,
victory in a single season.
jeszcze daleko
Lots of
zaszło.
cool stuff going on in this top cut.
Absolutely. So many different unique
To co,
stories that we can
kibicujemy
follow. And there's also
ośmiornicy?
plenty of players as well who are going to be fighting for their first regional championships ever. And Kyle, I know someone that you're really looking out for is our last season's Portland regional champion, John Ang, is in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, that would be an unbelievable story for him. He's been fighting his way back, trying to have this accomplishment once more. He's been watching his friends doing it left and right, and it's his turn again, and it just so happens to be exactly where he did it last year.
When I spoke to him earlier, one of the things he talked about was how he felt like he has not had the strongest of seasons, right? The season's not over. This is the last tournament, one last chance to make a stand and hopefully come away with a victory. Ethan, who are you keeping your eye on here in our top cut?
Like you mentioned, Chow becoming a 4-time regional champion, that would be incredible. You've got Piper as well, who we featured yesterday, one of the few Gardevoir rappeurs in the top cut. And then you have to hope for Toadscruel. I mean, that would be, it's still a couple matches away, because we have such a wide top cut since asymmetric. nothing's set in stone. There's still a lot of work to do, but if that work gets done and if that deck becomes a regional champion, we're going to be talking about that deck for a while.
Well, let's talk about how we got to this point and the decks that these players have had to face throughout this tournament. Starting off with day one of the competition, I don't think there were too many surprises with our meta breakdown.
No
Surprise,
Dragapult,
Dragapult EX is leading the way.
przypominajka.
Gardevoir and Raging Bolt being 2 and 3, I think, is not a shock at all either. Is there anything really that stands out to you here, Puka?
I don't think so. The top 3 decks are pretty much expected. One thing that has fallen off big time recently is the Golden Go EX. You don't see that anywhere on this graphic. It was really popular for a while, but it's really fallen out of the metagame. But yeah, I think things, as we progress through this format, have kind of centralized around these 3 top decks. Of course, there's lots of other great decks you can play, but when you're entering this tournament, you knew it was Dragapult, Gardevoir, Raging Bolt. These are the things you're going to have to worry about.
Yeah, Golden Go's fall off is really kind of interesting. It was the second most popular deck at the Atlanta Regional Championships, the first tournament of this format. Ethan, is there anything that you attribute that fall off to?
The rise of a couple decks you see towards the end here, mainly that EV box deck. That deck has a notoriously super strong matchup. Flareon just usually not a Pokemon that it does big one-hit KO damage, but the math just so perfectly lines up that you can accelerate energies out of your deck and take a one-hit knockout. I think that's definitely a big part of it. And then also just Pikachu EX in general being part of this Joltik box deck. Goldengo doesn't really necessarily have a great way to deal with that Resolute Heart ability. It's great at doing a lot of damage, but dealing with that, a bit tough.
Yeah, we've seen players be putting Vengeful Punch in their Golden Go decks. We've seen Rocky Helmets pop up in things like our Chaladon. Speaking of which, another deck that we haven't really seen too much of since early on in the format. Let's take a look at our... Oh, sorry, go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, I was going to say, and a random thing that just hurts Golden Go is people started playing Genesect, and the Ace Nullifier just stops you from using Energy Search Pro. If they get that down before you play your Ace spec, your deck is just so much worse.
Yeah, whenever the best deck, Dragapult EX, very commonly is playing that card, it can be pretty tough. Let's take a look at day 2 of the tournament here, see how things progressed, our conversion rates. I think it's no surprise once again that Dragapult still continues to be the most popular deck in day 2, but it's not quite to the extremes that we've seen in the past.
Chwileczkę, zobaczę zaraz, ile było ogólnie graczy.
We know as that consistency. Some players have been bouncing around with the idea of how heavy do I want to make my Dusknoir line? Do I want to focus on including this Monkey Dory now? What answers do I need to combat the format? And it's an easily targeted deck, as we've seen with Gardevoir's inclusion of the Lily's Clefairy. So we kind of see it back and forth with people's love for the Dragapult.
And a deck that we see that was on this graph in day 1, not on the graph in day 2, is that Terra box. Now that
ogólnie było graczy Masters 1688, a dostało się jedynie 80. Ile ludzi musiało dropnąć? Naprawdę nie mamy nawet 3-cyfrowej liczby.
You know, it's another deck that started off with so much hype, right? You know, when the format was first introduced in Japan, players were playing the deck in huge volumes, and then when it came to the US, it's kind of fallen off a bit. It's kind of hard to attribute necessarily what that was for necessarily. Raging Bolt coming up more in popularity, probably not the best thing in terms of Terra Box in that matchup. It's just, you know, players understanding how to deal with an oppressive strategy early on and adapting. When you lose bench barrier, a lot of times you kind of feel stranded when Water Ogre Pawn comes in and just snipes Pokemon.
Bench barrier zaraz
How
wróci
to deal with
ogólnie.
that. I think they became a little bit more comfortable. The deck started to fall off a bit.
Oh, how these players are longing for Shaman from Destined Rivals coming very soon, protecting against all those bench sniping attacks. Let's take a look at the standings here for the North American region.
Let's go.
This is the last regional championships of the season. There are still, you know, opportunities to play in local tournaments. There's league cups and challenges. Probably most of these players have filled those things out at this point. There's a couple more major tournaments across the world that some players may be traveling to. And then, of course, it's all going to kind of come down to the North American International Championships. To see who's going to in the top of the leaderboard.
Jeszcze, a to Andrew Hendricks, tylko tutaj jak zawsze zapomnieli dać, ale
Well, not if he wins this one, probably. Yeah, it's, I mean, hard to catch up to somebody who's won 3 regional championships in one season, even tougher for someone who wins a 4th, potentially. But we do have NAIC as well, right? If a couple of these players somehow won NAIC, that's a big boost in points. But you have to think at this point, Henry's just had an incredible season. He deserves to be in that number one
Chyba
spot.
Henry Chow
Yeah,
jest
and the players right
niepokonany,
behind him there
powiedzmy
were
sobie
already
szczerze.
Caleb Rogerson. They're players who have not had
Zresztą są chyba ludzie,
wins
którzy
this season, but their
na 100%
consistency has been incredible. They've
staną.
both traveled far and wide to compete and
Znaczy
have
niektórzy z nich
continued
są
to
nawet z
remain atop the
invite'em, jak
leaderboard.
Lambella,
Yeah, we see with Caleb Rogerson,
Chow,
Michael
czy
Davidson, just this
chociażby
young guard that's
Hendricks.
been moving up. Owen Dalgard as well, Sebastian. There's just some phenomenal young players that consistently find their way into these top cut
no, z tych
opportunities.
jeszcze
I think a few of
invitowanych,
them are going to
które
be
widzę,
featured
jest
as we
Kalkonor,
come across the rest of this tournament as well. But I mean, that consistency we just haven't
chyba
seen
Jan
in
Roch.
such a long time. It's just really refreshing.
Yeah, and a couple of first-year Masters Division players in this top 16 as well. Owen Dalgard, Benjamin Herbert. Those two players have really had super strong finishes, top
Ale
cuts
to
for
jak
both
były
of them throughout
bo
the
też
year.
doszły
Really
zmiany w
difficult
systemie,
to
które
do in this wide field, especially, you know, being only 15, 16 years of age.
Yeah, it's just the game, as we've said, gets harder and harder every single year to progress. And, you know, it's a big question for a lot of these seniors aging up. They had it a lot easier in seniors. I mean, take some of the current year seniors and how consistent they've been. It's been like that for them, I'm sure, as well. When you age up, it's always that big question, can you handle the competition? A lot of players continuously continue to impress us and show us they have what it takes.
And Sebastian Lashmet as well, I do also believe is a first-year master. Another name here that I want to talk about a little bit, Phoenix White, Callie White. That's someone who I think has had one of the best breakout seasons that we've seen in a
O,
while.
czy to jest Kelly White?
For sure,
Tylko,
and
że...
I think Callie is in our top cut here as well, so continuing an excellent season so far.
Aha,
But yeah,
czyli
this list
Kelly
right
White
here,
też
these
jest,
are the
no,
people you're
tylko
seeing
że
at pretty
nazywa
much
Phoenix.
every regional. They're making day two more often than not, so it's not unusual to see their names at the top of the standings at most tournaments. These are the people who are just consistently coming to the events. They're practicing a lot. They're just playing so much. They're at the top of their game. So, I mean, that hard work pays off, right? You see the results.
Yeah, absolutely. What does that look like, Kyle, for these players, you know, to be continuing to put in that work? You know, can you speak to how difficult it is to be able to continue to achieve that consistent level of success?
I mean, for a lot of these players, it's finding a reason to continue to compete. You already got your Worlds invite. You may already have that regional championship, but then what drives you? And they find that passion, that love for the game, that love of the community. They're coaches for some of these younger players too, even though a lot of them are young players themselves. They just find a way to continue to outdo themselves and show how much they love the game.
I do think we have our standings ready for our top
Dobra.
cut. Let's take a look at that bracket and see how things are going to break down and who we're going to be keeping our
Okej,
eye on. You can see a
Michael
couple of players have
Davidson
already
oraz
moved
Christian
on to the
Forten
top 8.
znaleźli się
They
już w
do
top
not have to
8.
play in that asymmetrical
No, mamy
round.
wspomnianą
Christian
Ray
Fontenot
Chen, którą
and
teraz
Michael
mierzy się z
Davidson, two
Calebem
very accomplished
Rogersonem.
players.
Piper Lepkin
Yeah,
z Sebastianem
sorry, go ahead,
Lashmentem.
Ethan.
No, I was just going to point
Conor
out,
Miller
we
z
showed
Taylorem
up that top 16
Winerem,
graphic,
Henry
and
Chow z
there's
Kelly
3 or 4
White'em,
names right here in the running, and
Dominik
most of the other players, they're right
Wola
below that top 16. So much talent in this cut. This
z
is going to be an
Jocelyn
absolute treat.
Molsnate.
Yeah, there's some crazy
John
matchups here.
Eng
Right? You
z
see
Owenem
John Eng, defending
Dalgardem.
Portland regional champion, going up against Owen, and the winner of that is just going to have to go
Ale
straight
tak,
into
no w top
Christian, who's the
8
number
jest
one
już między
seed.
innymi
You
Michael
have Henry Chow
Davidson,
versus Callie, two of
no
the
i
players who we
właśnie
just saw on
Christian
the leaderboard.
Fortent.
You have Piper and
Z tego, co ja widzę.
Sebastian. And one
Czyli
thing I want
mamy
to
już
call out is
pierwszych
that
dwóch
Christian
delikatów
and
od razu
Caleb played in the
wciśniętych w
last
top
round of
8.
Swiss. They were at table number 1. Typically, you could see people like ID because it doesn't really matter at that point. You're already into top cut, but they played it out because the winner would not have to play that first round of the asymmetrical cut. You saw Christian was the winner, and now he just gets a pass into the top 8.
Yeah, it pays off massively there, the decision
Czyli tak,
to
co oznacza to?
play that
Znaczy
extra
wiemy, że
round when
Michael
you could have
Davidson
intentionally drawn,
gardowuar.
gotten into top
Tak
cut. You
swoją
want
drogą.
to avoid playing that asymmetrical
No,
cut if possible.
Eng
And
gra
something to point
pultem
out
z
there as
duchami.
well. Caleb Rogerson on the opposite side of the
Henry
bracket
Chow
from Christian.
oczywiście swoją
If he's
gardą.
able to work his way all the way
Tyle
through, we
gard
could see
będzie
that
tym
rematch
razem.
potentially in the finals. And I do
Może
think
i
one
pół-
name we are all keeping our eye on through this top cut is right down there in the bottom left
Yep.
corner, Ray Chen on the Toad Scroll EX. It has been a long time, I feel like, since we've seen just some total unexpected off-the-wall deck. You know, we've
Ten
seen some
Toad
of them on
Scroll
stream,
to
but it's
już
been a while
jest
since we've seen one make it into top cut at one of these tournaments.
No, ale
I'm just
jeszcze pod
bringing
uwagę, że
myself
jest jeszcze
back to
ten
getting
Baby
angry
Scroll,
with
który był
Gyarados.
grany
It's
nawet
been
przez
about
jakiś
that
czas
long for me since we've had like a
Torsokółczy,
truly
który
shocking
uniemożliwia-
experience, and we're sure enough we have that here. But I mean, look at the path that's laid out for Ray. If she's able to do this, she's going to have to take down some of the best names in the game, but certainly has shown that potential here. And potentially could just shock us even further.
Yeah, and it's a good mix here in this top cut. Some names we're extremely familiar with, of course, Henry Chow and Callie White. That's a massive showdown right in the top 16 round. Piper Lapine versus Sebastian Lachmet, another massive showdown in the top 16 round. But there's also a handful of names that we don't know quite as well. Ray Chen being one of those players, you know, someone who doesn't have tons of top cuts behind their name, but they're able to show up and
że to jest
perform
taki kolejny
extremely
dowód
well.
na to,
Very
że
cool to see.
możesz mieć
Dominic
małe
Viola, I know,
doświadczenie
was
w
the
top
last
cucie.
undefeated
Tak
tournament
zajść wysoko.
player in this tournament as well. He's now made it into top 16, going to be going up against Joseph Moused.
Yeah, and roller coaster ride for Dominic. Started 9-0 and then lost 2 in a row. So 9-0 to 9-2, feeling like you're almost guaranteed to make cut at 9-0. But then you lose 2 matches in a row. But then Dominic was able to rebound and win the final round and kind of squeak back in to the top cut. That would have been extremely devastating to start 9-0 and miss the cut.
Well, imagine not only that, you're 9-2, you think that you're going to miss out, and then your last round opponent won the regional that we just saw in Christian Labella, had to take down the regional champion to get to this point, and now has this top 16 bracket in front of him.
What a showdown it will be. Let's just make some picks here, you know, based on how the bracket is shaping up. Puka, you got any predictions? Who do you think can come out on top?
At this point, I am just guessing with my heart, and that is Ray Chen. You got to root for the Toad Squirrel deck at this point. Unfortunately, she has just a brutal path ahead, right? If you make it through Caleb, then you're going to face off against the winner of Piper and Sebastian, 2 of the top players in the region. If you manage to get past that, you might have to go up against Michael Davidson. All these players who've made it are excellent.
Znaczy, to jest takie największe
tournaments,
powyższe
but that just
zaskoczenie
seems
akurat tej mety,
such a
że
ridiculous
to
path if you're going to make it all the way. But
raczej jest to
hey,
jeden
I'd
z
love to
tych
see it.
których raczej nie spodziewasz się tak
You already
wysoko.
know where I'm at. Mr. John Ang would be phenomenal. He's been on a great run here. He's got so much confidence about himself, and it's rightfully
No ten
deserved
Baby
because
też
he's
chociaż
just
też to
shown
wynika z
time
tego,
and
że
time
też
again
jest chyba
that when
grany
he's
ten
put in
Baby
these pressure
Toad
situations,
Squirrel,
that
jest takim
he's
tekem
gonna
też
give you his best
mniej
Pokemon.
wrednym.
Ethan.
Give me Chow for the 4X. Chow for sure. I mean, he's got a pretty solid bracket lined up. You know, got to get through Cali. That's going to be, you know, probably one of his toughest matchups here. He's got Terrabox to go up ahead. But
Znaczy Piper wiem, że
he's
chyba gra...
guaranteed to Dragapult in
Piper
top
gra
8, and
Gardevoir
then
akurat.
if Christian wins, I think he'd be more than
To
happy to hit a
jest
Raging
moja
Bolt.
wiedza
And on the other
podstawowa.
side, you know, I got to root for Piper. I got a little bit of bias there, but we'll see what happens. I'm hoping Gardevoir goes through. #1 fan right here, so you'll be hearing me chirp a little bit when it comes to Gardevoir.
I think that this could be the tournament for Michael Davidson to get his first win. He's been one of the great young players in the game for the last 2 seasons. This is now, I believe, his 3rd top cut of the year. And in those previous 2 top cuts, he got 2nd place to Caleb Gettimer. He lost in top 8 to Caleb Gettimer. He and Caleb Gettimer played each other once again in a final Swiss round of a previous regionals. Caleb won that game as well. But at this event, Michael Davidson and Caleb Gettimer played each other in day 1 of Swiss, and Michael Davidson was finally able to defeat his Titan, take down Caleb Gettimer in that matchup. So he's got that riding behind him, and he's already into top 8 as well. A huge boost not having to play in that top 16 ASIM round. Give me Michael Davidson.
Well, it's Gardevoir one way or another, right? So we'll see exactly what happens. A lot of wide variety of decks, and this is sort of what it comes back to every time. You know, we get towards the end of the format. It's one of our last events. Sure, you know, the standard is here, right? We see Raging Bolt, we see Dragapult, we see Gardevoir, but still, the rest of the decks, the best of the rest, a nice wide variety. It's going to be a great cut.
Can't wait to see how things will shape up. Another nice thing here is that there is a lot of variety in our top cut. You know, sure, there's plenty of Dragapult, plenty of Gardevoir. We've talked plenty as well about the Toad Squirrel EX, but we got Raging Bolts in the mix. Some interesting omissions, though. There's no Joltik Box. That's a pretty popular deck. We don't see that represented in our top cut, I don't believe.
I don't think so. I don't know if there were any of the Eevee.
We have a Eevee mirror in top 16, I think. I think that's the Connor matchup that was going to happen as well. So that'd be fun.
Yeah, there's a couple Terrabox decks as well. So yeah, there's a pretty good variety. Not every single deck, but I mean, there's so many strong decks right now. We weren't going to see all of them, but it's a pretty good mix.
I mean, we've had our fair share of tournaments where 50% of cut is Dragapult, or 50% is Gardevoir as well. And it may still be one of those 2 decks to take everything down. I think they have to probably be the favorite at this point, just based on their history, how strong they are, but also the players that have chosen to play it for this weekend. It's going to be really exciting to see. We're getting everything set up. We'll hopefully get into that first top 16 match very, very soon. Is there any of those top 16 matchups that any of you gentlemen are most excited to keep your eye on?
I mean, I'll say it again. Ray Chen versus Caleb. I mean, just want to see Toad Scroll again. I think one thing to keep in mind is there's a lot on the line here, right? We look at this and it's just like a bracket, and you look through like, oh, they're going to win, they're going to win. There's a lot of prize money on the line. There's a lot of points on the line. One of these players may not have enough championship points to be invited to the World Championships. They could just win the event and get an automatic invitation to the World Championship. So this is really high stakes, right? You've made it to this stage. You just got to win a couple more times. You win the whole tournament and take down a major accomplishment.
Yeah, when it comes to the matchups, I'm honestly interested to watch the EV Toolbox mirror. That's something we talked about backstage, and I'm just trying to think about how that would even work in my head. You could get aggressive with the Flareon, but then you could see the Angelite with the Sylveon come in and just remove Pokemon left and right. It could be an
Otwieram
absolute
zależność
slobber
od
knocker.
tego
It'd be so fun to
dyscyplinarnego
watch. So I'm a little biased there.
Yeah, and I'm, on the technical side. Gardevoir versus Dragapult, it's a little bit of more of a boring matchup, but it's still probably the closest matchup in standard. It can go a lot of different ways. You've got, on paper, it seems, Gardevoir's always there, right? Lily's Clefairy means one-hit KOs on Pokemon. You've got the healing against Phantom Dive from Monkey Dory. But then you sort of add in some of the technicalities, right? The Badoo, the Unfair Stamp, the aggression early on of Dragapult, and it becomes a really cool matchup back and forth. So I'm interested to see when we have two great pilots playing two great decks, how that clash goes. There's going to be a few of those in this top cut, I'm sure.
Very excited to see how things will play out, and I do believe we are ready to get into our first top cut match. Let's get into the caster booth. Emily and Adam, take it away.
Thank you so much, Chip and Pals, for that amazing Top Cut pre-show. They really set the stage for what is on the line here in Portland, and I can't wait to get down to business.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I think the lounge honestly covered everything I wanted to talk about with the way that there is, once again, a myriad of decks out there. There's Toad Scroll, there's 100 storylines. I mean, you gotta talk about it. Raging Bolt with Pecharunt's EX in the top spot, piloted by regional champion over in Europe, Christian Fontenot here. So we have players from all over the world. We have decks from all over the tier list, some decks that weren't even on a tier list. So I'm excited to see where this one goes. And honestly, Adam, Mr. Kyle Sablehouse alluded to it earlier. There's going to be an EV mirror, and we're actually going to see it.
The EV Mirror. Now, Flareon EX is a deck that I picked. I know that it has so much utility with that Angelite into Dragapult. That was its original claim to fame. We saw it on stream at a previous regional, and that's really, I think, the tournament that put it on everybody's radar, and a lot of players have really put a lot of time and energy into practicing the list. And so to see two make it into this asymmetrical top cut, I'm not that surprised, but it's unfortunate that only one of them can advance now.
Yeah, here's the thing, right? We've seen how the EVs kind of counter all of the popular decks within the meta, but how do you counter yourself, right? I mean, there are going to be some two very clear differences between these lists, though, and it's actually down to the EV that they choose, right? And it's going to be down to that evolution here. So I'm going to spoil it for you all just a little bit. It is going to be Taylor Whalen playing the Umbreon EX, where it got one of its first kind of showings at Melbourne last week, piloted by Michael Bio, who got 11th place. And that Umbreon is technically in there to try and even up your Gardevoir matchup a little bit more with that Moon Mirage, where you're able to hit for weakness there. So one person is playing it, the other one isn't. But once again, how do you counter yourself?
That is a great question. It's not just about finding the right attacker, because this EV box is a toolbox deck in the truest sense of the word. You want to use the right attacker for the right matchup, for the right moment. I think it's going to be, I hate to say it, based on vibes.
Okay.
Kind of based on
We've
the
been doing
quality
vibes
of your
all weekend, Adam.
hand, based on what your opponent's first turn is looking like, if you want to go aggressive with Flareon or maybe go defensive. I love that EV box also makes use of Terapagos, which is just a solid attacker into any situation, because there's so many areas here under depth style decks in the metagame that there's going to be plenty of benched Pokemon. Unified Beatdown is going to be hitting like a truck no matter what. Even if you don't get your Area 0 set up, which is one of the big downsides of running Terapagos, having to sacrifice a knocked out in order to find that stadium, etc. if your opponent puts one in play, you're more than happy to strike back with your unified beatdown.
And honestly, once again, because we're seeing the mirror, that doesn't mean that the lists are even remotely the same.
Very true.
It's down to supporters that are different. One is playing a Kieran, one is playing a Brock, some aren't playing other key supporters, one is playing a Judge, for example. So it really is kind of that toolbox, and you can really arrange the deck to be however you want to. I think most famously, Ian Robb has been really kind of championing this deck to where it's just really flexible. But it brings us back down to the question, Adam, how are you flexible versus yourself?
And that is going to be the big question, certainly, where our players are still getting into position. And before we get down to the brass tacks, I do want to remind our folks at home that you can tune into these special events on Twitch. This is our weekly lineup. We got some OG Pokemon episodes, some reruns of NAIC. That's always great to relive those memories from really big tournaments. And these special championships are also coming up in Bologna.
Yeah, absolutely. I know for me, I need to watch something while I eat dinner type of person. So I know for me, I'm usually watching some of the old reruns of the old Pokemon animation. And God, you just love going back and seeing it all kind of unfold. It's just really fun. But of course, once again, the season technically isn't over for Europe just yet. Just like we have Portland as the final regional of the season. They have the Bologna Special Championships happening this weekend. I know for me, I will be waking up at a prime 4:30 in the morning to be watching that in my
Really that early? Ugh.
Yep, but still, I just love watching Pokemon, and if you love watching Pokemon here too, just because we're not at a regional during the week, it means that you can still watch.
Yeah, if you're a true fan, you're going to go to bed early and wake up early to see the best players slug it out across the pond. And I love so much, right, when we have an event over here, right before there's an event over in EU, how is that going to shift the metagame?
Yeah.
Because not only does EU kind of look at all of the way the tournaments all over the globe are playing out, but they're also going based on their own preferences. We know that over in Europe, they have their own style of decks that they like to play, stuff you typically don't see over here.
Yeah, absolutely. It really goes to show, right? Something like, for example, like Dragapult Charizard is very popular in Europe, right? And we've only seen a handful of players playing it over here too. But I do believe we have the call that our match is going to be ready here. And like I said a little bit earlier, Kyle alluded to it too. The Eevee Mirror, like how many times are we going for Angelite this term just to thwart the setup here? But it is going to be Connor Miller versus Taylor Whalen here.
czyli
What's going to
Taylor
be fun as we
Whalen.
look at the accomplishments
Chyba
here.
se żartujecie,
Taylor's
że
having
będzie
an
mirror?
awesome season here so far. Look at all
Conor ma
these
tylko na
day twos
koncie
within
no,
this one season.
164 w
And that's what you want to
Sacramento,
see.
zaś
And
Taylor
when you have a
Whalen ma
flexible deck like this,
na
it makes
koncie
sense
dużo
you're going to
więcej, czyli
be able to make consistent deep
30,
runs in
56
tournaments.
AC,
Connor Miller, meanwhile, looking to
top
put a
120
little bit more
Antonio,
accolades on that record,
też
but
również
if you ask
ale
me,
top
has made the right
120
deck choice, and that is
no,
the
poszedł
prime
dalej.
factor
Chociaż co
for taking
ciekawe,
it
mamy
all the way
tutaj
to a
mirror
tournament of this caliber.
Eevee
Now,
boxów.
for Eevee Box, you're looking to counter the mirror match. Excuse
co,
me,
jak
you're
to
looking to
będzie
counter the
wyglądać?
meta. So
Yeah.
maybe they
Chyba się
haven't really
napierdalać
accounted
z
for the
Zidane,
mirror
czy
match.
będziemy
I
się
don't
po
know if anyone
prostu
ever has
Floriana
really. We'll
napieprzać?
see.
Just maybe stick to your level 1 game plan. What if I set up Flareon and just start attacking
No i oczywiście
you,
klasyk,
using
notesik.
Noctowl? Just going by best practices might be the way to go. Sometimes players get lost in the sauce trying to overthink the matchup, and this might come down to just pure fundamentals.
To jest ciekawe, że
Absolutely,
wstawiono
but we
ich
are getting ready to
takim-
go as the prize cards are being sent out. Some
I don't
tragic
like this
things
card.
that
Aha,
we're
Sparking Crystal
seeing.
po
But
stronie
Adam,
Taylora
I am so
sprajzowana.
excited to get into the top cut of the last North
ten
American
będziesz
regional
Jolty
of
tam
this
jest?
season, starting off
Że jest
with an
elektryczna,
amazing
czy
match,
Pikachu
amazing matchup.
będzie?
But man, you pointed it out early. That
ale
Sparkling
nie chcę, że
Crystal
to będzie
plus the
mirror
EVEX,
boxów.
that hurts.
Yeah, having the
Boxów,
big
ja nie mogę.
EX that isn't going to get knocked out easily and early so you can evolve into the evolution of your choosing is so important for this deck, and the Sparkling Crystal is important so that you can be aggressive. It gives you so much options for the attacker that you need to use at this point. Every player is going to go into the game saying, I want to use this attacker, but if you don't have the right energies, because some are in the prize cards, if you don't have your Sparkling Crystal, you end up having to use whatever is available. And if that doesn't line up with the board state at hand, it could spell doom.
No
But
jest to
both
mirror
players,
oczywiście Eevee Box.
unsurprisingly, starting with Eevee in the active
No,
spot.
ciekawiej
This
być
one
już
is
nie
going to be
można.
fun as it is going to be Connor starting us off here. And you know what's funny, Adam? It's the same colorful friends EV2. We'll talk about that attack a little bit soon, but you
Rzeczywiście
can't
to
ask
będę
for a better
wyróżniać.
start when you have a turn 1 buddy poppin where we're going to be able to find our fan rotom, our hoot hoot, and then we get to our
Yes,
opening
no, I can
prize
do
check
it.
here. So once again, Connor is going to be the
Stand
player
up,
as we go through this
Simeon.
opening prize check here that is playing this Umbreon EX here. You know, that designated Gardevoir counter. We can
Aha,
also
oboje
get into
grają
some
jeszcze, co
of the
ciekawe, to
weakness, I
Eevee,
suppose, too.
które mają
That works
Colorful
just the way
Friends.
it does. But let's look. We have tons of energy available. This is exactly what we want. And I do believe that the Eevees just want to go first so they can go on ahead and start doing their Noctowl stuff. Turn two.
And Fan Call also being employed, grabbing Hoot Hoot, grabbing Noctowl. Second Hoot Hoot's usually the pickup here off of Fan Call, but is considering
Znaczy,
maybe
czy
second
Poland
Noctowl,
raczej nie
maybe
będzie.
another Eevee for the
Ale
bench.
jest
So there are a few
jest,
more colorless
no,
Pokemon
just
in this deck that
Eevee
take up
dużym
slots for your
boostem.
opening Fan Call. You have to be very precise with this deck. I've seen so many Eevee box games come down to, oops, I attached this energy to the wrong Pokemon 2 turns ago and now I can't attack.
Absolutely. Well, it's
Aha,
one
jest i ta
key thing that we
Eevee z
cannot
tego
forget
premium
as we
boxa.
did yesterday. You have to have a Terra Pokemon
A ten to ma
on
trochę
your bench
kasy.
in order to
Very
use
true.
Jewel Seeker, just
Znaczy
as a
skromne
reminder.
osiągnięcie,
So
ale
this nest
no,
ball that
też chyba
Connor
było
is going to play is
Nestballu,
going to
który
go on
też jest
ahead
trochę
and grab
stary.
that
Widać, że raczej
EVE
mamy
X
tu
here.
osobę, która
And
raczej
honestly,
nie
we
gra
have
od
a
wczoraj.
great hand, great board turn one. We're all online here. We're even going to bench the
Bażant.
Pheasantipity preemptively as well. We'll see where the
No,
lightning
preferuję
energy will
oczywiście.
go. I would love to have it just be on that active just in case. And here comes the pass on over to
Huh.
Taylor.
Both players are setting up to be
Okej, no tak,
a
to
for a
jest- to
slower
jest
game. So, you know,
Miro.
the Pheasantipity being placed down early
Dobra,
seems a bit
przybierz
odd. This
Co?
could just be a bait. Yeah, if you want to bring up Pheasantipity and knock it out, just
Marion.
guarantees that I keep my EVEX, and then I get so many attackers set up, maybe I run the game back from there. And if you take an early knockout, maybe with Assault Landing, for example,
znaleźć-
onto Eevee,
znaleźć
I'm
trzy
going to draw
różnice
3 cards
dosłownie.
and try to swing back that way. So I love that Connor is not afraid to put this Pheasantipity down early. Meanwhile, over on Taylor's side, going for the opening deck search after this nest ball and seeing that the EVEX and the Sparkling Crystal are in the prize cards.
Yeah, absolutely. A very key card
No,
here,
that
of course, in this deck that fills all energy requirements,
I
right?
więcej czasami.
Standardly, between all types of EV boxes, no matter which way that you like to run, 9 energy seems to be kind of the bare minimum that we can play, right? Because the moment you start prizing energy, that Carnelian's going to get hard to do multiple times over and over. But
Co,
Taylor
to
writing
będzie
down in her
mreo?
prizes that she does not have access to Sparkling Crystal. But it's super important that you go on ahead, you take note of what you have available, and if it's anything, Adam, it comes down to, I believe in this deck, the most resource management.
And if you have picked up this deck early, if you've been playing it for a while, then you've put in the reps. And I know that to take it all the way here in the Portland Regional Championships, we're going to see the sequencing be on point. Nestball picks up
Znajdźcie
Fan Rotom,
będzie
and
różnice
Fan Call is searching
dosłownie.
through the deck for the classic Toot Hoot Hoots and an Eevee also being picked up. There's one Noctowl in the prizes as well, but both players are on 4-4 counts.
No dobra,
So I'm
przepraszam,
interested
no ten
here,
gra
Adam, because I
elektryczne.
think after when you go second in this matchup, it's really, hey, I know that my opponent already has Noctowls in hand. Do we just throw the Iono down and then we go for Colorful Friends next turn, or are we going to guarantee that we still have an Owl? But once again, that hesitation on
Cenowo, no,
attaching the water energy, saying, you know what, hey, it's just the fact
Okej,
that I know
czyli
which
Colorful
evolution
Friends
I want to
używamy,
evolve
czyli
into. But here comes Colorful Friends.
3 oczywiście
Search your deck
Pokemony
for up to
o
3
różnych
Pokemon of different
typach.
types, reveal them and put them into your hands. Now, you
Ciekawe,
might
czy
think
idziemy
that
w
might be
stronę
such a silly
sprzątaczki?
attack here, but look at what we're grabbing, Adam. We're grabbing Pheasantipity EX, we're grabbing Flareon EX as well. We could also grab this Terrapodos as it is colorless too,
Yeah,
but
that's
look
a-
at what we just
Aha,
got.
Terrapagos.
Ooh, and the Noctowl. I love this. You can use the Fan Call to grab Hoot Hoots and Eevee, but then Colorful Friends lets you still get that Noctowl.
Się na nie gra na
Beautifully
Iono.
done. And don't forget that Taylor does need to get a Terra Pokemon. Next turn, will evolve into Flareon EX to fulfill that requirement and then start going for Jewel Seeker.
Dobra,
Jewel
czy
Seeker
zagrałem
here, Connor with
spaczki?
the draw for turn is going to be able to
Zagrałem
start
ze
using
sprzątaczką?
his Noctowl here with Jewel Seeker to see what exactly the line is going to be. Once again, the key differences in Connor's list, now both lists are playing Briar here, so it's always really important to kind of note that out. But Connor is playing a Professor Turo scenario, a Kieran as well, and a lot of Crispins, right? This deck requires its energy
Jeszcze chcę
acceleration
znaleźć
as
trzy
quickly
różnice
as
dosłownie.
possible here, so I'm interested to see what he's
Tym,
going to pick
a
up.
tym.
You want to guarantee the EV you want, you can absolutely grab this Terra Orb, as all of the EVs that he plays in this deck are actually Terra Pokemon as well.
Yeah, it's a perfect way to just thin one more card out of the deck, put that extra in between step.
No,
Crispin also being looked at to power up an Evolution. Area Zero Underdepths also being looked at. And you've talked about it many times, Emily. The thing about these toolbox style deck, these Terra box style decks, is there's so many options available at so many different times. And Connor opts for Iono. I love this idea. Saw that the Noctowl was grabbed, is not only going to try to go aggressive this turn, but couple it with some disruption, so maybe Taylor Whalen cannot respond properly to this attack.
Yeah, I'm thinking we probably evolve the active into Flareon EX, go for this Burning Charge Iono combo here that would be deadly. This is kind of why I was asking if Taylor was going to play the Iono for next turn, but instead it's going to be the Crispin here on Connor's side, because once again, Burning Charge, for those of you who missed last rotation, is kind of the Trinity Charge of this format, and we're going to be able to cycle these energies onto our Pokemon here. How it's going to go down, but I think we could absolutely attach the water energy and have turn 2 Carnelian ready to go, but I think the Burning Charge and getting our attackers ready to go is even a better option, especially when we could also Cruel Arrow, technically, if you want to get a little spicy like that.
There is, when you have attacks like this that have the ability to widely attach energy kind of wherever you like, it opens up so many possibilities for strange plays and niche plays. And it's something that one of our competitors and casters, Pablo Meza, talks about so much, is your ability to flex into incredibly obscure lines
Taylor
in
musi
high-pressure situations in order to achieve victory. But after the Burning Charge resolves, all the energy is going on to EVEX to get the next attacker up and running. It looks like Connor Miller's opting for a straightforward Flareon EX approach.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a great card here. But looking on over into Taylor's hand, we do have an Eevee on the bench, so we can evolve into Flareon, so we can use that Jewel Seeker here. But we know exactly what we have in hand, right? Just from that Colorful Friends, we got that Pheasantipity as well, anticipating that Connor was going to take the first prize here. And honestly, if we're able to find something like a Carnelian this turn, it would definitely be in our favor, but you can't do that with Sparkling Crystals prize.
No to zobaczymy, co tam jest. Miu, jest to Briar. Briar akurat nie jest potrzebna.
Briar and Area Zero Underdepths, but we gotta go a little bit further, and this is a really hard Pokemon to take out.
Najpierw może wywolujmy najpierw tak Flareon, dobra aktywność jest tutaj, bo zanim użyjemy Sowy, najpierw Klafery, Miu,
and with the expanded bench, Taylor also decides to bench Lily's Clefairy EX and Mew EX.
We could be seeing something along the lines, Adam, of a Jewel Seeker
Sowa.
evolve.
Znaczy wiemy, że kryształ został sprajzowany, unfortunately.
See a Lily's Clefairy EX attack with the Full Moon Rondo.
Okay.
Require a little bit of math here. I think we may need 1 or 2 more Pokemon on the bench to be able to respond here. But once again, Lily's Clefairy EX is a very flexible card. I think a lot of the times people just think about it as okay, we'll just we will just completely counter Raging Bolt and we'll completely counter something like a Dragapult, but it's actually a really great attacker into these large
No, trochę nie doceniamy działania z Clefairy.
Right, for the Full Moon Rondo to fully knock out the Flareon EX. Crispin and Buddy Poffin are grabbed, and it seems that is going to be the line of play.
What's going to happen here? We gotta
Kolejna
guarantee
Sowa,
okay.
Another Noctowl.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me here, right? I mean, you get the golden, I call Mew EX plus Pheasantipity EX, what I like to call the golden combo, right? Like, if you're Iono to 1, you're going to be able to draw a lot of cards to get yourself back into it, but it looks like it is going to be thinking about the nest ball here, maybe something like a Latios wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. We do also have that Buddy Poffin in hand that if we want to start to grab more hoots because managing resources, including managing your Jewel Seekers, is very key here, Adam.
And after the nest ball, after searching all of these cards, Taylor is getting the pieces in place. Latios EX is a pickup here. I'd like to see one more Hoot especially, but Terrapago's EX seems to be the proper pickup instead.
Still going to use that Buddy Poffin again for another Hoot here. Now, in comparison to something like Raging Bolt that does run the 3-3 line of the Hoot Hoots and the Noctowls here, the EV box is always going to run 4. So here we go, Lily's Clefairy EX heading into the active position, and we will be finding Crispin that does allow for us to attack our energy and get going here. And with psychic energy available to us, this just seems like the proper response.
Yeah, so this is enough to knock out Flareon EX. Both of these energies attached to the active, and a Hoot Hoot waiting in the wings to evolve into Noctowl and keep the Jewel Seeker momentum up. Even though Lily's Clefairy has a lower HP count, getting a big knockout like this is huge. Connor Miller has the next EVEX prepped and ready to go with all of the energy attached, but when you're swinging back into Lily's Clefairy EX, we'll have to see how the prize trade resolves, because right now Connor Miller is on odd prizes. After taking just a single prize knockout, this does open you up to Briar towards the end of the game.
Well, it's not going to be too hard for Connor to get a return knockout here, just because of the fact that Lily's Clefairy EX only has a measly 190 hit points here. We are going to be using that Area 0 underdepths to bench our own Lily's Clefairy here, so I wouldn't even mind Adam finding a little bit of, you know, just back and forth action with just going for Crispin and Full Moon Rondo. That seems okay.
And Super Rod's also going to put Eevee and Flareon back in the deck alongside another Fire Energy. And I think this is the full, you know, just letting everybody know Connor Miller just relying on Flareon, Flareon, Flareon. Just go for the aggressive attacks, the consistent attacks. Try to force some sort of 2-2-2 prize race as best as you can. Maybe try to use Briar to get that comeback win if it comes down to it. Taylor is the one that's been using a much wider variety of attackers and benched Pokemon, so we'll see which one of these players whiffs on their response first. The evolution of EVEX into Flareon EX, as we all predicted, means that Connor Miller's attack is ready to go. Carnelian can knock out Lily's Clefairy very easily.
And honestly, I really like us attacking with the Flareon EX too, because we know we're not benching all the way through if we are Connor here, but Connor going to draw into the Latias here. Always love a good support Pokemon, and the Psychic Energy. We'll see what Taylor's hand gives her here, but we're definitely going to be seeing a knockout right now. I want to see the response.
Yeah, once you get the Iono down, you love disrupting your opponent's hand, but you know they're going to draw 3 off because Divinity EX isn't as guaranteed. But this is Connor just trying to prevent a Noctowl as much as possible. There's not any energy in play, so the chance of Taylor being able to respond appropriately does go down significantly. We want to see another Crispin, maybe Night Stretcher, something to bring Clefairy back. I believe there should be one more Psychic Energy still left to use Full Moon Rondo. And the starting hand now after the Iono is looking pretty decent. We still get 3 more off of Flip the Script, and that could change this right around.
Absolutely. We need a way to accelerate energy out of. That is the name of the game here. Now, once again, it's the same archetype, but 2 very different lists here. Connor is currently playing, if I were to just check real quickly, he's playing a Glass Trumpet in this deck, where we're going to be able to take an energy card out of this discard pile and attach it to one of our benched Terra Pokemon. This could be a really great way to start powering up Terrapagos EX as well. It does scale off of bench size, but the problem is we gotta find a little bit more here. So it is going to be Festivity, Flip the Script, draw 3 cards, if any of your Pokemon are knocked out. And honestly, I
and the
like what we're hitting.
Up. Lovely.
Yeah, we not only hit the Noctowl, we've also hit the Counter Catcher as well. So what we could do is we could Noctowl for something like, we could Noctowl for maybe just a little bit more energy acceleration, and Counter Catcher the Lily's Clefairy EX, something along those lines.
I like the idea of taking out that Clefairy before it's able to get a good attack off. It's a pretty easy swing, right, with just 190 HP.
Crispin na Terrapagosie.
Active right now is a free retreat, so we still have a lot of utility about what needs to be used here.
Dobra, nie użyję już, no bo...
Picking up Crispin, the energy acceleration that is needed, and what would the other card be?
I mean, you've been alluding to it.
Ja nie widzę różnicy między tymi deckami, powiem szczerze.
Sparkling Crystal, this hurts, right? Like, we want to go on in and just Carnelian right back, right? But we can't right now. It has to be, if we want to at least swing this turn, it has to be this Terrapagos, and it's not enough just yet to really do anything to this active Flareon that we know is going to get the return knockout coming back, it might just have to be onto this Lily
Okej, czyli będziemy mieli atakować Terapagosy.
This is great too, because people weren't used to seeing this
Znaczy,
at first, setting up unified beatdown without a double color.
zapełnić męcze nie trzeba, przecież to jest tej... A, jeszcze lecimy na... No bo teraz już nie ma double turbo, więc teraz powinien walić 210. Idealnie.
But not necessarily a knocked owl to make use of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Pheasantipity is also
Powinien
a
walić
very
na
fair
styk.
target. In fact, probably the better target in between both of them here. But
No,
just
tylko
doing a
tyle,
little
że
bit of a count,
Conor
we want
użyje
to
Briar.
push its maximum capacity for the hit. We can just go on ahead and bench one more Pokemon, but we will not here.
The math checks
No, jest
out,
kryształ.
and crystals added to the hand.
There we go. That could be huge next turn. If we're able to find another counter catcher along these lines and keep pushing on, we could use that Lily's
Okej, ja nie wiem, czy on nie będzie szukał Briar czasem. Tak, nie, będzie Briar, będzie Briar. Na pewno będzie Briar. Tak, będzie Briar. Na pewno będzie Briar, no bo Taylor ma równe prizy, więc pierwszą rundę wygrywa Color Miller. Tak. Tak to jest, jak się idzie 2-2 i potem... No... Swoją drogą, Conor ma taką samą Briar jak ja. Też mam taką.
And just had to hope that the knocked owl was not there. Searches out the Briar, perfectly closes out game one, and it seems that Conor's instinct to just go aggressive with Flareon might actually be the way to
Boss
play this
nawet nie
game.
był potrzebny. No, Briar jest ciężka w użyciu, ale tutaj została ona użyta dobrze.
In what has been a very interesting match so far with two very different lists, but the game plan all the same. Energy acceleration, a bunch of Carnelian, unified beatdown, but a Briar to end it all.
Właśnie ten kryształ boli, tak? Więc tak, Color Miller prowadzi 1-0. Przepiękny na Briar. Nie wiem, czy damy radę obejrzeć to 8.
But while the players are getting set up for game number 2, we do have some updates
Aha.
on the field. Caleb Rogerson defeats Ray Chen.
Caleb Rogerson jest w top 8 i Owen Delgard prowadzi.
But Owen Delgard is currently up 1-0 against John Ang, a player who's trying to
Czyli
reclaim another
w topkacie nie zobaczymy, niestety w top 8 nie będzie. Tort Cruella. No, również widzę Piper Lepin prowadzi i Joseph Mousen 1-0. Widzę Cyrano. Po stronie trailera niestety jest rough, bo nie ma żadnych słów. Więc jest ouch. Za to po stronie Millera jest tu dużo lepiej. Mamy Bady Puffin po sobie wiatraczek. A to zaznaczy, że wiatraczek można użyć tylko w pierwszej. To jest bardzo istotne. Widzę, że ta postać jest rough, jak to się mówi. Dla słodkiego słowa jest free retreat. I mean, the Terra Orb being prized, not my favorite. Only one Flareon, but these lists tend to play two. One Noctowl, not too bad. The Counter Catcher as well in there, and the Night Stretcher and the Ultra Ball. Nothing too bad, though, as Connor is going to be able to start filling the bench with all the Pokemon he needs.
Hoot Hoot and Van Rotem are grabbed from the Buddy Poffin, and now Eevee also picked up with Hoot Hoot and a Noctowl, it seems to be, off of the Fan Call. Being able to use the Buddy Poffin into Fan Call is great. Because you're using the early colorless Pokemon,
czy tutaj ładuje... No, problem tutaj polega na tym, że nie mamy na tyle dużo Kiedy Pokemonów, żeby no, one-shotować, no bo co, tam jest Latias za 30, Sad. Sraczek. Tak, Fenro to ma już nie użyję, bo on działa tylko w pierwszej. To jest Sad.
I would like the Latias into the retreat, maybe attach the Eevee, and then we go for some colorful friends, if you will, and start grabbing those Pokemon out of the deck, one of each different type here. And it would be a nice way to kind of support our Noctowls next turn, because then we don't have to burn things like Ultra Ball that's already inside the hand, Adam.
That is a
Zejść po
great line of play.
sprzątaczkę.
There's one Psychic Energy in the hand, and two are in the deck. Yeah, the other one is still in the deck, so Lily's Clefairy remains online, even if you do commit here. And Colorful Friends to find those pieces is really, I gotta say, forcing Connor to extend very heavily into an Iono to shuffle all those important cards and pieces back into the deck. So I don't know if it is going to be Colorful Friends. You like to see as many cards as possible. So if you go for it, I wouldn't blame you, but the Iono is just going to punish regardless.
Aha, czyli będzie attach do małego Eevee i pas.
But it is going to be just the pass here. Do see a couple of cards, but there
No,
he is.
ale widzę, że wciąż jest Rof.
We don't have a Hoot down. We can't knock Towel.
Znaczy jest Cyrano.
We have the Terapagos, but we're missing
Czyli jest
other
jakaś
pieces here. I think
deska ratunkowa.
it is going to just be the Cyrano to thin the deck. Maybe grab that EVEX as we take a look on into Taylor's prizes.
No
as
dobra,
well.
no Iono nie ma,
It is
ale
going to be
widzę,
just
że mamy za
one
to
line, one Hoot, one Noctowl, a
Cyrano.
Lightning and a Psychic, one Buddy Poffin and a Boss's Orders. Nothing too detrimental, but as I've learned, we definitely do not want to be prizing too many of our energy. We're already only playing 9 as is.
Yeah, not only is that going to shrink the amount of attackers that you can use when the
Sytuacyjne, ale lepsze to niż
but sometimes you just need
nic,
some
jak to się
fodder energy
mówi.
to fill the colorless energy costs of a few different attacks. So after Cyrano grabs 3 EX
Takie-
Pokemon and the deck is shuffled up, Taylor Whalen still finds herself without any Hoots in play. So this Terapagos is going to have to do some heavy lifting. Is there enough possibilities for filling up the bench? Maybe Unified Beatdown can take down the Rainbow DNA EVEX.
I don't even know if we're going to get there, Adam. I'll be honest with you. I'm honestly looking at Connor's hand over
No dobra,
on
no mamy
the
tego
right
Cyrano,
side,
no
where
wziął
I
se Mew,
potentially
wziął
see
se
even
Eevee
something like an
i
Angel
wziął
Light
Feza.
next turn if we just thwart
Co,
the
wstawimy
setup
wszystko?
completely here. But we did
Dalej będę
grab
tutaj.
our Area Zero under depth
Jest.
because there's Terra Pokemon in play on both sides.
No i co,
We go
klawery
on
jeszcze.
ahead and fill this bench all the way through.
Czyli staramy się...
Taylor, she just wants to
Widać, że
be
chłop
able to
stara
find
się
some help, right? So
tyle
we're gonna just leave it all to
może.
a Mew restart of 1.
Czy-
Hopefully find a nest
No dobra,
ball for a
restart
Hoot
będzie.
Hoot, try and get something on the board here. Let's see what this one card is. It's a night
Stretcher.
stretcher. It's not going to do much for us here.
Okay, double check. There's only one Cyrano in that discard pile. No Pokemon to get back from the Night Stretcher. So even with the bench and the energy attached for
No dobra, ale
Terapagos,
mamy
the Unified
nawet.
Beatdown isn't going to be enough.
No, no sojusz liczy, widzę ile. No chłopie, masz 5. Co daje nam 150. Mojej matematyki. 150 to nie jest zbyt dużo, żeby zszotować.
Might be okay for now, but we still do have access to Noctowl
Okej,
here.
chyba już widzisz,
Are
że
going to promote
nie ma.
our Lily's Clefairy EX and pass it on over to Connor.
There's no good Pokemon to promote there. You need the Latias to
Znaczy,
remain
że
flexible with your
150 to
attackers
nie
when the time
wystarczy,
comes.
żeby
You need to
zszotować.
keep Mew because you still need the
Ale
potential
zawsze
of restart to see a couple cards. You can't sacrifice the Eevee
ponad
because you're going to
Miller.
need Flareon. So Lily's Clefairy ends up being the weakest link
No,
and
za
comes
to
into the
kolor
active
Miller
spot.
wykorzystuje
Connor
Wika.
Miller, meanwhile, was potentially, right, with that Psychic Energy attachment, setting up for a Sylveon idea, but now after seeing Taylor's response, might pivot directly back into Flareon EX and just start knocking on the door.
Chłop tu patrzy.
Here's the thing, we also do
Co
have
on ma?
Terapagos EX in hand as well, so if we are able to fill up the bench a little bit more, we could Unified Beatdown potentially for this knockout here. We are grabbing a Crispin here. I'm interested to see what the second card
Co,
is going to
Crispin
be.
i
It is
Ultra
just going
Ball?
to be this Ultra Ball as well. And here's the thing about any type of deck that uses Jewel Seeker, the turn never feels over, Adam. You're always going back and forth within the turn here,
No,
as it is going to be the Area
no,
Zero
daj
underdepths
taki
and
Ultra
the
Ball.
Psychic Energy hitting the discard.
Leci
I do
Flareon,
believe
tak?
Glass Trumpet is in
Będzie
hand,
to
so we could go
sprzątaczka
on ahead and
Angelik. Nie,
do
Flareon.
something like the
Coś
Glass
tam
Trumpet
przynajmniej.
when we get that Terapagos down and power it up, kind of see secretly too, but it is just going to be this Crispin. We
No,
might
no
just be
i też
going straight for
kryształ.
Carnelian, Adam.
Yeah, this is just a solid turn
Nie, no,
using
no
the
przecież
Sparkling
mamy w
Crystal
ogóle
and Crispin to
chillera.
get 2 energies down, take out the Lilies Clefairy, jump ahead in the prize cards. You've got the Eevee waiting in the wings. This isn't the best thing in the world, right? With the Psychic Energy kind of just
Taylor
hanging
może
out
teraz jeszcze
there.
lecieć na
Especially with
Fezanski.
Sparkling Crystal being attached to the Flareon, you can't then try to pivot this into a quick Sylveon. But with Terapagos also finding some space on the bench right before the attack is announced,
Tak,
the
no
Glass
i tutaj
Trumpet
wchodzi ten
keeping this
kameleon.
aggressive
Chyba
momentum
z czego co
forward
w
seems to be Connor
następnej
Miller's
turze nie może
idea.
chyba
Now
użyć
it's back
tego
over to
ataku.
Taylor. Mew EX is promoted into the active spot and has access to flip the script to draw 3 more. Van Rotom coming up very late to the party. Night Treacher can get Lilies Clefairy back when the time comes, but
Okay,
Taylor's just
Rotomek.
focusing on filling up the bench as much as possible to fuel unified beatdown.
Yeah, and here's the thing, right? We can restart for
Mew.
1 here,
No najpierw
but
Mew,
we gotta
tak?
find a little bit more, right? We can scale all the way up to
Jest mroczna. Okej,
240,
jest
I
jakaś
believe,
różnica
but
w
we
tym
gotta find
jaka-
something like a counter catcher, either
Taka
onto
mroczna.
Terapagos or for Latias here as we flip the script. Well, we're
No dobra,
starting
jest
to
w
get our
końcu
resources,
pierwszy
Adam. They're just a
hut.
little too
Hurra!
late, right?
Mhm.
We're gonna be able to at least bench a Hoot Hoot. We have the Noctowl in hand for next turn, and we do have Crispin. We could attack with the Lilies Clefairy if we wanted to, but it's a matter of once again, it comes down to the resources.
You have the attackers, but you also have to find the right targets. You need to
A, i
leave
ten
something into the
nagrasta.
active spot.
Jakaś
If that
różnica.
is Lilies Clefairy EX
Czyli
with
to
only 190
mroczna.
HP, you know that
Mag-
Pokemon is
Oj,
going to go down,
Umbreon.
and you need Terapagos to also be able to take over
Tak,
for
oczywiście
that
Taylor musi
shift once
policzyć
Lilies
ławkę,
Clefairy
żeby
clocks
właśnie
out.
upewnić się
Well,
na
it is
ten...
going to be
Rozumiem,
the
to
Crispin
znowu
onto
szutów.
the Lilies Clefairy, and with both benches full and through one more card, I
Dobra,
think
jest-
we will
jest-
be
jest-
able to
jest
actually hit the
psychiczne na
numbers that we
szczęście.
need to here. And you could see that Taylor was counting up the math as well. Math is hard, folks. So don't feel too bad about having to count
Tak.
because these
O,
players at the top
Umbreon.
of this tournament
Faktycznie,
are
no
counting
jest
along
Umbreon.
with you.
Czy ja
And I
dobrze
remember
myślę?
when Ross,
jestem
one of our casters
Umbreon.
from the EU side, had his incredibly strange way that he calculates rondo math. But yeah, it's 260, 280 right now, so it does line up against the Flareon EX.
And honestly, we're going to be taking a lot of energy off the board here. We're essentially invalidating Sparkling Crystal as well. But Adam, as I'm saying that, I'm really wondering if the Eevee
Okay,
Mirror
czyli mamy
is really just
jakieś
kind of this
na-
2-2-2 prize trade, right? Like we talked about,
Lily
Lilies
też miała,
Clefairy
nie.
is, pretty light on the hit points. We could easily see a Noctowl next turn for something like a
Chyba to
Crispin,
myślałam
finding a
roczna
way
do
to fill the
Umbreona.
bench with Pheasantipity. So if we find Jewel Seeker, we could find Crispin Nestball, and then we can respond right away
No,
here.
widzę,
Now,
że Taylor
granted,
już
I
wychodzi
do think
trochę z
Taylor has the
tego
upper
torfowiska.
kind of the upper
No tak.
hand here
O,
with
i
having another attacker on
liczymy.
board, but it will be that full moon rondo here, getting Taylor just down to 2 prize cards. Boss's orders in hand. That's huge.
Yeah, the Flareon goes down, losing Sparking Crystal, but with Glass Trumpet, their response does seem to be available. Glass Trumpet does attach energy from the discard pile directly to your colorless Pokemon. There we go. And so now Terapagos will be
raczej
able to
chyba
find
wywalisz
its
sobie.
target to respond to Lilies
Okej,
Clefairy,
mamy tu
but now
oczywiście,
we're seeing the
trąbkę.
inverse of what happened in the first game.
Posunę
Connor Miller's
Millera.
the one that's going down to 2 prize cards
Nie
remaining
wiem, czy też
potentially.
u Taylora widziałem trąbkę, bo
It's
tak
going
jakby
to be
tutaj
interesting
sobie
because we have the
znaczy,
Iono
nie?
in hand. We could just pitch
Ultra
a,
Ball?
or we had,
Ma to sens,
I
Counter
thought we
Catcher
had Iono
nie
in
jest
hand. It
aktywny.
is just going to be the Ultra
Chyba
Ball
idziemy
here.
po co
It
pójdzie.
has to be the Pheasantipity, right? We have to see a little bit more
Skibidi.
cards, but it is going to be this Noctowl to grab the Nest Ball, probably grab a
tutaj
little
jeszcze
bit of
przy
hand
Millera
disruption
jest
here too.
Judge.
We have to find an upper edge here.
Yeah, the Hoot Hoot was finally set up. Taylor had gotten off to an incredibly slow start, but now that you've built up some momentum for yourself, having the Hoot Hoot and the threat of Noctowl and Jewel Seeker to find the perfect card you need to respond to your opponent means that if Connor Miller wants to stay in this game, Iono has to come through and maybe disrupt a little bit of that. So after Ultra Ball picks up Noctowl, Jewel Seeker activates. Remember, Terapagos is still in play, so that does allow Jewel Seeker to resolve.
Co Nest
Is
Ball
going to look
powiał?
through the deck now. Nest Ball for Pheasantipity,
Mhm.
and I wonder if you pick up the Iono now, or maybe try to draw off the Pheasantipity, but the world is your oyster. Connor Miller has tons of options, which is always par for the
Czy
course
może
for
być
these
tak,
Noctowl
że
engine decks.
Iono po
This is
prostu?
such a scary turn because we're eyeing up Crispin.
Nest
And we know
Ball,
all that Taylor
okej.
needs to do is bench another Pokemon, and then we'll be able to hit enough on our own Terapagos
Nice
EX to
ball
knock out our
professor.
opposing
Co ten-
Terapagos EX. And I think
co
that's the
pomimo.
struggle here, right? We can guarantee the energy to get it going here, but it is going to be the hand disruption instead of Iono. It will
Okay.
be Judge here. I really like this play just a
Dobra.
little bit more, just because we
Miu.
want to go on ahead and use all of our options available to us. But instead of the Pheasantipity, we are going to be
Czyli
grabbing the
nie-
Mew
nie
EX here. So we're
bierzemy
going to restart
Skidana,
for
tylko
2
Mew.
cards. Then hopefully we find an energy off of Judge.
No, Judge może być
I
bardziej
wonder if this
nieprzewidywalny.
is just
wygląda.
slightly
Fajno.
more efficient mathematically. You're drawing 2 cards here, and you're going to judge anyway, shuffling the deck. Maybe you pick up a way to pick up the Pheasantipity. Or if Connor has to choose between putting Mew EX and Pheasantipity, 2 very weak 2-prize Pokemon, into play, maybe Mew is just the more attractive option because of genome hacking. If you're going to be leaning into Terapagos,
Dobra,
and
czyli
then you
wchodzi
need
Judge.
another attacker of some variety to close out the game, you might as well grab Mew EX at this stage.
Well, it is going to be the restart into 2
Jest
more
sędzią.
supporters,
Ojej.
the last thing that Connor wanted to see. So it is just going to be the Judge. Both players are going to shuffle their hands into the decks and draw 4 cards each. So there goes that boss's orders that Taylor had. We'll see what exactly this is going to give her, but she has a full Hoot Hoot locked, loaded, ready to go.
And it is important to note the Glass Trumpet attached to the Eevee, did attach to the Terapagos.
Sylveon?
Sylveon EX is picked
Is
up off
Wanda?
of the Judge. Now, even though Sparkling Crystal is down, you can still get that final manual attachment, but is going to go for the
Chyba
Terapagos
Sylveona budujemy,
instead.
tak?
The Sylveon is more for when you're very far ahead or you're trying to bully your opponent while they're setting up. Now that they've come to blows, the Terapagos has to be the one that's promoted to the active spot to use Unified Beatdown
Zabieramy w tego
and respond
Sylveona?
to the Clefairy.
Czy
This is
odpuszczamy?
so scary here. We absolutely find what
Bo
we
widzę,
need
że nie
out of,
wiemy.
but it's at the cost of leaving this Terapagos EX up and ready to go. And honestly, all Taylor needs to do is just fill the bench a little bit more to do so. There is the Ultra Ball here. We could get all the way down to what we need. There is also a counter catcher in play here. To have 4 prizes, we could potentially take out the Mew EX easily, but it's a matter of where do we go after this knockout here? I really would love to see something along the lines of using the Iono back, sending Connor to 2 prize cards. I mean, there's a Hoot Hoot available, but we gotta stop all this
Trzeba
draw if
pomyśleć, co
possible.
on chce.
And that Mew is looking like a pretty good target, don't you think?
Yeah, Connor Miller has kind of set up the board as best he can, and taking out the Mew makes so much sense. You know that this is the final attacker that Connor can lean into if Terapagos goes down, and once the bench starts to get more limited, the chances of fueling that next Unified Beatdown to hit the proper attack points is very low.
It's hard to say too, because if you take out the Mew, the Terapagos EX is also perfectly loaded and ready to go as well. There's so many routes, and I think that's the beauty of all of these Jewel Seeker decks, in particular Terrabox and Eeveebox, is that there's routes. We're going to use the Ultra Ball to throw away the counter catcher because Terapagos and a Terra Pokemon are in play. Can go on ahead and grab 2 more trainer cards here. So we'll see what we're going to grab. Definitely that Buddy Buddy Poffin. It's a pretty easy pull when you want to get more owls lined up, potentially for your next turn here, but we got to see what's going to happen. We can definitely hit this Terapagos EX, but I mean, what comes after? And that is the big question.
Yeah, Super Rod is being eyed, maybe to get a bunch of energy down. This late into the game, you need to start recovering energy, you need to start recovering Pokemon. Sparkling Crystal can also be picked up. I like this idea. This gives Taylor a little bit more utility with the Eevee. Both players have to preemptively set up their final attacker while trying to respond to what their opponent is doing here in the mid-game. And after the Buddy Buddy Poffin picking up 2 Hoots, the bench is full, and Unified Beatdown is gonna beat down.
Absolutely. It's just so scary here because it's going to come down to an Iono. And I think you said this yesterday. Does the Iono prophecy kind of prove true when your Iono just gives your opponent what they need? It's honestly, Connor can hit this 240 or 230, excuse me, pretty easily if we're able to find the right pieces of the puzzle here. But here we go. There's going to be that Iono. Only 1 card here as Connor's going to shuffle up this hand and draw 2 cards here. Taylor going to get 4. It all comes down to this.
2 big cards, maybe a way to find Pheasantipity after this knockout. He's going to get 1 natural draw for turn. Maybe he can lean into restart on Mew EX. But But here comes Taylor Whalen with attach return onto Eevee, double checking the numbers, double checking the sizes of both benches, and after the item, he's finally going to go for flip the script to see 3 more cards. I completely forgot to talk about this Pokemon's ability. So all of the options are now being utilized for the finale of this second game.
Is going to be Terrapagos EX brought up into the active and a unified beatdown to take out the only powered up full attacker on Connor's board here. We'll see how it is going to go down, but it's just looking a little bit interesting as here we go. And it's also important to note here too, Adam, the only Terra Pokemon was taken off the board. Therefore, Connor had to thin the deck or thin the board down to only 4 Pokemon.
So Latias EX is promoted, Mew EX is still remaining on the bench. Didn't evolve the Eevee into Sylveon. I think that Connor Miller has been really babying this Eevee, trying to just attach energies here and there when he can to maybe evolve this into a Flareon EX when the time comes. Losing out on a couple Pokemon means that unified beatdown is a little bit off the table now, but there could still be some option for maybe a Gust, maybe genome hacking comes through. But Sparkling Crystal, you have to remember as well, folks, is also down. Connor Miller's ability to respond to this Terrapagos is very stunted.
We're evolving into Noctowl, and I'm assuming the trainer cards that we are going to be seeing are Nest Ball, just to grab our Pheasantipity and hopefully draw into a Terra Pokemon from there. That's kind of the key thing here, right, Adam? If we're able to draw into Pheasantipity, get a Terra Pokemon, and then we're able to find a way to grab Lily's Clefairy EX and the Crispin even, something like that.
A lot of stuff has to line up, certainly. So Pheasantipity is the pick off of Ultra Ball to draw 3 from Flip the Script. After restart, also draws 3.
Best combo in the game. Feels pretty good. I mean, you get to see 6 cards. Can we piece it all together? This is a huge turn here for Connor. It could mean going on into this top 8. There's the Nest Ball, but there's no Terra Pokemon. We have to go on ahead and find the Pheasantipity. We can't extend. Yep, there you go. Once again, no Terra Pokemon in play. We don't have that guarantee. So it all comes down to this Pheasantipity right here, folks. Here we go. 3 cards, but no Terra Pokemon in play. Has the Lily's Clefairy. Could be the Brock.
So it's Brock scouting.
Yep.
Can find Flareon. Is there another Flareon still in the deck?
Yeah, but we don't have the energy right requirement for it, Adam. That's the tough part here. We only have that Sylveon that we've alluded to. We don't have a way of powering things up, and if we use Brock, we can't use that energy acceleration with Crispin.
So it's going to be Brock to grab Sylveon EX. This does put a Terra Pokemon in play, so Nest Ball can grab another Pokemon. And Terrapagos EX is just waiting in the active spot to take these remaining 2 prizes. Connor Miller can try to promote a single prize Pokemon, but without the use of Crispin, Lily's Clefairy cannot attack this turn.
You know what can, though? Doesn't want to risk it, but there was Magical Charm available. We could have had a little bit of a less damage output from the other side, but there it is.
Boss's
orders onto Pheasantipity, and it will be Taylor Whalen finding her way through and taking us through a game 3 in a tight cincher. Now, Adam, I have to pose to you, each player won their game going first. Is going first the key to just winning this entire matchup?
I do like that idea, right? If you're going second, if you're going for Colorful Friends, it's a great setup. You're nice and greedy with it if you want to go for that line. But going first, I think it's just mostly the fact that if you've got Fan Call, you have so many more options. And even after the start of that game, it looked pretty doomed. But Connor just wasn't able to keep his momentum up. Got the Flareon with Sparkling Crystal established just to take down the Clefairy's EX, which was great. But I think that utilizing the Sparkling Crystal so early like this really came back to haunt him because you lost out on the ability to keep your energy accelerated properly. Having a Psychic Energy on that Eevee meant that it becoming a Flareon was really off the table for all of the game. And then it was just the battle of Terrapagos, the secondary and tertiary attackers of the list going toe-to-toe.
Yeah, absolutely. A really masterful showing from Taylor as well. We always have to remember, guys, it's just a matter of counting and using all of your attackers, right? Lily's Clefairy EX, such a great attacker, coming in clutch too. Also with Terrapagos, EX as well. This deck has a variety of attackers outside of just your Flareon
widzę,
here
że
too.
Piper
But
lepiej
here's some live
wygrywa.
updates from the field. It's going to be
No i
Piper
Owen
Lapine defeating
Delgard.
Sebastian Lashmet 2-0
Gra
and
na
Owen
Jonenka.
Dalgard
Wow.
taking down the last year's Portland Regional
to
champion
poszło na
John
Owena, no
Eng.
i
Owen
Piper.
Dalgard, a huge win for him. Hope we get to see him soon.
Now, Callie White is currently ahead versus Henry Chow, and Joseph Masaid and Dominic Viola are currently
widzę,
tied. But
że
we are in game 3, folks.
Kelly
In
White
game number 1,
prowadzi.
Connor Miller demonstrated that an aggressive Flareon strategy can be the way to victory, and Taylor Whalen responded in game 2, showing us that Terapagos and Lilies Clefairy are not attackers that are to be underestimated. Pheasantipity EX in the active for Connor Miller, and also is able to bench Eevee. Now, after an Ultra Ball, discarding boss's orders, and I believe that's a switch.
I believe so too.
And yeah, just gonna look through the deck now for Fan Rotom, get the fan call, very classic start. And Connor Miller, as he showed in game number 1, isn't afraid to have Pheasantipity down early and often.
Honestly, I'm looking at the prizes right now, Adam, and I'm seeing a couple key tech cards that we have within this list, right? The one-of copy of Glass Trumpet, right, that we can use to accelerate, but the one-of copy of Terra Orb as well. A lot of players gravitate towards this card within their EV decks just because you don't have to, you know, use an entire Ultra Ball to get what you need here. So it's very important to note out. Sylveon being in the prizes, not too crazy when you do play another one. A couple of Nest Balls too. And we've seen, though, how crucial Nest Ball is in a matchup like this, where we want to scale the bench